The story begins in the world of monsters, exactly on the continent of Arcana where the demon castle is located. At this time, the demon king Barrio's Belphegor known as Shin was sitting on his throne while they were discussing with his minions. According to his subordinate, their next agenda is to burn Hell, a place located in the Rustbell area. While they were discussing, someone screamed, saying they were in danger. It was a tiny octopus named Octoper. Octoper was sweating and seemed to be scared. He wanted to explain what really had happened outside the castle, but he was stuttering. Shin looked at him with annoyance and asked him if he wanted to die. What kind of disrespect? What is it? The demon king's subordinate asked. He is Luke Liberta, ranked 4th in the demon world. Octoper was trembling in fear and was finally able to tell the king that human warriors had invaded their demon castle. Shin becomes silent while Luke says that Octoper maybe lost his mind for saying such words and barging into this room because of some measly humans. What's Nardak doing? Shin asked, and Octoper feels down as he answers the demon king that Nardak was already defeated by humans. Not just Nardak but also their other members named Kane, Sven, and Nardak's whole army. As per Octoper, the human warriors have successfully breached through and are moving at breakneck speed toward the demon castle. Shin still dared to smile and said that it had been a while since humans dared to enter his castle. Then, shall we take a look at who these punks are? He uttered while casting a magic ball to see the human warriors who invaded his castle. But then, upon seeing a familiar human, he suddenly paused and became silent. Luke suddenly walked on the aisle and told Octoper to lead the way. I will deal with this myself, Luke uttered. But then, Shin seemed to be nervous, telling Luke to tell the humans that he was not in his castle right now. Upon hearing what he said, Octoper and Luke were puzzled. Shin stood while Luke was asking him where he was going. But then, Shin didn't give any direct answer and only told Luke, if you dare to harm them in any way, I'll personally kill you. He then opened a portal and left. There's also a notepad dropped after he disappeared. Luke picked it up and there was an instruction to put this note on the door. Luke checked the other note and he doesn't have the choice but to follow the demon king. He put the notes on their castle door and the human warriors saw it. It was stated on the note that the demon king is currently absent, so human warriors should come back next time. A lady in the middle, wearing a red cape, saw the note, and at the same time, Luke saw her and was shocked, wondering why this lady, the demon king's daughter, was now here in the demon castle. A long time ago, Demon King Shin got curious about something. Every time they invaded the human world, people would do everything for their children, promise to protect them, and even offer their own life for the sake of their kids. Because of the Demon King's curiosity, he even asked for the opinion of Luke. He asked if most living beings value their own lives the most, and why those humans act in a contradictory way. Luke also agreed with him, but then he wondered if it's necessary for them to understand those lowly beings. Shin then replied that it would be much easier for them to conquer the human world if they understood human behavior. Luke was surprised to hear these words from the Demon King himself. Sometime after that conversation between Luke and Shin, Luke left to do research and came back right after. He entered the room of Shin with excitement and said that he conducted research on humans. But then, he doesn't have the time to explain it upon seeing Shin holding a baby girl. Shockingly, it was a human. The baby was crying loudly and Luke asked the king about what's this tiny thing in his arms. According to Shin, he found it in the human king's castle. He also said that the baby was crying for a long time and he wondered why. He asked the opinion of Luke, but even Luke was also clueless. Shin then madly ordered him to do whatever he could to stop the baby from crying. Luke panicked as he answered yes and immediately cast his magical flame in front of the baby who was lying in a crib. But then, he cancelled the flame when Shin slammed him on the floor, asking him what he was doing. But your majesty, most humans become silent when they're burnt. Luke answered. He then stood as he heard Shin commanding him to go and figure out the reason for all the crying of the baby. Luke checked the books inside the room while Shin was trying to calm the baby. Luke was throwing away all the books that were useless until he finally found a book with the title, How to Become the Best Dad in the World. He and Shin started reading it and they have found several reasons why babies cry. After seeing these reasons, Shin then decided to check everything. The first is checking if the baby already has wet pants. But upon checking, the baby's diaper is still clean. Shin then used his magic as he decided to eliminate the wet pants problem in the future. He teleports all foreign matter away and then moves to the next reason, which is the baby might be hungry. Luke immediately prepared a meal, which is their usual meal, fresh meat from a Blake Drake that Luke had just killed. Shin was glad that Luke was prepared, but when they tried to give the meat to the baby, she stopped crying as she was startled and loudly cried again. Shin immediately moved the meat away from the baby while Luke read the book and found out that babies drink from the breast. He immediately grabbed the baby and let her sip to his breast. Upon seeing what he did, Shin became more annoyed and ordered Luke to find a feeding bottle. Luckily, Luke had it in an instant. Shin was glad despite the fact that he didn't know any reason why Luke had this thing with him. He then carried the baby and let her sip from the bottle. Still, the baby refused to drink the milk and spit it out. Luke then tried the next way, which was his sleeping magic. He cast it and tried it on the baby, but unfortunately, the baby resisted his spell. Shin then told him to stop trying to spark a rivalry with a baby. They tried another way, not just one but a lot of ways, but it only made the baby more sad and cried a lot. She was crying so loud while both Shin and Luke felt tired trying to find ways. At that time, Shin realizes how parenting works. It hurts his head so much while thinking what should be the reason for this baby crying unstoppable. When he stood and went back to the baby suddenly smiled widely. Shin then found another way he believed would surely work. It was a peekaboo. At first, the baby was confused, but Shin continued doing it and tried to dance the baby. The baby was enjoying it until she felt sleepy. Finally, the baby slept in the arms of Shin. And just like that, he, a demon king, became the dad of a human baby girl. Years passed, and Shin's one of his routines was to go to the human world, exactly at the church to pick up his daughter. His daughter was taught by the priests in the church together with the other kids. One day, Shin entered the church, and the moment the door opened, his daughter immediately turned around, expecting that it was him. Shin instantly smiled every time he heard the kid call him daddy. He opened his arms to ask the child to hug him. He called his daughter his princess and he asked her if she missed him. His daughter would always answer yes, but would also say she understood since she believed her father had a job to attend to. With the little girl's thoughtfulness, Shin becomes touched and hugs his daughter and even imagines quitting his title as the Demon King. "I feel indebted to you each time I go on a business trip," Shin said to the priest. The priest then told him not to worry at all and also stated that Selene, his daughter, is always welcome to the search since she's a good and smart kid. At that time, Selene already had a clear understanding, so she was very proud of himself every time the priests complimented her. After talking to the priest, Selene and Shin had planned to eat pasta as Selene's reward for being a good daughter. Shin was about to hold hands with his daughter and told her they should head back home, but his daughter said no since there's still a thing they would always do before leaving the church. That is to pray to Tirsa, the goddess of generosity and mercy. Shin doesn't have a choice but to do what his daughter wants. But he cannot believe he, the Demon King, is praying to the god of heaven. While the priest and Selene were praying, they noticed that Shin was silent, so they looked at Shin and Shin immediately followed the words of prayer. Hearing him pray makes the priest and Selene very happy. All of a sudden, someone reported that there was a danger coming. To be exact, there is a demon outside the church. The church was confused about how it happened since he was sure he put a barrier using divine power. Shin felt the guilt since he was the culprit, the one who destroyed the barrier. He got rid of it as it annoys him. The demon is a boar and is heading inside the church. The head priest then instructed everyone to evacuate to the underground chapel. The human rattled and the boar had entered before they could run away. "You weak humans, your attempt to escape is quite amusing," the boar uttered, but he was cut off upon seeing someone familiar inside the church. It's none other than the ruler of the demon world, the Demon King, Shin. As he was staring at the Demon King, he saw the clear aura of the Demon King and he questioned himself the reason why the king was inside the church together with some other people. The people continued running away while Shin and his daughter remained standing. Shin was expressionless, wondering why the boar was also here. As he was staring at the boar, he felt that his daughter was trembling. He looked at his daughter and saw the little girl very frightened, which annoyed him. "Are you scared?" he asked while wiping Selene's tears. He then told Selene that they should now play a game together. Selene wondered about what game they should play in this kind of time, and as per Shin, she just needed to count numbers with her eyes closed until he would tell her to stop. He promised that the boar would fall asleep if Selene didn't make a mistake. He chose the word asleep knowing that his daughter would think of him as a criminal if he said he would kill it. He then bumped his head into Selene's head and told her to trust her. Selene said yes with clenched fists, and immediately closed her eyes and started to count. While she was counting, Shin walked away from her and went in front of the boar. The boar was scared the moment it saw Shin activate his power. Shin then pushed away the boar with his ability and the boar flew away back to the outside of the church. Upon seeing his strength, the people who witnessed what he did were jaw-dropping. At the same time, Selene had reached 4 and Shin told her to stop. Shin then showed his daughter the dead boar and Selene was impressed while saying that the boar really fell asleep. "What did I tell you? Isn't your dad amazing?" Shin said, and Selene then answered that he was the best daddy. Upon hearing it, Shin feels that his heart was pierced, causing critical damage that makes him vomit blood. He then invited his daughter to go back home, but then Selene got curious as to why there was blood coming out of his mouth. But before Shin could answer, people behind them called him and asked if he was a hero. Shin was confused knowing that he wasn't a hero but a demon king. On the other hand, Selene was surprised and seemed to wish that her father would answer yes. At this young age, she already knew that heroes protect those weak and defeat the bad villains. She also explained to her dad that it was the priest who taught them about heroes and that heroes are strong apostles of justice. Shin at that time didn't know what to say. He was sweating as he answered, "I guess so." Selene repeated the question, which pressures Shin to end the conversation about heroes. He then answered yes and loudly said, "This dad of yours is a hero of justice." Hero Shin. The priests were all surprised as they could not believe there was a hero with them. They said that they had heard the name Hero Shin before, but they didn't know Shin only made it up. And that's how he was named as Shin in this story. Selene called him to say that she also wants to become a hero like her father Shin. Shin was dumbfounded as he didn't know what he would do if that happened, knowing that he was the Demon King. After Selene said those words, she immediately ran to her father and hugged him tight while saying that she loved him the most in the entire world. Shin was emotional. He grabbed Selene's shoulder and said that he also loved her the most in the entire world. He widely smiles at his daughter as he feels thrilled since he never expected to be attached to a daughter like Selene. Selene then also said that there are two things she hates the most in the entire world. Shin asked her what it could be and she looked at her father's eyes the same as Shin to her. Shin then heard his daughter's answer, stating that she hates those liars and also the Demon King. Selene then pushed Shin on the floor and she stood in front of her father while clenching her fists. "Aren't you both of them, Dad? So don't be too heartbroken. It's only fair that you die by my hands because I'm a hero," she said. Shin screamed after hearing it, but then he found himself in his room, so he concluded he was just dreaming. Upon hearing his scream, Luke then came to him and asked if he was fine or perhaps if he was worried about something. But then, Shin only told him to wear some clothes to look presentable. After a few seconds, he cannot hold himself but to ask the opinion of Luke about heroes. Luke laughed and said that heroes are foolish bastards who don't even know their plans. But before he could say more, Shin punched him in the face and said, "How dare you look down on my daughter's dream?" The punch was too strong, which made Luke fall on the floor and feel like his soul came out from his body. He cannot believe that the Demon King suddenly punched him without any valid reason. Shin then apologized to him and reasoned that his hands moved on their own. His daughter then suddenly entered and called him. Shin got very excited, pushing away Luke and running to Selene with a wide smile. He tried to hug Selene, but Selene was so curious about what happened to Luke. "Why is Mr. Lulu lying over there?" she asked, and Shin then commanded Luke to get up. Luke got up and was about to greet the kid, but he got ignored since Selene told her dad that she scolded some bad kids outside for hurting her cat. Luke was so upset by the fact that he got ignored again. Selene then proudly said that she would try even harder to become an amazing hero. For Shin, he knew he could not stop his daughter's dream, so he told her to do what she wished to become. At the same time, Luke had for the first time discovered that Selene wanted to become a hero. He then thinks of a reason why, then deduces that it may be because the Demon King would plant the little girl as a spy among the other heroes to gather information. "I have been enlightened, Your Majesty, I mean Master. I will personally train the young miss and raise her to become a brilliant hero," he stated, but then Shin ordered him to leave. They both then went to the demon castle together to discuss the case. Luke got a lump on his head as he was punished by Shin for acting recklessly. Luke kneeled in front of Shin and admitted his mistakes. Shin then told him to forget about it, but instead, think of the right measures. A way to make his daughter give up on her dream to become a hero. Luke then said that it might be better if they would leave things as they are. A dream is nothing more than a dream, and there are very few humans who are reborn as heroes. He added, but then, Shin doesn't want to let his daughter be a hero and become his enemy one day. Because of the determination of Selene, she helped those in need. She helped an old man by removing a huge rock in the way. She also caught a huge insect without knowing that it wasn't a monster. The fortune teller even said that Selene has the face of a true hero. Everything Selene had done at her age made Shin believe that Selene really fit to become a hero since her talent was on another level. That time, he decided to stop his daughter from becoming a hero no matter what. He and Luke were thinking of a way, and Luke suggested wiping out all of humanity as he believed that if it happened, the concept of heroes will naturally disappear. Do you also want to naturally disappear? Suggest something sensible and useful. Shin replied. Luke then checked the books inside, searching for a useful one while complaining about why the Demon King hates only him. He was throwing the book behind and there was a book landed below Shin. Shin picked it up and brought the book into the human world, exactly to their house. It was already night, the sleep time of Selene. Shin was holding the book and asked the kid if she wanted him to read a book before going to sleep. Selene asked if the story is all about heroes, and yes, she was right. The book had the title, Collection of Hero Stories. Once upon a time, there lived a hero in a village, and that hero died. But the villagers lived happily ever after even without the hero. And that's how the story ends. As expected, Selene doesn't like how the story goes, so she demands another story. Shin then read another story, and it goes like this. Once upon a time, there lived a hero. The hero heard a rumor about an evil demon king and went to the demon king's castle. The hero defeated the demon king. The people rejoiced and the hero became the king. But the hero who had become the king made life difficult for people by exploiting them and showing unruly behavior. But one day, another demon king showed up and defeated the hero. That demon king became the new king and helped the people find peace again. Still, Selene didn't like the story and told her father to stop reading the book anymore, instead saying something about himself. She was very curious to know more about her dad since he said he was a strong hero. Shin then said that he was really a strong hero. Selene then asked if he had already met the demon king, and he answered he did. Selene becomes excited to hear more and he asks her father if he ever fought against the demon king. And Shin replied yes. Who is stronger, the demon king or you? Selene asked, but Shin flinched as he didn't know how to answer it anymore. In the end, he told Selene to always remember that her dad is really strong, but the demon king is much stronger. Selene becomes disappointed, which makes Shin sad. He then told the little girl not to meet the demon king since the demon king is a very strong being. But then, Selene said that she would do everything to become stronger and avenge his father. Shin was speechless as he could not imagine that his lovable daughter would be his enemy someday. He told Selene that there was no need for revenge, but then Selene told him to trust her. In the end, his plan of making Selene change her mind by telling her stories about heroes is a complete failure. When Shin left his daughter's room, Selene then opened her diary and noted everything that happened. She said in her diary that her dad read her stories about heroes, but it made absolutely no sense. She also put in her diary that she asked her dad instead to say something about himself and only said that the demon king was too strong for him to defeat. And with that, she thinks her father is afraid of the demon king. That's why she told him that she'd become even stronger and defeat the demon king. Her father cried that she thought tears of joy after saying it, and she was so happy too. From that day, she made up her mind to become a great warrior for her father. She then closed her diary. She then fell asleep and Shin went back to her room and was shocked to read her diary for the day. After a few days during the night, Shin checked his daughter in the living room. Selene was busy doing something and said that it was done the moment Shin entered. She then turned around and told her dad to look at what she made. Shin checked it out, but then, it was only Selene's plan to become a hero someday. The first thing is to do something good every day. The second thing is to study for an hour every day. And third is to train stamina every day. Selene proudly told her dad that this was her plan to become a hero, and she would start her training the day after. She then ran to her room to sleep since she was too excited for her training. At that time, Shin becomes mad. He teleported to the demon castle and blamed Luke for failing his task to stop Selene. As per Luke, they had made 43 attempts in total and failed 43 times. Shin then said angrily that he would not tolerate failure on the 44th attempt. Because of his anger, he attacked Luke but intentionally never hit him. Luke was trembling in fear while Shin walked away, ordering Luke to arrange an immediate meeting with the top demons and make sure to summon all heads. The next day in the morning, Selene woke up too early. She instantly remembers her planned training, so she immediately gets up to prepare. Shin and the top demons had another plan to stop Selene. All their preparations are complete. All that is left is to execute the plan. After half an hour, Selene finished everything and was ready to leave. She was biting bread while informing her father that she was leaving to do some good deeds. Shin permitted her, but as she opened the door, she was surprised as she saw something unusual. The commander of the Demon Army's 5th Corps, the commander general of the Demon Army's Special Force, the commander of the Demon Army's 3rd Corps, the commander general of the Demonic Beast Training Corps, and the head of Succubi were at the human world doing good stuff to people who need help, so that Selene couldn't find anyone who needs help. Selene was searching for people who needed help, and since she paused for a minute, Shin thought everything worked according to their plan. But then, Selene saw an old lady who she thought needed help, so she pointed to the lady and ran toward her to help. Shin panicked as he wouldn't let his daughter do good deeds. He immediately ran, passed through his daughter, and helped the old lady. Selene found another one and Shin ran to the man again as fast as he could just to avoid his daughter from helping. He also helped a cat, another guy, and more people near their house. After everything he had done, he felt so exhausted and felt like he burned the candles on both ends. He somehow managed to prevent Selene from doing a good deed, but it ended up that he's the one who does good deeds on behalf of his daughter. While he was resting, Selene suddenly touched his shoulders and offered him a back message, knowing that her father was tired of helping. Shin was so happy with the kindness of his daughter, not until Selene said she finally made something good. He feels like he was struck knowing that Selene helped one person because of him. Meanwhile, Selene decided to do self-study, so she told her father not to disturb her. Shin then said yes and wished her good luck in studying. Shin then comes out from their study room and one of his men is outside waiting for him as they have another plan to do. This man stole a secret scroll from humans and infiltrated enemy lines and sabotaged them countless times. He opened the scroll and gave life to the fly from it. This fly can disrupt someone's concentration. It entered the study room of Selene to disturb the kid and Shin expected it would work, but then Selene easily snapped the fly and she successfully completed number 2 of her plan for the day to become a hero. Since she completed number 1 and 2 of her plan, Shin was so upset since the only thing left was Selene's stamina training to complete everything. He smiled as he believed there was no need for him to worry about the third agenda of Selene. Selene made a drawing of a mountain and informed her dad she would climb the mountain by tomorrow. Selene told him the route she would take in advance, which would be straight ahead from their village entrance, and then take a left so he could find a speed bump in the front side. The day after, Shin ordered his minions to block the way to the mountain. They put a repelling barrier, demonic monsters on the bush, and a stone increases 10 times when touched. They also put a note that the road is under construction. The place had lots of various obstacles on her path. Selene prepares to climb the mountain. She bids goodbye to her father and Shin then also tells her to be careful along the way. He was laughing while his daughter was leaving as he believed no one would complete the route. After Selene came out, she found out that it was raining. That is why she decided to train at home since she doesn't have another choice. Today's training is done, she uttered after an hour of training. She completed her number 3 plan and all the plans of Shin and the other demons ended in failure. Selene's training to become a hero continued even after that. And time flew by. Selene was accepted into a hero academy at the age of 16. She transformed herself into a different lady, exactly like a hero. That dreaded day finally arrived, which Shin doesn't want to happen. When Selene nearly became a hero, Shin cried and hugged her. Selene thought he cried only because he was happy with what she achieved. Aside from that, he cried because Selene needed to leave home since Hero Academy is actually a boarding school. Selene touched his face while he was crying, telling him to stop. Still, Shin can't stop his sadness. To calm him down, Selene promised to visit him during the holidays. Shin agreed, but he was still in pain, so he cried more and more. That day, Luke came to their home just to send armor to the lady so the lady wouldn't need to worry about getting hurt. But then, Selene refused to wear it. Both of you worry too much. I may look like this, but I was accepted into the academy via recommendation, Selene stated. Selene looked at the clock and found out that it was about time. She immediately bids goodbye to both Shin and Luke, and both men are crying knowing that Selene has grown too fast and can now handle herself on her own. Selene was too excited by the fact that this time was the beginning of her journey to becoming a hero. After Selene left, both men then went to their demon castle. Luke then reported to Shin that he received news of a hero who recently invaded the Krata area. This hero broke through the Canyon of Death all by himself and is said to be making his way through the Plane of Silence. However, judging from this hero's travel direction, Luke believes that this man isn't heading to their demon castle. While Luke was discussing, Shin was not responding at all. Luke suggested he take a short break, but Shin's eyes suddenly glared at him, which made him frightened. Shin's aura comes out from his body, so Luke immediately apologizes as he thought he angered the Demon King. But then, Shin turned out to be disturbed by the thought that his daughter Selene might be bullied at the Hero Academy. He was worried for the sake of his daughter as he heard the use of violence, which is quite extreme at the academy. Luke then told him that he guessed Selene would be fine in the academy. He then cleared his throat and continued to discuss the matter about the hero who wanders around the Krata area, likely with the intention of finding valuable items to snatch for money. Still, Shin wasn't listening as he was busy looking at the photo of Selene, saying that he has a cute daughter, which made Luke think that Shin really was not listening to him. Well, at least he seems to have some skills, seeing how he's moving around the Krata area alone, Shin stated. He flinched as he remembered Luke mentioned that this hero was a skilled hero. According to Luke, among those who have invaded the Krata area, this hero definitely belongs to the stronger ones. But for whatever reason, he managed to break through the demon's defense line and made it as far as the Krata area. While explaining, Luke was full of anger and suddenly activated his flaming skill, burned the paper he was holding, and screamed, "The Demon Corps commander who let him tarnish the Demon King's honor will take responsibility." But then, he was cut off when Shin said there was no need for it. Shin stood and recalled that Luke said this hero was really currently on the plane of silence. I should go and check him out myself, he added. After several hours, Selene was still riding the carriage heading to the Hero Academy. She was sleeping deeply not until the carriage stumbled to a rock. Her sleep was destroyed and she found she was the only passenger left. He was carrying his sword and immediately told the coachman that she needed to get off. She panicked, so she accidentally destroyed the roof of the carriage since it was only made of wood. The coachman was shocked and Selene didn't deny that she caused the trouble. The coachman then ordered her to compensate the damage and Selene answered yes, despite that her money would only be enough for her expenses. At this moment, she's already at the Shello's kingdom, which is also the city of all heroes, Arca. Selene entered with excitement since this was a part of her dream. I've finally reached the city of the Hero Academy. This is the start of Hero Selene's adventures, Selene uttered. But her excitement was gone when her tummy growled. She decided to eat and suddenly smelled food nearby. She followed the smell and found out that it came from the smell of bread. The buttery and sweet smell reminds her of a soft crumb and crunchy crust reminds her of the same bread she always ate. When she gets near, she realizes that she's right, it's a honey butter baguette. There is also a salted butter roll which makes her more hungry. The chef of the store then called the next customer in line and it was Selene. She was drooling while staring at the food in front of her and the chef believed she was already so hungry. The chef asked what she wanted and before she could answer, she checked her wallet first, but unfortunately, she didn't have anything left. She then realizes that she had used all of her money just to compensate the carriage owner. She was so sad as she told the store owner that she would come back again next time. As she was walking, she felt so dizzy. She was holding her tummy since she really felt so hungry and she felt she might faint from hunger. All of a sudden, a cat carrying bread passes through her. The first thing she noticed was the bread, so she followed the cat and saw that there was a young boy feeding cats in the street. The boy said that there was still more bread left, so he would divide it into the 3 cats in front of him. There is a white cat, a black cat, and a brown cat. They meowed and Selene did the same thing. She also meowed just to catch the attention of the young boy. This is what hunger makes her do. The young boy was shocked by her actions, but he understood that Selene also felt hungry. After a while, Selene already ate a lot because of the boy's help. There's still bread in her while she was asking the boy if it's really alright for her to eat lots of the bread. The boy answered yes, since Selene also ate most of the bread. They were both sitting and Selene was very glad that she felt alive again after eating. She then gave thanks to the boy and said that he was really a nice guy. The boy blushed and he was stuttering as he said he was not. Selene then asked about his age since she believed this kid was also around her age. The boy seemed to be shy and he answered 16. Selene then said she knew it and told him that they both should be friends since she's also 16. You want to be friends just because we're the same age? The boy asked, and Selene answered, of course. Plus, you shared your bread with me. The boy seemed to be not happy at all. At this time, Selene noticed something in his inner pocket. But they didn't have the chance to talk about it since there were people who came and the lady called him by the name, Silver. Silver immediately stood and apologized to the lady, addressing her as Miss. Silver then told Selene that he needed to go. He walked away while Selene still wanted to ask more questions, but she could not force the boy to stay a little bit longer. The boy then leaves together with the lady. When did you start spending time with people of lower status? We still have a lot to prepare. We're late, let's hurry, the lady said. And Silver answered, yes, mother. While they were leaving, Selene was staring at them. She knew that the envelope she saw from Silver had the seal belonging to the Hero Academy, so she smiled, believing that she and Silver would meet once again soon. She then stood and stretched her body. She grips his sword and says that she should now head to the Hero Academy. While she was leaving, Silver took a glimpse of her. Meanwhile, at the Hero Academy, lots of students were already outside. There was an old man checking the people from the window and saying that there are a lot of students worth keeping an eye on this term. He was the academy's headmaster. He was checking the hero candidate and found the presence of Dom's mage family from the Shello's king. There was also a girl with pink hair sitting on the man's shoulder. She's Ronia de Raffels, the Count Raffels's genius mage daughter. The man below her is Ronan, his guardian. A man with flaming power and a scar on his eye is also present. He belongs to one of the big 4 mercenary groups, the Valiant Mercenary Group, and a rank mercenary named Harkus. A former Saintess candidate was also present. She's Chloe de Arshabath. There were also the students belonging to powerful species, Leo from the Wolf tribe, Shan from the Dark Elf, and Olaf from the Dwarf. From the Luotine Kingdom's swordsman family, Lebek de Anis, Duke Anna's second son was also present. The coordinator was searching for more known people and then saw Silber de Jin, Duca Jin's son, the true power behind the Luoting kingdom. The old man was staring at Silber, then saw someone heading to the kid. He was so confused the moment he saw Lebec. "Yo, who is this? Aren't you my long-time friend, Silber?" Lebec said, and hearing his voice made Silber startled and nervous upon seeing him. Lebec is with his friends his age, and they said that there is a rumor about Silber entering the Hero Academy. "But why did you enter the academy? Were you always this interested in heroes?" Lebec asked. Silber was still nervous to answer. Lebec then concludes that Silber is thinking about becoming the next family head after making a name for himself as a hero. Silber didn't give any response. He remained silent while the three men made fun of him and even said that he wasn't fit to be a hero as he was the son of a concubine. Silber was sad listening to their accusation, but he cannot even fight for himself. "You might be from the Jin family, but you're practically viewed as non-existent within your own family," the man said, and they all laughed. "You are nothing more than a puppet, bidding to your greedy mother's every whim, you idiot," Lebec uttered, which made Silber cry. All of a sudden, Selene came, running too fast, and stomped at Lebec while saying that she was now safe. Silber was trembling in fear, thinking that Lebec must have gone mad because of Selene's humiliation. Selene was very calm and even dared to joke around that she might have run into something. She greeted Silber while Silber asked her to get off from Lebec first. The people around witnessed what happened, and even the academy's coordinator saw it with his own eyes. He wondered who this student was who dared to humiliate Lebec. He checked the student's information and found out Selene's paper. In her paper, she was only a commoner recommended by someone named Baron, the girl who sent the second son of a swordsman family flying with one hit, Selene, from the countryside. At the same time, in the Demon King's territory, Shin already found the hero who invaded the Krata area. The hero was eager to fight against him. He jumped towards Shin, aiming to end Shin's life, but then he flew away after Shin hit him once. He lay down on the ground and was unconscious. Shin doubts that this was the skilled hero Luke mentioned, since it seemed like this guy wasn't strong enough. Shin tried to wake the hero up since he was planning to order this guy to do something for him. The Annie's ducal family are the co-founders of the Luoting Kingdom, a family of swordsmen that has brought forth competent knights. As the second son of such a prestigious family, his natural talent for swordsmanship had made him someone who met all expectations. However, this time, someone humiliates him, which is Selene. He was so mad, asking him who dared to insult him in front of everyone. Then, he was dumbfounded the moment he discovered that it was a girl who attacked him. He cannot believe that he was knocked by a lady in just one hit. Silber and Selene held hands while Silber asked her why she was here. Selene then informs him that she's a new student in this hero academy. Silber then said that he was surprised by everything, including how Selene attacked Lebec. Selene then heard Lebec call her angrily. "What are you?" Lebec asked, and Selene thought this would be her new friend, so she said her name. "Nobody asks for your name. You must have a reason for suddenly running at me like that," Lebec said while pulling Selene's cape. Selene then realizes that Lebec is the one she ran into a moment ago. She told Lebec that she only thought it was just a fly since she didn't feel much resistance. Lebec felt insulted. Selene's words seemed to be pierced in his chest. He was so annoyed that he was like a fly to Selene. He then called his two friends and asked their opinion, as he believed Selene was picking a fight with him. "She should be scolded for fearlessly picking a fight with you. Isn't that right, Marco?" his friend Nord replied. But then, Marco didn't give an answer since he was mesmerized by the beauty of Selene. His face blushed as he was staring at the lady. His perspective is that Selene is the most pretty and brave girl in this academy. He fell in love in an instant, so Nord told him to get a grip. At the same time, Lebec was disappointed and told himself that he shouldn't have expected anything from the beginning. Silber interferes, telling Lebec that everything is only a mistake, so he must let go of Selene. But then, Lebec didn't like his idea and asked him when he had the guts to be able to stand his way. "I think I have to educate you properly first," Lebec added. But Chloe came in their middle and told them to stop arguing. She then grabbed both men and leaned their cheeks on her breasts, while saying that they couldn't have their future heroes fighting each other on their very first day. She told them both to get along, but both men stayed away from her, and Lebec thought this lady was crazy. Lebec asked who she was, and Chloe then answered that she was the apostle of Irene, goddess of peace, Chloe de Alshabeth. She told them to address her Chloe. Lebec was staring at her, realizing that Chloe was the Holy See of Ruden's Saintess candidate. At this moment, he wondered how this lady ended up at this hero academy. Chloe then told them to make up since the welcome ceremony was about to begin. "Yo, Silber, let's have a talk when we have time," Lebec said, and looked back to Selene, telling her the same. He then walked away with Nord and Marco, leaving Chloe in annoyance for not listening to her. After a few minutes, one of the academy's instructors called everyone's attention. "Good job coming here from all over the continent. I'm Instructor Mused. I'll be conducting your level test." Instructor Mused stated. Selene seemed to be clueless, but luckily, a man suddenly came beside her at a fast speed, believing that Selene didn't have any idea about the level test. His name is Wigan, and according to him, the level test is just as the name says, a test to evaluate their individual skills and rank them. It could be bronze, it could be silver, it could be gold, it could be platinum, or even a diamond, which is a total of 5 ranks. He also added that the higher the rank they receive, the bigger the pool of divisions they can choose from. The exact evaluation of criteria is at the discretion of the instructors, but your fighting, judgment, and cooperation skills are important evaluation factors, and failing the test means that their acceptance is cancelled, so they must keep it on their mind as per Wigan. "What? You're asking what the divisions are?" he said, but then as per Selene, she didn't ask about it. Still, Wigan decided to explain it to Selene as he really believed Selene was curious. At the same time, the other students around were shocked by the level test since they were only expecting to have a welcome ceremony. Mused told them all that they had received the right to be in this academy through a recommendation by a trustworthy person or a separate selection process. However, he only believes in the things he has seen with his very own eyes. He said that if these students officially want to enter the Hero Academy, they have to personally prove their qualifications to become a hero. He suddenly jumped on the ground and broke the ground instantly. He then stood and instructed students to leave all their belongings, except for their equipment, and follow him. Everyone followed his command and heard him add that they could take their belongings and go back home once they could not prove themselves that they could be a hero. Mused then stopped nearby and activated 5 portals. He declared that the first test would be a dungeon clearing. According to him, these 5 portals each lead to a mine, a forest, a plain, a fortress, or an underground labyrinth. These 5 are known as virtual dungeons as per Mused. The test will be conducted in teams. Forming a good and balanced team is an ability a hero needs to have. Within a time span of 10 minutes, they must get together in teams of 4 and decide on the dungeon they want to challenge. After Musta gave them instructions, Selene, Silber, and Chloe decided to team up, but they still needed one. Silber got nervous with both Chloe and Selene as his teammates. Chloe held his face and asked him if he didn't like them as his team. "No, that's not what I meant. We haven't even introduced ourselves to one another and we don't know anything about each other," Silber replied. Chloe and Selene immediately introduced themselves and Silber did the same thing. The 3 then discussed who would be their last member, but at the same time, Silber wanted to discuss each other's skills and specialty as he believed that in that way they could choose a dungeon and develop a rough strategy of how they can best deal with the dungeon. Since he felt too shy to give his opinion, he decided to deduce everything from their weapons. First is Selene. He noticed Selene's great sword, and based on the strength she demonstrated earlier with Levick, Silber believes she's perfect as a vanguard. Next is Chloe, a saintess whom he believes would fulfill the role of a support. Silber was calculating their team balance so that he could say what position they needed the most. But then, before he could think, he heard both Selene and Chloe say that their 4 spots were filled. It was the dark elf, Shin. Finally, their team has been completed, consisting of Selene, Chloe, Silber, and Shan. Lastly, they need to pick a portal. She picked it using Eeny Miny Miny Moo, which annoys Silber the most. They then entered and must have found out that this team was at the fortress dungeon. It can be cleared easily if one has the eye for it, but there's no straightforward solution. The clear condition in this dungeon is to defeat the lord of the fortress. Selene was so excited knowing that the level test had finally begun. But on the other hand, Silber was very nervous. He asked Selene if she had a plan, and Selene screamed as she answered, "We enter the fortress, find the lord, and kill him." Silber turned his head around as they noticed something. They saw a gate and Silber tried to think of a plan. He concludes that the creek is flowing towards the fortress and he believes they can infiltrate the castle by following the waterway, then find the lord and kill him. He widely smiled as he was about to say his plan, but he was cut off when Selene suddenly disappeared. He asked where Selene was and Chloe then pointed to the area where was heading. Selene was holding his sword, headed to the gate. She jumped so high and lifted up her sword. The monster instantly saw Selene and wondered what she was trying to do. Selene was screaming while aiming at the gate. For Silber, there's no way Selene could break down the gates with a sword. But surprisingly, Selene managed to make it. Silber was jaw-dropping while Shan remained silent. At the same time, Chloe was very proud to see Selene's ability. "I cleared the way. Come on," Selene said. But Silber suddenly got nervous and told Selene to look behind her. Selene was confused as to why without knowing that there were hundreds of monsters behind her. The monsters headed to Selene, and Selene was startled to see lots of monsters. On the other hand, Silber understood that Selene is extremely powerful, but now he cannot deny that enemies are overwhelming in number. He was nervous, unlike Chloe. Chloe tied her hair while smiling and said that it was now her time to step forward. She winked at Silber, and Silber smiled at her and said that he would leave the supporting spells in her hands. But then, he was shocked when Chloe used a knuckle to fight. He was so confused and panicked upon seeing Chloe heading to the monster to fight. The monsters were so mad by the fact that the humans destroyed the fortress wall. But they were all positive that they could defeat Selene since they never expected Selene to have companions. Selene then charged at the monster in front of her while saying that she would use a secret technique. She casts a great sword swing and hits several monsters. The monster flew away and Selene continued to attack. He then heard someone informing her that there was a monster behind her to look behind. A goblin was aiming at her with a mace and proudly said he got a human. Selene closed her eyes since it was too close, but lucky for her Chloe appeared and attacked the goblin to save Selene. You're supposed to say that after you actually get them, Chloe said. Selene was looking at her and she then said that she came to help her. Selene then smiled back at her and continued to fight the monsters. Selene used her consecutive swings secret technique, and while they were fighting, neither Silber nor Shan didn't have a plan to help. Shan even sleeps deeply despite that she is standing. After a few minutes of fighting, Selene noticed someone huge behind him. Who dares to destroy my fortress? The gigantic monster asked who Selene believed was the lord of the fortress. She then charged to the fortress lord and cast her secret technique. The fortress lord was dumbfounded and Selene then attacked him with her jump and slammed down the great sword technique. In just one attack, the fortress lord fell to the ground and admitted that Selene really had a powerful secret technique. Since this lord was easily defeated by Selene, Selene then concludes that he is not the fortress lord. The minions of the fortress lord were telling their ruler that Selene's attack wasn't a secret technique at all. On the other hand, Instructor Musad and Silber were both surprised to see Selene easily defeat the lord of the fortress. Elimination of the lord of the fortress is easily completed, and the fortress dungeon has been cleared. Selene instantly challenged the lord by breaking down the fortress gates. After clearing the dungeon, the four immediately exited. Their team was the first one who cleared the test, and even Musad was speechless since it was his first time seeing a strategy similar to the strategy of Selene. He was staring at Selene, wondering about her information. At the same time in the demon's castle, Luke reported to Shin that the hero finally woke up. At this moment, the team of Levick was facing the boss of the plain dungeon, King Lycanthrope. Lycanthrope roared in anger for invading his dungeon. The four were calm while planning on how to defeat Lycan. Nord suggested they must surround Lycan in a square formation, but then Levick doesn't have any plans to listen at all. He instantly charged at Lycan without any words and attacked Lycan with his Blitzhau technique. Levick killed Lycan in an instant, which surprised the three companions of Levick surprised. After that, the elimination of King Lycan has been completed and the plain dungeon has been cleared. They then exited the portal, and the people who had witnessed how Levick killed King Lycan in one strike were all impressed. Levick at the same time proudly walked as he expected that the first place of dungeon clearing belonged to him. But upon checking the board, he saw that the first who cleared a dungeon was Selene's team, which was around 5 minutes and 26 seconds. The second team is Levick's team and Ronia's team, which was a tie around 5 minutes and 40 seconds clear time. Levick was so upset that he was in second place. He looked on his side as he heard Selene showing how happy she was for being in first place. Second place on the first test, that's a good start. Nord said, "It's all thanks to Levick." Marco added. Levick suddenly lifted up Nord by the neck as he didn't like how Nord casually said it's a good start for them as a second placer. Someone like Silber was ranked higher than us and you call it a good start. Thanks to me, he said with anger. Nord then told him that what was in his mind wasn't what meant to say. Levick then warned him to watch his words and remember the one who brought him all this way here. He then dropped Nord on the ground and Nord was trembling in pain while saying sorry to Levick. Levick really felt he was insulted by his comrades for being the second placer. He cannot accept that Selene and Silber are above his place. He walked towards Selene and Selene turned her head on her side since she felt someone heading to her. It was Levick, but Ronia was also with her and they both pointed their finger at Selene. They were confused and looked at each other. At the same time, Selene wondered what's the problem of both Ronia and Levick. In the end, Levick and Ronia pointed their fingers at each other and asked the same question of what they wanted to happen. I have something to talk about with her, so don't disturb us and piss off, you yellow fly. Ronia angrily answered. My matter is more urgent, so you should piss off, kid. Levick said. Ronia feels that she was pierced when Levick called her a kid. She becomes mad but Lebec dares to repeat it. Ronia was full of anger against Lebec, so she activated her power and angrily asked Lebec if she really looked like a kid to him. She charged at Lebec with her flame and tried to attack him. But surprisingly, Selene was able to block her and Lebec and stop them from arguing. She told them not to fight, but both Lebec and Ronia were dumbfounded by the fact that Selene stopped their magic and sword. At this moment, someone pulled Ronia. It was Roman, her guardian. "Oh my, it seems like our Ronia caused you some trouble. I apologize," Roman said, and Ronia was mad at him, asking him what he was doing. She kept on ordering Roman to put her down while punching his cheek, but Roman refused to follow her. Ronia pointed at Selene and gave Selene a warning that she would take the first place next time. Roman then puts a lollipop to Ronia's mouth to make her stop blabbering, but she still talks, telling Roman that she won't get away with him next time. They then walked away while Chloe giggled to see Ronia's cuteness. On the other hand, Lennox was scratching his head and sighed. He then told Selene to enjoy being the first place, as he believed it would be the first and last of Selene. He also concludes that the next tasks will bring different results. Selene only looked at him without giving any response. Lebec then stared at Silber and Silber trembled in fear. Lebec walked away while telling Silber to make sure to make a good team. The worst thing he said to Silber is that Silber would be a nuisance from the other team members' perspective. Silber, as usual, didn't give any response. Lebec then walked away without Selene and Chloe, knowing that Silber was mistreated by Lebec once again. After an hour, Musid congratulates everyone for finishing the first level test. He then showed the results to everyone and said that all the teams who didn't manage to pass this test would have their acceptance cancelled immediately. But luckily, no teams failed in the first level test as per Musid. Everyone felt relief, and Musid then started to move forward to the next task. According to him, the result of the next task will be different. Selene, Lebec, and Ronia were waiting for the declaration of the second test. And as per Musid, the second test would be to capture the flag. Let's go back to the demon's castle for now. The captured hero woke up and found himself in an unfamiliar place. He was checking the surroundings, wondering where he was. He then heard the demon's voice asking him if he was finally awake. The hero immediately stood and was startled to see a demon right in front of him, sitting on the throne. Shin was just staring at him, and he then recalled that it was Shin who beat him earlier. Now, he discovered that Shin is indeed a high-level demon. Shin then said that he was a higher-level demon, not just a high-level demon. The hero then asked if he was a top-level demon, and Shin told him that it was higher than the top-level demon. The hero said that Shin might be one of the 4 heavenly demons, but Shin still told him higher. He then said that he now finally knew. "You are the one who has to follow all kinds of orders from the cruel and hot-headed Demon King, the assistant of the Demon King whose efforts are never acknowledged, Luke," the hero stated while pointing his index finger to Shin. At this moment, Shin believes that this hero is just pretending not to know him. "Alright, why has the mighty Demon King captured me?" the hero asked. Shin then directly answered that it was because he had a deal to offer. A deal with the devil. "So that's what this is," the hero uttered. He then asked Shin what happened once he declined. Shin didn't say any response, but he raised his fist and beat up the man once again. Since the hero cannot fight back, he decides to accept Shin's offer. Shin then showed the picture of his daughter to the hero and proudly said that his daughter was very pretty. At the same time, in the Hero Academy, they went to a different location to do the second test. Musid was holding an artifact and told the students that each team would receive this artifact for them to be able to see a map with the location of the flags upon activation. Only by bringing it to the designated place will it count as capturing a flag. Each red dot represents a flag. Since this map is kept up to date, it shouldn't be hard to find the flags as per instructor Musid. Each team has to collect at least a total of 4 flags to pass the test. Selene and her team were too excited, hoping to get first place again. One student raised his hand and said that the number of flags seemed a bit low compared to the number of students. Musid was glad that someone noticed it. According to him, there are 120 students and 80 total flags. Only 80 students will pass the test. All 40 students who don't capture a flag will fail. Their admission will be revoked and they can pack their things and go home as per Musid. The students got nervous knowing that 40 students to be revoked was too much. Instructor Musid then permitted them to ask more questions, but no one dared to ask, so he believed everything had been cleared to everyone. But after a few seconds, the A-rank mercenary, Marcus, raised his hand. Musid then allowed him to speak and he asked if killing is allowed in this second test. Selene gets terrified by the question of Marcus and everyone stares at Marcus in confusion. Musid at the same time questions him why he wants to know. And Marcus then said that he was just asking if there is a penalty for killing someone to take their flag. This test is about taking and getting flags taken. so there is no penalty for doing that, Musad said. He got off the stage and walked towards Harkus. However, seeing how you're thinking about killing someone nonchalantly, I'm beginning to doubt your qualification to become a hero, Musad added. Harkus then told him not to worry, as he was just asking since he believed all sorts of tragic accidents could happen during this capture the flag test. Musad then understood his point and went back to the stage. Still, Selene was scared as he detected Harkus as a villain. She remained silent while staring at Harkus, not until Wigan abruptly came to her to explain the information about Harkus, as he felt that Selene was very curious about Harkus. According to Wigan, Harkus is an A-rank mercenary and the team leader of the respected Valiant mercenary group's 4th team. To put it simply, he is a capable and skilled individual. Moreover, since he can wield almost all kinds of weapons, he is also referred to as Weapon Master Harkus. He is quite respected among the mercenaries as he values loyalty and trust highly, but he's incredibly cold-hearted and cruel. He would use any means necessary to achieve his goal, and no sword or tears could stop him. Wigan believes that Harkus is someone whom Selene doesn't want to meet and someone she should keep an eye on. There are also other individuals she should pay attention to as per Wigan. It would be the Sonic Whip Isna and the Absolute Defense Emuna sisters. Not just them, but also the undefeated gladiator Jellifish. There is also a slightly stupid engineer named Abigail. Wigan continued explaining, not knowing that the second test had started. Everyone moved as fast as they could while Silver asked his teams where they should go. Selene then answered that they were going to go to the forest. Silver was confused, so Selene told him that it was easier to take the direct way. Besides, she believes that plains allow them to prepare for any potential battles. Silver then said that the forest was too dense for Selene to comfortably wield her greatsword technique. Selene then asks him why it would be a problem, and Silver then concludes that it probably won't matter for Selene at all. While they were moving, they saw the team of Levick, who was following the team of Ronia to settle what happened earlier. When Selene looked on the other side, she also saw the team of Ronia. Selene then immediately thinks of a way and then suddenly realizes that this is what rivalry means. Silver and Chloe have different reactions after Selene finally realizes what rivalry means. They suddenly saw a flag, so they headed to the flag's direction, and there were also other teams aiming to get it. But then, Selene ran too fast and screamed, "First come, first serve." Chloe admired Selene for running too fast, while Silver was annoyed by the fact that Selene won't wait for them and just run on her own. At the same time, someone screamed so loud coming from the tunnel. It was a wounded man asking for mercy from Harkus. But then, Harkus killed him. Harkus then headed to another man. It was the undefeated gladiator, Jellifish. Jellifish was trembling in fear while asking Harkus why he was killing everyone in his team. He thought that it was because of a flag, but then Harkus broke the flag and unleashed his double sword and killed Jellifish helplessly. After killing him, Harkus doesn't even feel any guilt. After a few minutes, Selene's team was at the testing site. Silver was reaching for something in a tree hole, and was surprised after getting another flag from the hole. He was so happy while he was sitting at the shoulder of Chloe. Chloe could not believe that Silver really found a flag in the tree, and Selene also asked him how he knew there was a flag there. As per Silver, he had a friend who told him about it. Selene was shocked as she thought Silver was cheating. Silver then said that it was not what he meant. Selene was confused not until Silver summoned a spirit. Selene got excited knowing that spirits are fairy-like beings that frequently appear in hero sagas. The spirit flies away and Selene waves goodbye and concludes that Silver is a spiritist. Silver then said that it's not really, since he hasn't formed a contract with the spirit yet. Still, Selene was amazed by him as he was so close to being a spiritist. She called Silver as Sil, so Silver got surprised and asked her if he heard it right. Selene answered yes and explained that Sil is short of Silver. Silver then understood but was still surprised since it was his first time being called by someone in a different way. Since we're friends, it's nice to give each other nicknames, Selene said. Silver's face blushed and suddenly walked away to avoid Selene seeing him blush. Chloe and Selene then talked about the spirit, and Selene found out that it's a special ability since Chloe told her that it's rare for spirits to listen to humans. While they were busy talking, a raindrop poked at the head of Shan. Shan then looked at the sky and found out that the sky was getting darker. Chloe then feels that the rain could start pouring anytime. Silver was not aware that it was about to rain since he was still imagining how Selene called him Sil. Selene went to him and asked if they already had 3 flags. Silver then answered yes. They found one when Levick's team faced Ronia's team. Both teams fought earlier, so Selene got a way to steal 1 flag from them. The second flag they got was because of Chloe. Chloe used her Holy Spirit while blocking 2 students, telling them they would be granted a blessing by the goddess of peace, Irene, if they would hand over the flag to her. but then the two men won't surrender the flag. But in the end, both men were beaten up and Chloe got the flag from them. And the third flag is the flag Silver got from the tree, which leaves them one more to go. Their team was cheering, aiming for the completion of this second test. They continue to explore the place to search for one more flag. After 30 minutes, they found nothing. They already walked for 30 minutes despite that it was raining, but unfortunately didn't get another one. Luckily, Silver saw nearby using the artifact he was holding. They followed the map until they arrived at a tunnel. They then headed inside and Chloe said this tunnel was perfect for them to escape the rain as well. Silver was nervous and wanted to stop them all from entering without making sure that it was safe inside. But then, the three had entered. Chloe then activates a holy light to lighten up the area. She also casts spell buffs to maintain their body temperature. Upon staying for a minute, they were glad that it was quite chilly inside the cave while their body felt warm. They then call Silver to go with them, and Silver realizes that Chloe is a priestess. He decided to come with them since they were a team, and as they were exploring the tunnel, Silver put a sign everywhere to make sure they could still go out. Selene asked him about it, so he told Selene that he was marking the paths they had already taken so they could prevent themselves from getting lost in this cave. He informed Selene that marking a path is a basics of exploration. Selene then decided to do it too. Instead of marking an X, Selene drew her own face and put her name as a sign that she already got to this cave. Silver was surprised as it was unusual to see someone draw her face to use it as a mark. After walking for more minutes, they found water. There are also a bunch of things that look like icicles hanging from the ceiling. And as per Chloe, it's called stalactites. There is also a similar looking thing rising from the ground, and Chloe then said it's called stalagmites. And according to her, if these two are connected, then it's called a stone pillar. While they were discussing, Silver was just looking at them and both Chloe and Selene were happy exploring the cave. They walked more and saw something. Chloe was about to explain what it was, but when they got closer, they realized that these were corpses. The people that were killed by Harkus earlier. Selene and her team got terrified. At the other part of the tunnel, Hubert was waiting for his men to give a report to him. A red-haired lady came and informed him that demonic beasts were currently being summoned throughout the testing site according to Paraban's orders. The hero candidates are being attacked and the number of casualties is increasing. The bald man with Harkus then asked him what's their next plan. And as per Harkus, since the demonic beasts have appeared, the Academy will try to get the situation under control, so he decided to keep the people that the Academy deployed occupied so that the demonic beasts can take down all of the hero candidates when the time they bring them. Another man came and reported to him that there were some hero candidates who found their way into this cave. Harkus immediately activates his dimensional bead that can see a desired place. He then found Selene's team inside the cave. There is no time to waste. Let's take care of them quickly and get moving, Harkus uttered, and he and his team immediately moved, heading in the direction of Selene's team. At the Hero Academy, the Academy's head has deployed all available instructors but still feels anxious because of the instructors' low numbers. Someone knocked on the door of his office and he wondered who it was. He immediately ran to the door and was about to open it. But then, the man instantly opened the door without asking permission, so the head ended up stuck behind the door. "It's been a while, Headmaster," the man uttered. But then, the head was in pain and was annoyed, but his mood instantly changed knowing that this man was a hero. He's Grave, the hero who invaded the demon's castle, and the one who made a deal with Shin, the demon king. Going back to Selene's point of view, their team checked the corpses and found out that it hasn't been too long since these people died. Chloe also checks the weapon that was used to kill one of the dead men, and Silver then says that it must be the doing of a weapon-wielding master. But then, Chloe disagreed with him since they didn't come across any traces of a monster, and monsters also don't have the skill to craft such fine arrows in the first place. Because of the arrow, she believes that the killer is surely a human. Moreover, it was done by a person whose goal was not the flag. Silver was shocked since someone came up on his mind. All of a sudden, Selene deflected the arrow that almost hit Silver. Silver got terrified the moment he confirmed that the killer was really Harkus and his team and were also the one who tried to attack him. That's an impressive reaction speed, the archer stated. "So you were behind all of this. Why are you doing this?" Selene asked, and the man with Hubert replied, "You're quite curious for someone who will soon turn into a cold corpse." The lady archer named Trish then added that they will think of telling them if they would kneel like a dog and beg them. She said that Selene's team would not understand the divine message from Paraban, but before she could complete her words, Harkus squeezed her face and told her to stop spitting useless words. Trish then apologizes to him, but it's too late since Selene's team already heard clearly what she said. Since Trish mentioned the Paraban, Chloe believes that Harkus and his team are from a dark religion. Shan was shocked upon hearing it, and on the other hand, Harkus didn't respond, but Chloe took his silence as a yes. Selene asked her about the information of the dark religion, and according to Chloe, this religion is a heretic group worshipping demons. They roam the lands committing all kinds of inhuman actions. Chloe also said that the Holy See of Rudin is trying to locate the dark religion's whereabouts, but she never thought she would meet a member in this academy she was entering. After explaining, Selene sums up everything and concludes that Harkus and his team were bad guys. Now that you've found out our identities, we really have no reason to let you live, Harkus stated, and unleashed his weapons and told Selene's team not to resent them too much. Selene still dared to smile and told Harkus that he should not be the one who would look down on them. But then, she was cut off when Shan jumped toward Harkus and pointed a dagger at him, proclaiming that she would kill the dark religion with her own hands. But then, Harkus hit her dagger, causing it to fly away. Shan was staring at Harkus, who tried to attack her, but she was able to jump backward, going to her dagger. Then, the comrade of Harkus instantly went behind her and aimed her sword, but then she blocked the man's sword as she was able to pick up her dagger. You're smarter than I thought. I thought that you were just acting on emotions, but it seems like you have skills to rely on, the man stated. Shan was trembling while still blocking the man's sword, but unfortunately, she was arrowed by Trish and she was pierced from behind. Trish laughed and said, "Bullseye," and even told her that she must pay for her reckless actions. Shan was looking slightly at Trish, then Silver screamed, telling Shan to look above her. The fat bald man was above Shan, ready to attack her with a mace. He said that Shan can't avoid his mace. He then attacked Shan, and since he was near Shan, Shan didn't dare to move at all and only closed her eyes. Luckily, Selene deflected the mace and ended up hitting the fat bald man. The bald man fell on the ground, and at the same time, Shan was shocked to see Selene's bravery. "How dare you? I won't let you off easy after attacking my comrade," Selene angrily stated. The bald man's comrade was mad at Selene for attacking his companion, so they both fought each other with their swords. Silver then went to Shan and told her that she must be treated. But then, Harkus attacked Shan with a chain and successfully bound her foot. Shan looked at him angrily, but then Harkus pulled the chain, causing Shan to fall on the ground. Silver doesn't like Harkus' behavior, and for him to save Shan, he gets his bow and attacks Harkus with it with the help of 3 spirits. While the arrow was heading to Harkus, Harkus was shocked to see spirits from the arrow's sharp edge. Since he got puzzled, he was hit on his arm and the spirits immediately escaped. Harkus looked back to Shan, but Shan was already carried by Chloe. Chloe put down Shan in the corner, away from Harkus. She asked if Shan was fine, but then Shan pushed her away and walked while telling her not to mind her. She is very determined to kill Harkus' team, which makes Chloe conclude that Shan might be from Halen Forest. Shan was shocked to hear Chloe's conclusion, since what Chloe said was true. She turned her head back a little and asked Chloe how she knew it. "I knew it. No wonder you reacted this way to the dark religion," Chloe said. Shan then asked her how much she knew and if she knew the investigator's name, but then their conversation was disturbed by Trish. Trish was aiming an arrow at them while saying that small talk is prohibited in a battle. Her arrows create a bright light, so Shan is sure that Trish is aiming at her. Then, both Silver and Selene were shocked the moment one of their comrades was hit by the arrow, and this time, it was Chloe instead of Shan, since Chloe blocked the arrow to protect Shan. "I'll tell you everything you want to know later, so try to get your emotions under control for now. Can you do that for me?" Chloe said, and Shan answered yes. At the same time, Trish was laughing so loud as it was funny to her seeing Chloe hit by an arrow just to protect a comrade. She looked back to his comrades, but then she stopped laughing when she witnessed the scary aura of Selene while blocking the man's sword with only just one hand holding her huge sword. "You better be prepared, cause I'm really pissed right now," Selene said angrily. The man then went to his comrades and Selene headed towards them while still possessing a scary aura. The 3 were silent for a moment, but upon realization, they suddenly laughed and said, "We went along with you a little bit, and here you all think you're the shit, forgetting where you actually belong." Selene didn't give a response, but she still continued to walk towards her 3 opponents. She was staring at them with anger, and even Shan and Chloe knew that she was now really mad. An azure flame suddenly comes out from Selene's eyes, and she then attacks her opponents in just one slash, causing them to fall on the ground. Trish is still conscious and she's dumbfounded upon seeing Selene's unknown power. Selene stomped on her while lifting the sword, telling Trish to dodge, but Trish could not even move, and Selene then attacked the ground with the sword she was holding. Everyone witnessed Selene's strong power that caused the ground to crumble, and even Harkus saw it with both eyes. Chloe and Silver at the same time were speechless, knowing that Selene took out the 3 members of the dark religion in just one blow. The 3 were knocked out, and at this moment, Harkus approached Selene while clapping his hands, admitting that he looked down on Selene too much. He gets something from his cloth and Chloe's eyes are then rounded since this thing is familiar to her. It was a purple stone and he said he wasn't planning on using this on Selene, but he concludes he doesn't have a choice either. He possessed the power that comes from this stone by squeezing it and a chain appeared on his body. Silber was terrified upon witnessing Harkus' body changes at this moment and he believes Harkus possessed a demonic beast transformation. Silber is so scared while Chloe besides him concludes that Harkus is using the demonic energy from the mana stone to transform himself into a demonic beast. She was annoyed by the fact that the people of the dark religion don't hesitate in the slightest to do these horrendous things. This won't be the same as it's been until now. Come at me with all you got, Harkus uttered. Selene charged at him without any fear. She was screaming, telling Harkus that there was no need to remind her since her intention is to attack Harkus regardless. She landed on the ground and attacked Harkus with all her force, but she was dumbfounded, the same as Chloe upon seeing that Hubert was unharmed after trying to hit him with her sword. As per Chloe, Selene may be strong, but without being able to use mana, Harkus is going to keep using demonic energy to counter the shock. At this time, Chloe tried to reach the arrow on her back. Upon reaching it, she immediately broke it and told her companion that they couldn't keep watching without doing anything. She clenched her fist and her knuckles sparkled. She smiled at Shan, telling her that they must give Selene a hand. Harkus turned his head a little and saw Shan and Chloe dashing at him. Looking at Chloe makes him believe that this lady knows how to use mana. Chloe prepared her fist while screaming and then strongly punched Harkus multiple times. But then she wasn't able to hurt Harkus and she was shocked to see that her mana attack didn't work on him. This is how you deal with a blow, Harkus uttered and punched Chloe using his mana attack. His eyes flame and at the same time, Shan dashed to him, trying to slash him, but he still remained unharmed. Harkus belittled her and strongly hit her from the back, causing her to fly away. Harkus stared at Chloe and Shan, who were now unconscious, while saying, "What's the point of knowing how to use magic? What can injured little rats like you change by wriggling around?" Silber was shaking in fear upon seeing Harkus standing in front of him. He wanted to move for him to run away, but he could not even move his legs because of fear. Harkus attacked him with a sharp thing. Silber closed his eyes, asking himself if this would be his end. At the same time, he was hoping someone would come to save him. Luckily, Selene was able to get back her strength and surprisingly awakened her mana. She grips her sword and dashes to Harkus. She attacked Harkus strongly, causing Harkus to flee away while Silber was looking at him from below. Selene then reminded him that she wouldn't let it slide if he would mess with her comrades. Harkus was still fine after that. He said he couldn't believe Selene's mana awakened now of all times. He smirked and added that he guessed he was all out of luck today. He was smiling widely at Selene like an evil and he said, "Now that the plan's gone completely stray already, let's have a proper fight." Yeah. At the same time in the academy, Grave was planning how to do the Demon King's order. Grave also graduated from Hero Academy and became a hero. But not so long after, it became difficult to maintain a livelihood as a hero, so he quit his job to become a treasure hunter. He was doing pretty well on his own, not until the Demon King suddenly appeared and gave him a contract, coercing him into becoming his incarnate. And the conditions of the contract are, number 1, he must protect the Demon King's daughter, Selene, who is enrolled into the academy regardless of the circumstances. Number 2, if he senses any hesitation from Selene about becoming a hero, he should make her quit on her own. If he successfully fulfills these conditions, the Demon King will grant him a wish. From the academy, he entered the portal to follow Selene's whereabouts. While heading, he remembers that there is still one condition aside from the 2 conditions mentioned earlier. That is, he must not let Selene get even a scratch, knowing that the monsters had already appeared in the drilling hall. He then dashed as fast as he could to make sure that he could protect Selene at all costs. He entered into the cave, searching for Selene. He was nervous, thinking that he would get screwed if he arrived at Selene late. All of a sudden, an explosion happened nearby, so he ended up covered with ashes in his face. He cursed as he was annoyed, thinking that Selene might be in danger. At the deepest part of the cave, Silber was checking his 2 companions. Chloe was shaking in pain and there was lots of blood on her clothes because of her wounds. She and Shan lose too much blood, which worries Silber too much, knowing that there's nothing he can do right now. All of a sudden, an attack happened behind him. He turned his head around and saw a lot of damage. He looked at the fight between Selene and Harkus. He said that they have to equally battle against Harkus, but he was surprised upon seeing Selene leading against Harkus in terms of strength. As he was watching the battle, he noticed Chloe behind him moving. Chloe gets up despite that her body is still trembling in pain. Chloe then asked him if she lost consciousness for a while, but then she didn't wait for an answer from Silber since she saw the battle between Selene and Harkus. She was surprised to see Selene leading against Harkus. Silber then said that they don't have anything to worry about. He thought it was the end for them just a while ago, but surprisingly, Selene suddenly became a completely different person until now while fighting against Harkus. Silber was so happy, saying that Selene is now defeating the enemy on her own and she believes Selene would win if her strength would continue until the end. His happiness was cut off the moment Chloe declared it was dangerous. Silber looked at the lady and wondered how come she said it was dangerous. Chloe was worried for Selene, knowing that Selene had no clue how to use magic. She believes that this incident seemed to awaken Selene's magic, but since Selene is only a beginner, she has no idea how to control it. That is why Chloe can say that Selene was excessively draining her magic and will soon exhaust it. Silber got nervous while asking Chloe if Selene would be at a disadvantage once more. Chloe then replied that it wasn't the reason why she said it was dangerous for Selene. According to her, people have body energy called stamina. However, when that stamina is exhausted, they end up collapsing. Aside from that, there is also mind energy called magic. And as she knew, the mind is the power that creates magic. But when one's magic is exhausted, Selene would possibly lose her mind. Upon knowing it, Silber got worried for Selene. Selene was still fighting against Harcus. Harcus almost hit her, but she managed to dodge. She turned her head around as she heard Silber calling her name. Silber tells her to end the battle as quickly as possible. He wants to give Selene a warning, but Selene looks back to Harcus since Harcus attacked her with some magic power. She luckily dodged it again, but she got a little scratch on her face. She slid backward while Harcus told her that she was being complacent to look elsewhere during a battle. He widely smiles and adds that Selene's complacency will come to an end now. Selene asked him what he would try to do now, but then she suddenly flinched while staring at Harcus smiling at her. Selene unintentionally kneeled on the ground as she felt so weak. Her hands were trembling and she was wondering what was going on. Harcus took a step, heading towards her, and said, "You seemed like a formidable opponent, but now you've ended up on your knees before me." He then controlled his chain and wrapped it around Selene's body. Someone screamed no and unleashed his sword. He immediately cut Harcus' arm, and Harcus was shocked upon seeing his cut arm. His attacker was standing right in front of Silber. Silber was surprised since they never expected someone would help them. At this time, Harcus' blood dropped on the ground. He was mad while asking for his attacker's identity. As expected, it was Grave. He dashes at Harcus and slashes all his arms to prevent him from attacking. After that, he puts back his sword since he already ended Harcus' life in an instant. Harcus fell on the ground in front of him, and seeing his strength makes Silber speechless. Grave then said, "Nice to meet you. I'm Instructor Grave, and I'm joining the academy as of today." After the commotion, he immediately checked Selene and tried to wake her up. And since Selene wasn't responding, he was nervous as he was afraid that the Demon King would do something to him once Selene died. He immediately brings back Selene to the academy and confines her to the infirmary. Selene's 3 comrades visited her the next day, but then the doctor could not say when Selene would wake up. The doctor concludes that Selene would wake up within a few days if she was only exhausted due to the use of a large amount of magic power, but Selene went beyond her limits and completely deleted her magic power, so dangerous might happen to her. Chloe then deduces that the doctor is trying to say that Selene might never wake up. Silber was shocked upon hearing it. The doctor then replied that even if Selene would woke up, she might never be able to use magic power again. Silber blamed himself, but Chloe tapped his back and told him that it wasn't his fault. Still, Silber was worried that Selene's ability to use magic power would be lost. Chloe then said that it won't happen. She asked the doctor's opinion, but then the doctor just said that Selene's fate is in the hands of God. Silber was shaking in fear that Selene would die, but Chloe was very positive, telling Silber that Selene would be fine soon. In addition, it has only been a day after the incident, so she believes Selene would probably wake up healthy and all their worries would seem excessive. Silber stares at her and agrees to her positivity. Chloe claimed that everything she said was right, and she encouraged her 2 comrades to greet Selene with a big smile once Selene woke up. Shan behind her was already smiling widely behind her. Silber at the same time also smiled and answered all right to Chloe. Chloe then grabbed them both to have lunch together. They were about to leave the infirmary to grab some food, but surprisingly, Selene overheard them and immediately got up the moment she heard her 3 companions grab food to eat. "Let's go and eat food," she said with excitement. She asked where the food was while the 3 paused upon seeing her wake up. Shan then answered that the food was in the dining hall, and Selene immediately ran, leaving her companions and the doctor in shock. "Didn't you say that she was in a serious condition?" Chloe asked, but even the doctor didn't know how it happened. Chloe ordered lots of food and finished everything in a short span of time. After eating it all, she feels so alive. Her companions are with her, and Silber believes Selene was starving. Chloe then informed him that this was Selene's first meal since yesterday, so it's understandable for her to act like this. She also acknowledged Selene for being so amazing despite what happened to her. "By the way, who would have thought that Instructor Glove would come to the rescue after I fell unconscious?" Selene said, and Silber then reminded her that it wasn't Instructor Glove, but should be Instructor Grave. At this moment, Silber and Chloe heard the words of the other students. While Selene was still eating her dessert, she asked them what was wrong. Silber and Chloe just turned their heads around, and Selene then also heard how afraid the students were after their second test. Some blamed themselves for what happened to their comrades and some also wanted to leave the academy and just go back home. Why does everyone seem so down? Did something happen? Selene asked. Silber looked so sad as he informed Selene that when they encountered the dark religion yesterday, demonic beasts were roaming around the test site and attacking the students. Selene was shocked upon knowing that there were some demonic beasts who appeared and she wondered how. As per Silber, used mana stones were discovered all over the test site. The academy assumes that the Dark Order used these mana stones to summon the demonic beasts. They were really bad guys. Just why did they do all of that? Selene asked. As per Chloe, everyone except Harkus was captured alive. Those people will be handed over to the Holy See for questioning. And once the investigations are out, they'll know more about the Dark Religion's goals and intentions. Shan suddenly felt sad, which Chloe noticed. Chloe smiled at her, and at the same time, the speaker inside the hall suddenly turned on and everyone ordered to gather in the training ground after their lunch. The four listened carefully to the announcement and wondered what their test would be this time. After a few minutes, all the students went to the training ground where instructor Musad was waiting. According to him, 12 students have died and 25 have been injured in this terrible incident. As for the supervisor of the exam, this has come as an unwelcome and unfortunate surprise. On the other hand, everyone here hopes to enter the Hero Academy to become a hero. He said that students would encounter countless demonic beasts and unknown creatures in their future as a hero, and there would be even more casualties. He allowed those scared students to give up and leave the place if they wanted to. The students looked at each other and most of them wanted to go home. They started leaving while Musad was waiting for everyone to settle. After 2 minutes, only 72 students left. Alright, then I herewith appoint everyone here as an official cadet of the Hero Academy. After completing 8 weeks of training, you'll be granted the title of a warrior, Musad stated. According to him, the level test was conducted to rank the students according to their skills, but they hadn't had the chance to take a closer look at their skills up till now. The instructors appeared and Musad declared that students would have a 1-to-1 spar with the instructors. The instructors in charge will grade them with the best score being 10 points. Then, the spar will start once students are called up. Meanwhile, the spar had started. Isna de Filia got 8 points, Scissors got 7 points, and Silber de Jin got 5 points. Selene and Shan were happy that Silber did a great job. Silver was nervous as he thought he was going to die. 5 points is quite a good score, Selene uttered. Silber then acknowledged the help of her little friends as he believed he would have gotten a lower score without this spirit's help. Chloe tapped his shoulder and told him that it was still his talent to be so close to spirits. After several students sparred, Chloe's time finally came and after a few minutes, the spar ended and she got 9 points after. Her 3 companions cheered for her and Chloe was so proud of herself knowing that 9 points was the highest so far. She also believes she might have gotten full points if she had been in better condition. Up until this point, she still feels pain in her back because of the arrow that struck her back then. At this moment, she noticed that Shan became silent all of a sudden. Chloe knew the reason, so she told her that it wasn't because of her that she's in pain. While they were talking, a huge explosion happened right in front of them. The students were impressed, and it turned out that the flame was owned by Ronia from the Rafel's family specializing in magic from the Shello's kingdom. Ronia activates her Inferno Flame and attacks her opponent, who is one of the Academy's instructors. Her opponent activates a frozen shield, but Ronia's flame is still too strong, which makes Ronia believe that she defeated her enemy. But then, she flinched upon seeing her enemy instructor remain unharmed and was protected by the frozen shield. The instructor said that Ronia's attack wasn't enough to completely defeat her. After the battle, Ronia got 10 points, which is the highest score so far, and not just that, but 10 points is also the perfect score. Riona was very proud of herself and everyone was amazed by her talent. Silber even commented that she had never seen such a strong spell. Chloe also said that Riona is very cute and strong. That's my rival, friend for you, Selene said, then looked back at the center upon hearing the men in front of them comment that the next student was also strong. This time, the sparring is Lebek de Anna's versus instructor's Grave. They both fought using swords. As per the audience, Lebek has the family that founded the best swordsmanship academy in the Lauten Kingdom. While he was fighting against Grave, Selene was impressed and commented that Instructor Grave looked like he was just dancing instead of fighting. While she was watching the sparring of Lebek and Grave, Silber approached her, telling her that it was Instructor Grave, the one who dealt with Harkus and saved them yesterday. At first, it didn't sink into Selene's mind, but upon realization, she then looked at Silber and said, "You mean Instructor Grape." Silber then said that it wasn't Grape but Grave. Selene then looked back to Grave, telling herself that this man was the one who saved them. This time, Grave fought against Lebek without any emotion. Lebek executed his fourth form called Unendlich Schneiden. He attacked it to Grave but seemed like Grave wasn't satisfied at all. He then declared that he had seen enough. He then gave Lebek 10 points and the other students cheered for him and said that descendants from those prestigious families are built completely different from them. After Lebek's battle, Grave then called out the next student to spar. Selene was shocked upon seeing instructor Grave pointed at her. Grave ordered her to step forward and Selene then walked slowly to the battleground. Her comrades were cheering for her and wished her luck. Chloe also reminded her not to push herself too much, knowing that it hasn't been that long since she recovered. Selene looked at her and said okay while smiling. She also overheard the other students gossiping about her, saying that it was she who cleared the first exam at the top position. Most of the students were curious and looking forward to seeing her true strength. Even Lebek was waiting for the match to begin and see with his own eyes how strong Selene was. Well, it's not like she'd have higher scores than me, Ronia uttered confidently. Grave and Selene looked at each other. Grave was confused as to why Selene was so near despite that he never said she'd come so close to him. Selene bowed down to him and gave thanks for saving her last day. Grave doesn't want her to say sorry since it was really the Demon King who ordered him to save his daughter. He only followed the Demon King so he wouldn't be killed. He just stares at Selene and Selene proclaims confidently that she'll become better than Instructor Grave and become the strongest warrior in the whole wide world. Grave was nervous upon hearing what she said. As the Demon King told him, he should not let Selene become a hero. I want to become the strongest warrior who can even take out the Demon King, Selene added with a clenched fist. Grave wanted to tell her the truth that her father is the Demon King, but he stopped himself to avoid trouble. To stop Selene from spitting words about the Demon King, he told her that those 3 things she said were unrelated to the exam. Selene didn't dent it. She immediately grabbed her sword and dashed at Grave with a smile on her face. She leapt while holding her sword and Grave concluded that Selene plans to do a vertical slash. The great sword is forceful and has a wide reach, so swinging it broadly makes it seem more threatening, and Selene unconsciously ends up distancing herself. In case she fails at swinging it properly, her opponent ends up getting the upper hand in the battle. At times like this, it's better to dig more into the opponent rather than the striking point. Selene swung her sword and attacked Grave. Grave managed to block her sword but he almost fell. Selene swung her sword again and attacked Grave numerous times and Grave was still able to block her attack. Grave noticed how quick at reacting Selene was, so he believed it was the best time to parry damage as best Selene could do through diagonal movement and counterattack. This time, Grave was able to hit Selene but with no intention of giving her wounds. But then, he injured his hand and at the same time, Selene flew away and almost fell. Despite that, she was able to injure Grave, causing Grave not to be able to move his left arm anymore. He suddenly stepped back, which confused the audience. Grave heard the students saying that they could not believe Selene fought at the same level as the instructor. Since it comes to this point, Grave decided to use another way. I'll do you a favor and fight you using just one hand, he said. Ronia was happy as she thought there was no way Selene could fight this time. Silver was worried that Selene might not get good points, but Chloe calmed him down and told him that the match wasn't over yet. I guess that means I must still have a long way to go, huh? Then, here I come in full force, Selene uttered. She was still calm while Grave deep inside panicked since he thought Selene won't fight him this time. Selene charged at him at a fast speed and Grave now confirmed that Selene's strength was beyond his expectations. But then, he passed through Selene also at a fast speed and gave Selene a scratch on her face. Selene tried once again but Grave still left a little scratch on her neck, which means she died twice as per Grave. At this time, Selene bent down and Silver at the same time felt the momentum change. Selene stood and charged at Grave while screaming so loud. Grave was expecting that Selene would do the same pattern up until now. He thought Selene was executing the same attack that was clearly visible. But then, Selene intentionally struck her sword on the sand on the battlefield and swung it to make sure Grave wouldn't see her move. Grave didn't expect this shallow trick would happen. But still, he clearly saw Selene's sword swinging. Selene strikes an attack that creates a strong force. Everyone coughed because of the stand and they were waiting to see if Selene was able to make it. But then, when the smoke of sand slowly dissipated, it turned out that Grave was behind Selene and he was pointing his sword at Selene's neck. Let's end this here, he said. Selene didn't move for a moment and the audience commented that the match between Selene and Grave was quite exciting. They were amazed and expected that Selene would get a high score from Grave. But then they were dumbfounded upon hearing Grave declare that Selene got 1 point. Grave regrets taking the match too long and injuring himself. He uttered Selene's name and said once more that Selene's score was 1 point. Selene was dumbfounded. Everyone was also shocked with the result and they just thought they heard it wrong. Silver was mad as he couldn't believe that Selene's unbelievable movement was rated lowest amongst all, and also Chloe could not accept the result either. The goal of the spar is to analyze the individual abilities, so Chloe wondered why the evaluation standard was so high only for Selene. She wanted to complain, but before she could complain, a student stepped forward in the battleground and angrily screamed. It was Ronia. She pointed her finger to Instructor Grave, asking him what part of the spar made him give Selene 1 point. Chloe was surprised, thinking that Ronia was in favor of Selene this time. Ronia's guardian at the same time was upset seeing Ronia act mad once again. I'm the examiner here and that was my judgment, Grave answered. Ronia still pointed at him, telling him that he was lacking as an examiner and she didn't understand the score even if how much she would think about it. She pointed her finger at Levick behind her and angrily asked why Levick got perfect points while Selene got the lowest score possible. She accused Grave that he was bribed by someone, but then Grave didn't answer and ordered her to go back to her place. Instructor Musad interfered and glared at him, asking him if he was really sure that Selene only deserved 1 point. Still, Grave didn't withdraw what he said. He even confidently proclaimed that he was sure Selene only deserved the lower point. Musad then told him that those who had watched the spar were doubting his judgment and suspecting foul play. To calm down the situation, I feel like you should explain yourself, he added. Grave remained calm and showed everyone that he didn't regret the score he gave. But deep inside of him, he was aware that Selene really had the skill, but he didn't have a choice but to stop Selene, the Demon King's daughter, from becoming a hunter for him to survive. He started explaining by saying that Selene undoubtedly has amazing physical abilities and is resourceful and creative, so she has a lot of growth and potential. Even then, he concludes that Selene relies too much on her strength and her attacks lack technique and control. This means that she hasn't even mastered the basics. Secondly, he heard that Selene just awakened her magic power and she couldn't control it yet. For him, having no control over one's magic power is the same as being unable to use it. Musad clearly heard his reason, but Ronia still could not accept it. She wanted to give a comment about the evaluation standard of Grave, but Grave won't allow her to speak. His aura becomes scary in the eyes of Ronia and he reminds Ronia that the one with the right to make the judgment is no other than the examiner. Complain all you like, but I won't listen to them, he uttered. Ronia was so mad at him, and at the same time, Musad agreed with Grave that it's up to the examiner to choose what the evaluation standards are. Grave looked at Ronia to tease her while thinking that Ronia should become an examiner rather than complain too much. Ronia then angrily told Selene to say something about her score, but then Selene bowed down to Grave, which confused Grave and Ronia. Thank you, Selene said sincerely with a wide smile on her face. She believes that Grave gave her a low score in order to show her that she still has a long way to go. Grave was dumbfounded, but he said yes to Selene's conclusion. Selene then promised to try her best to improve, just like what Grave said. To think that there was a deeper meaning behind your evaluation. Indeed, Instructor Grave must also think highly of Selene and her potential, Musad stated while tapping Grave's shoulder. On the contrary, Ronia was mad and screamed angrily, asking them why these people accepted Selene's score easily while she could not accept it, knowing that Selene would rank low with the given score. It's not like I can't become a warrior if my rank is low, isn't it? Selene asked, and Ronia answered no, so Selene widely smiled and said that 1 point was enough for her. I don't know anymore. All of you are so annoying, Ronia screamed. She then declares that she will stay away from Selene from now on, and Selene then reminds her that they were rivals, but Ronia answered they're not. While Ronia was venting her anger, Chloe and Silber were laughing because of their cuteness and bickering at each other. On the other hand, Grave was staring at Selene in confusion, wondering why this girl was still so happy after receiving the lowest score possible. At the same time, in the Demon King's castle, Shin was staring at the window. He was holding his crystal ball and reached out to Grave using this ball. He then asked Grave how things were going, and Grave then informed him that Selene was accepted at the academy. He explains that he gave Selene the lowest possible score in the sparring evaluation so she could get the lowest rank, but upon hearing it, Shin gets mad, asking Grave why his daughter got the lowest score. Grave then reminded him that it was his order to prevent his daughter from becoming a hero. Shin then realized it and permitted Grave to continue his report. Grave then reported everything that happened yesterday, and because of it, Shin was full of anger. He dissipates the crystal ball and calls out Luke. Luke immediately reported himself to Shin, and he could see how mad Shin was. Luke, find out what and who the dark religion is. How dare they harm my daughter, Shin said. At the same time, Grave was annoyed at the Demon King because of his messed up personality, and he even wanted to destroy the ball to stop their communication. Going back to the Hero Academy, Musad showed them the dormitory allocation. He first gathered everyone to inform them all that the 8 weeks of training will begin tomorrow with the entrance ceremony. He then allowed them to check which room they were allocated to and rest for the rest of the day. Everyone then headed to their dorms with happiness, knowing that they could now finally rest. Selene was hoping that they were in the same room, and Silber was startled and asked her if she meant that every one of them, including him. Yup, we're going to have fun together, Selene replied. Silber panicked and wanted to say his gender, but then Chloe was checking the available room and saw that there were only double rooms available. Selene was upset and decided to check the room allocation. She then saw Chloe and Shan's names, which were allocated in the same room. She was so jealous of them, and she was hoping that she and Silber would also be in the same room. Silber said no since he was a male. Selene then checked the room allocation again, but then she and Ronia were in the same room, which is room 207. She was so disappointed while Silber still wanted to tell her that she was a male. She suddenly paused and Silber begged her to listen. Ronia suddenly came and called her. She turned around but she didn't see the little girl. She was sure she heard Ronia's voice and Ronia suddenly hit her butt and asked her if she had a death wish. "Ah, I knew it. You are Ronia, right?" she said, but Ronia was dumbfounded knowing that Selene didn't feel any pain after hitting her. "What do you mean? I knew it, you are Ronia. I already told you that you should stay out of my sight," Ronia angrily said. Selene then told her that she likes her but Ronia said they have different feelings toward each other. "Don't be like that. Let's get along well as roommates from now on," Selene stated. Ronia then asked why would she agree and Selene answered that it was because they were rivals. Roman suddenly walked near them so Ronia thought Roman would scold her. But then, Roman ignored her and approached Silber. Ronia and Selene were staring at Silber and Roman, wondering what's the reason why Roman approached Silber. "I'm Roman, your roommate. I'll be in your care," Roman said. They shook hands and Silber wished them both to get along with each other. Both Selene and Ronia were shocked and Ronia suddenly kicked Roman, telling him that he was crazy. Selene went to the ladies and asked how Silber shared a room with a guy. Chloe then said that there must be a mistake so she decided to tell the instructor. While they were talking, Silber was behind them. She told them to wait and he said that he thinks they misunderstood something. "What do you mean? It's not acceptable that you have to share a room with a guy. I cannot stand still as a priestess of goddess Irene," Chloe said. Ronia agreed with Chloe and she said she could not forgive Roman for this. Silber then spoke in front of everyone, and he told them that he was a boy and not a girl like his comrade and the others assumed. Everyone was shocked upon knowing it. They were all silent and just stared at the pretty face of Silber. The ladies asked once again and concluded that Silber was just lying. After clearing everything, everyone then went to their respective rooms. Selene was very happy as she landed on her bed. She felt very comfortable while Ronia was asking her how she just lay down on her bed instead of unpacking her things first and taking a shower. But then, Selene said she would just do it later. She was about to sleep but Ronia went mad and hit her head. "Roni, you're too harsh to me," Selene said. Ronia was annoyed upon hearing Selene calling her Roni instead of Ronia. Selene then said that Roni is just short of Ronia so it's the same for her. Still, Ronia was annoyed and told her that no one permitted her to give her a nickname. Selene then said that friends called each other by nicknames but Ronia reminded her that they were not friends. Selene decided to sing a song that she is now a cadet of the Hero Academy and soon will become an amazing hero. Ronia was so annoyed listening to her and she regrets that she became Selene's roommate. At the same time, Silber went to his respective room, bringing all his stuff but as he entered, he was blinded by a silhouette that he thought was a holy light. He then realizes that it was just Roman. It turned out that he was a bald man and he just took off his wig. Silber then greeted him and Roman then stood and saw Ronia brought a lot of stuff. Silber then told him that his mother made him bring all kinds of things with her. Roman carried one of his bags while telling Silber that his mother must be worried about him. Silber then answered maybe and Roman then said that Silber had a good mother. Silber didn't respond and just sat down on his bed. Roman feels a sudden sadness from Silber. He decides to give him a candy and apologizes for being so nosy on their first meeting. Silber accepted the candy and he was very happy with it. He then told Roman not to worry since it wasn't a big deal for him. Roman then said that they both are now friends since they were also roommates. Silber was thrilled as he answered sure. Roman also whispered to Silber, telling him to tell Selene to take good care of Ronia. He said that Ronia seems quite nice but can also be a devil sometimes. Time had passed and Shan was outside their dormitory in the late afternoon. She was practicing her skills but she stopped when Chloe came and invited her to have a talk. They sat down and Chloe stretched her body and said that the air outside was so fresh and the weather was so nice. She then said that Shan is overworking herself despite that her wounds haven't even fully healed yet. She uttered the name Slayer of Madness and Shan was shocked upon hearing it. As per Chloe, Slayer Madness laughs like a madman while committing massacres. But for some reason, it is said that this lady didn't laugh at all when she attacked Highland Forest. And she believes that the sole survivor of that massacre is none other than Shan. She asked Shan if it was really her but Shan was silent for a moment. Chloe waited for her answer and she stood then said that Slayer of Madness would definitely die by her hands. For her, killing Slayer of Madness is the only atonement she can make as the only one left alive. She walked away, leaving Chloe alone outside. Goddess Irene, this might be blasphemy, but I think that sometimes, out of your infinite love towards us, you give us trials that are more difficult than necessary, Chloe uttered. At this moment in time, Ronia was already full of anger towards Selene and she felt like she was becoming dumber every second he spent with Selene. She even wrote a dormitory allocation complaint hoping that she could transfer to another room. At the Dark Religion base, the members were discussing what happened to Harkus. The lady with red hair said that this is how Paraben is, and she was referring to the goblin in front of her named Paraben. Paraben then said that Harkus still completed his mission after all and he told the lady not to insult his subordinate. Their master then ordered them to keep silent and warned them not to cause a scene in the middle of a meeting. There were 5 of them, and a zombie questioned if all the personnel dispatched for the operation were dead. Their head then replied that everyone else was captured except for Harkus. I guess I gotta step up then, since you're gonna need someone to clean up, the zombie stated. But then, the head told him that there was no need because everyone was dead. He heard that everyone was in deplorable conditions behind bars and they killed themselves. One of their members raised her hand and asked them why it was very dark. This person was holding a dumbbell and none of them answered her question. She decided to turn on the light and it's finally bright inside. Anyhow, thanks to Harkus' noble sacrifice, the Academy's divine barrier has gotten weaker now, the head said. He's Lewin, the Dark Religion's one of the 5 great keymen. According to him, Harkus and the others retrieved all the mana stones, but it's gonna take time for the remaining demonic energy to disappear completely. He added that letting valuable monsters free was worth it. He called the people of the Academy as fools and concluded that those people wouldn't be able to figure out that this was just the start of their grand scheme. This is the golden opportunity to leave a strong impression on the people of the kingdom. Everyone, brace yourself, especially you, Reaper, he said. He believes that Reaper, the zombie, plays the most important role in the success of this plan, so he must be ready. Reaper was smiling evilly and answered, of course. I'll rip them all to pieces. He's also one of the 5 great keymen of the Dark Religion. Fool, you don't have to kill them. You just have to buy us time. You gotta create an opening for us to get into the Academy, remember, Bathory stated. Also one of the 5 great keymen. The 4th member of the 5 great keymen is Paraben, and he said that there's no need to occupy the center to complete the rune. He then told Reaper not to forget that they needed time to offer a sacrifice at that place. Lewin was glad to see everyone was motivated with their mission. Bathory then reminded him that they had been waiting for dozens of years to finally be able to see the Demon King. She was showing too much excitement, so Paraben told him not to get so excited as he believes that this isn't the end, knowing that the Demon King is just getting started with his resurrection. They were about to end their meeting and the 4 said together that all of them followed the demon's will in the name of the Demon King. But then, their last member suddenly spoke. She's Lee, and she asked everyone what they were talking about. The next day in the Hero Academy, all the students were gathered by the instructors and the school head. The 14th entrance ceremony for the Hero Academy will now begin. The head was holding the mic and he first congratulated everyone for getting admission to the Hero Academy. He was hyping all the students by telling them a saying, that is to work hard and become great heroes. After he sent his speech to everyone, Mused then spoke, reminding everyone that 8 weeks from now, they'll be going through full-scale hero training. As usual, Selene was so excited to start. On their first day of training, they were all on the running track and used their strength in running as fast as they could. Everyone does their best, but they cannot deny the fact that they felt tired in an instant. But Selene was enjoying the training and she was so fast in terms of running. Their running training is a total of 5 days. Everyone felt very tired while Selene remained energetic. On day 14 of training, Instructor Grave was teaching them a lesson, but this time, Selene felt sleepy. After more days, the 3 had learned magic using their weapons while Selene took more time to practice it. Luckily, she also managed to execute her magic skills. She was so amazed and her friends were so proud of her. 35 days later, Selene is already great at controlling her magic. On day 49, the Academy permitted them to kill monsters. On day 53, Instructor Grave submitted the cards of all the students under him, and surprisingly, Selene got a perfect score. Grave also provides his feedback about Selene. It was written on Selene's grade card that she walked briskly and confidently, even indoors. She was also very healthy considering how much she snores and sleeps during class. She also eats food without leaving any and eats appetizingly with her friends. Upon receiving the feedback, Instructor Mused felt that it was a bit too much. The training in the track still continues and as usual, Selene doesn't feel tired at all. After their running training, Grave approached her and asked her to tell her father not to come for the completion ceremony. Selene asked the reason why, but Grave told her nothing and asked her to forget about it. The completion ceremony finally came and Shin prepared himself to attend. Luke entered his room and asked him if he was ready. Shin smiled and he looked just like a normal human. The training completion ceremony was just around the corner. In the Hero Academy, students were ready and excited for the completion ceremony, especially Selene. They gathered in the hall and Mused is the one who will conduct the graduation ceremony on behalf of the Academy's headmaster. He introduced himself for the second time and gave thanks to all the parents and other people who made their way to the Academy for the graduation. Selene was smiling while listening to Instructor Mused. She then heard a familiar voice calling her name. As expected, it was his father, Shin. Shin was calling Selene's name so loud so the students turned around as they got distracted. Shin was emotional, staring at his daughter thinking that his daughter had grown up too fast. He was hoping that there was a chance for him to slow down time so he could accompany his daughter for more time. Meanwhile, the awarding of a warrior badge is about to begin. Musad then instructed all the parents to personally place the badge on the cadet's chest that the cadets got in advance. Everyone has been. The parents of the students followed Musad's instructions. They pinned the badge to their cadet. Levick was pinned, but it wasn't his parents. The one who pinned the badge to him is his father's subordinate, and all their maids attended. According to his father's subordinate, the patriarch was too busy, so he couldn't personally come to Levick's graduation ceremony. Levick didn't show any reaction. He then said that it didn't matter. He walked away while adding that he never expected his father to show up in times like this. Ronia, on the other hand, was pinned by her mother, but she was annoyed by the fact that her mother still treated her like a kid. "My little Ronia, was the training difficult? Did you have enough candies?" her mother asked. Her mother then handed him lots of candies, but Ronia didn't appreciate it and told her mother that she was not a child anymore. Roman at the same time was pinned by Ronia's father. Ronia's father asked him to continue his good work. Roman then told him that he did have a hard time, but he shouldn't be worried at all. Ronia overheard what he said, so she got mad at Roman. While she was scolding Roman, Shan behind her was sad. There's no one who could pin the badge to her chest. Someone suddenly came behind her and pulled her badge from her hand. Shan then turned around and saw that it was Chloe. Chloe was smiling at her, telling her that no one came from her family, so they must attach each other's badges instead. Shan agreed with her without knowing that there was really someone attending for Chloe. It's just that she wanted to comfort Shan's sadness. Aside from them, Silver was pinned by his maids. His mother attended, but his mother was disappointed that he only got a silver badge. She said that getting this silver badge doesn't meet their family's standards and prestige. Work harder and get a higher grade next time, the lady added without looking directly at Silver. Silver then answered yes politely, despite that he was sad about how his mother treated him. Selene at the same time was pinned by her father, Shin, with her bronze badge. Selene was so proud of herself and especially her father for her. "Just whose daughter are you? That badge suits you perfectly," Shin said, and Selene answered, "I know, right. But the fact is that Shin really doesn't like the bronze color and wants to give Selene a gold one just for cuteness. Now that you are qualified warriors, shout out your future goals." "I'm listening," Muse had said. Selene was speechless about what to say while the other students proudly screamed about their goals in the near future. Selene then screamed, saying that she would kill the Demon King no matter what happened. Upon hearing what she said, Shin felt like he was pierced in his chest. At this moment, Muse had informed everyone that a banquet had been prepared in the main building for the end of the graduation ceremony. Everyone, including parents, audiences, especially cadets, are invited to enjoy the banquet. When everyone gathered in the main building, they were surprised to see the banquet preparation. There's a bunch of delicious-looking food, and seeing all of these makes Selene drool and wonder which food she would eat first. At the same time, there were two parents behind them, talking about the platinum badge that the pink-haired lady's son got. The lady then said that her son takes after his father. She added that her husband, Count Blaine, used to be a hero too during his younger days. While they were talking, Shin overheard them. He glanced a little at the ladies and he felt nervous when he realized something. He realizes that Selene also thinks he's a hero back then. He was imagining that Selene would join these two ladies' conversation and would proudly say that her father was also a hero before. He was afraid that these two ladies would tell his daughter that they don't recall hearing the name Shin among the heroes. Most of all, they might have said Selene's father must be a fraud. He was sweating so much. He stares at his daughter, imagining that his daughter would discover that he was lying, then walk away while reminding him that she hates liars above everything else. He was afraid that this scenario would happen right now. He suddenly said no while hugging Selene from the back, and Selene slightly smiled at her, thinking that her father missed her so much. Shin doesn't want his lies to be revealed, so he tells his daughter not to tell anyone that he used to be a hero, as it was his secret. Selene asked him why, and he told Selene that he could not tell her the exact reason because it was confidential. "Anyways, do not tell anyone about me, got it?" he said angrily while holding Selene's shoulder. Selene stuttered as she answered yes, since she wasn't used to this kind of behavior from her father. Her father feels bad about lying to her, but for him, this is the best he can do right now. The party had started and Selene immediately ate lots of food. Her father Shin stares at her and says that she's so beautiful even though she's eating too much. Selene then invited him to also eat the food she was eating, and Shin then asked him to let him take a bite of the food she was holding. While they were enjoying the food, Silver's mother was staring at them and said that this father and daughter were classless for acting like this at a banquet. "Was the kid you became friends with and completed the tests with that uneducated kid, Silver?" she asked. Silver flinched and he was about to protect Selene's name against his mother. But then, his mother reminded him that he's a member of the Jin ducal family, so he must hang around with people of his class. She looked back at Selene and then saw the bronze badge on Selene's chest. She then said that Selene was classless and talentless, and she understood the reason why her son Silver only got a silver badge. Silver said that it wasn't because of Selene at all. Shin on the other hand heard how Silver's mother insulted his daughter. He was staring at the noble lady who was now scolding Silber for talking back at her. The lady said she was disappointed at Silber and Silber didn't dare to talk back again. Shin was still trembling in anger and wanted to attack the lady, but then Levick walked toward the lady, addressing her as Countess Besseljin. "It has been a long time, Countess," Levick uttered while smiling. Bessel was shocked to see Levick, and Shin at the same time wondered who this yellow-haired guy was. Levick went near Bessel and asked her if she had been well. The lady seemed to be nervous upon seeing Levick. She just said, "It's been a long time, young Master Levick." Levick was smiling at her and he said he never expected this lady to come to this place. He also figured Bessel would always be by Duke Jin's side. While they were talking, Silber was shaking and seemed to be scared. Levick looked at Silber while telling Bessel that it was a shock for him that she sent her one and only son to a faraway place, as he thought that Duke Jin had no intention of letting Silber go. Bessel then replied that they were so proud to see Silber aspiring to be a hero, so they didn't have a choice but to support their son. Levick then concludes that the lady means to say that it was Silber who wanted to enter the Hero Academy after all. "You must be so happy." Even though it was a trial, that was beyond the capabilities of Silber. Luck was on his side, and he grabbed the chance to become an honorary hero, Levick stated. Silber was trembling in anger the moment Levick said that luck is also a skill. Levick looked at Selene, who was enjoying eating, and he said he was able to get such a competent comrade. He even spelled the word competent while saying it. Bessel felt insulted on behalf of his son Silber. "Oh my, you're at such a fun party after so long. It seems I took too much of your time. Well then, I'll be looking forward to seeing you again," Levick stated and bowed down to Bessel. Bessel then gave thanks to him as a response. She then walked away and told Silber to follow. Silber then said yes, and he followed his mother while Selene was looking at them. Selene felt sad for Silber since she heard Levick and Bessel's conversation. Shin beside her was staring at Levick, saying that this young guy was pathetic. He likes Levick quite a bit, and he knew Levick was Selene's classmate. He concludes that Levick would be useful to him if he could win him over as he did with Grave. "You were wrong just now, Levick," Selene screamed, which startled Shin. Levick looked at Selene and was confused as to why. Selene then angrily told him that Silber is a diligent person, so he shouldn't downplay someone's efforts. She was staring angrily at Levick. Levick went near her and whispered, calling her a lowly bronze ranker who shouldn't act so great and go around lecturing others. Shin heard clearly how Levick insulted his daughter, so got mad at Levick and wanted to beat him up. Grave was also at the party and he saw how mad Shin was. He then smirked and told himself he was not involved in this matter. After the party, parents and visitors then leave the main hall, but Shin is still mad as he cannot forget Levick who insulted his daughter. While walking, the men in front of him noticed his anger. He clenched his fist and told himself that he would pluck all of the blonde hair of Levick's hair and teach him some life lesson one day. At this time, a wolf instructor was waiting for them at the entrance together with a lady instructor. These instructors informed everyone that they prepared lodging for parents and others who have come today so they can use it comfortably. One parent asked if it was for free, and the lady instructor said yes and instructed them to write down their name at the entrance. The people then gave thanks for their kindness, but for Shin, the school should have prepared the lodging inside the academy if they really wanted them to stay the night so he could at least spend time together with Selene. He decided to just use his portal to go somewhere more low-key, but then he noticed a purple energy coming out. This energy came from above, and by looking at it, Shin believes it is a demonic energy, specifically from a low-ranking demon. He was thinking that the dark religion might be behind this scheme, so he plans to play along with them this once. Outside the lodging hall, they all heard a chuckling sound coming from a monster. The guards were terrified and asked who it was. One guard then turned on his communication ball to inform the higher-ups that enemies were outside. Reaper then appeared in front of them, telling them to call anyone they wanted. Reaper then beheaded the guard without any hesitation, and the other guard saw it with his own eyes. He was trembling in fear while Reaper was staring at him. More guards then came and ordered Reaper to stop attacking. "You're committing the crime of murder and violence in the center of the city," the guard angrily said. Reaper then swung his weapon to this guard, but the guard was able to bend down and only gained a scratch on his nose. "Ah, what a shame. I could have easily made another corpse," Reaper uttered. A ghoul appeared behind Reaper to acknowledge Reaper's plan and reported that they invaded successfully. This ghoul also informed Reaper that they were all ready to ambush the hostages. Reaper then ordered him to kidnap all the hostages and bring them to their secret room. Reaper also asked him if their escape mission was going well. The ghoul then confidently answered yes and explained that they made underground tunnels in all directions and expected to be done as per their plan by the time they acquired the divine object. I see. After all, the only reason I bring you with me is because you're great at digging. Gotta make proper use of that, don't you think?" Reaper said. The ghoul feels honored, and Reaper then says that these minions should do the job properly. The next day, students of the academy were in their classes early in the morning. This will be their first class as an official cadet, so Selene was very excited. She asked her friends if they were also excited, and Silber then answered yes, while Chloe concluded that this class isn't different from the classes they got during the 8 weeks of training. But then, Selene was very confident that it's completely different now, and she also believes they do have different mindsets. Who was the one who got scolded for dozing off in theory class? Ronia asked. Selene turned around and saw it was Ronia. She then reasoned out that she couldn't help it back then since that class was way too long for her. In addition, she can only concentrate for an hour per day. Ronia is annoyed at her and believes that Selene is just giving an excuse. Selene was still addressing Ronia as Roni, which made Ronia mad and ordered her not to call her Roni again. At the same time, Silber noticed that the instructor hadn't shown up yet despite the fact that it was getting late. Chloe agrees and just concludes that their instructor is preparing for the class. Silber then also added that the morning meeting now might be taking longer because it's their first day after the graduation ceremony. After a few minutes, Instructor Mused came to their class, but Ronia still argued with Selene. Instructor Mused entered with a sad aura. He went to the table and was silent for a minute. He was very serious, so Selene and the others wondered why. Selene then concludes that Instructor Mused might not like the breakfast. Finally, Mused talked. He was telling everyone that something had happened that they must be informed of. The students felt nervous and waited for Mused to say what's the matter. According to Mused, the majority of those who attended the graduation ceremony last night were kidnapped by an unknown terrorist group. Selene became silent, knowing that her father attended the ceremony on the last day. At this moment, the students' parents were kidnapped and gathered in one room. One of them is Bessel. The old man behind her asked her if she was fine. But Bessel didn't answer directly and asked him where they were. I don't know that either. I was getting ready to sleep in my room, but when I opened my eyes, I found myself here. The old man replied. There is also a bald man who stands and angrily says he's leaving in an instant. He ran to the room, but then someone called him to stop. He checked who it was and it turned out that it was Shin. Shin said that it is better for them to stay quiet and lay low. Bessel was staring at him in confusion. Shin was thinking. He knew that the dark religion uses a large-scale teleportation spell with magic stones, so he concludes that the one handling this mess is very familiar with handling demonic energy. Aren't you the father of the kid who latched onto my son? Bessel angrily said to Shin. Shin then told her that it was her son who was the parasite. But why are you so rude? Don't you have manners? Fisk, seriously, you're just all talk. He added, and Bessel felt insulted. She bubbles a lot of things, but Shin chooses to ignore her. At this time, a ghoul pulled the bald man's foot and a lot of ghouls, including Reaper, went inside the room. The ghoul then threw away the bald man in the center, and the bald man instantly became so weak and thin. The ghouls had then reported to Reaper that they had eliminated the ones who tried to escape. I see. Good job, Reaper replied. The ghoul then asked for blood from Reaper as their meal, and Reaper then gave what they wanted. Shin sees everything and he concludes that Reaper is the leader of this kidnapping. But then, someone hit Reaper all of a sudden. I'm the one watching over them, you show off. Had it not been for me, you wouldn't have had even the slightest chance of getting in here. Don't forget that, Bathory said. She's also their family watching eye on the body of a mouse. According to her, Reaper's minions have never been able to step into this place. Keep that in mind, Reaper. This is what you call a debt, she added. Reaper was staring at him in confusion. He remembers that it was Paraben who helped him teleport to this place, and now Bathory is claiming that it was because of her, so he felt strange. Bathory was mad, spitting lots of words, venting her anger, but Reaper shut her mouth and told her to enjoy the sight in front of them. Let's talk about that stuff later, Bathory. You know that I can always call in the debt, right? He added. He then flinched as he remembered something. He asked Bathory if she forgot the debt she owed her regarding the Halen Forest incident. And with that debt, he offered Bathory to call it quits instead. Bathory was mad and said the incident he mentioned was more than 10 years ago, so she wondered how long would Reaper keep talking about it. Reaper then answered that until their dreams came true or even longer. Since their voices were loud, Shin heard everything and wondered what dream Reaper mentioned. Reaper then told Bathory to watch all their captives to the best of her abilities and not let anyone escape. Bathory then hopped down and told him not to cause problems by himself. Back then, we got another chance, but if we fail this time, then that's it for us, she uttered. She then exited the room and Reaper said sorry as he never needs second chances since he believes it won't be fun if there's always a second chance. At this point, he went to Shin and removed the chain from Shin's hands. Shin was confused as to why, and Reaper showed him the chain while saying that he was getting bored. He ordered his minions to untie all their hostages and the ghouls then followed his command. They untie all the people and the people wonder what would these monsters plan to do with them. To be honest, I want you guys to try and escape, Reaper said to Shin. For him, faces filled with horror, begging for mercy, is fun to see and he likes it very much. He then ordered everyone to stand and try to escape. Let's start a hide and seek game with a death penalty for getting caught, he said. Hide and seek, you say? That seems fun, Shin replied. He stood and approached Reaper. Reaper was confused as to why Shin looked him straight in the eyes. "What are you doing?" Reaper asked. "Aren't you going to run away?" Shin replied. Reaper laughed so loud and said that Shin is such an amusing guy. "What? You want me to run away? You just said that to me, didn't you?" Reaper said. "At least your ears seem to be working fine, you trash. If you've heard me, then go and piss off," Shin replied. At the same time, Bathory went back inside and she paused and stared at Shin. She can clearly see Shin's demonic aura. Shin was slashed a little in his neck by Reaper. Reaper then said that he is the seeker while Shin is the prey. Shin disagreed and told him to hide. He reminded Reaper that he already told him to hide. Reaper then heard Bathory behind him, telling him to be careful with the guy in front of him as she believed Shin was reeking of demonic energy. Shin then said that they must get rid of their unwelcome audience first before anything else. He casts his sleep skill to the people inside and everyone then falls asleep instantly. Bathory is also affected. Her eyesight slowly dissipates and she doesn't want to fall asleep since they have a mission to complete. But then, she cannot control herself anymore. She fell asleep, which shocked Reaper. He was wondering why everyone fell asleep. Shin on the other hand clenched his fist as he was activating his power and told Reaper that he would now find out what kind of scheme Reaper was planning. "What have you done to my hostages? I have to keep them alive and unharmed," Reaper asked. He then ordered his minions to kill Shin as soon as possible. The ghouls charged at Shin with killing intent. One ghoul tried to attack Shin but Shin remained calm and easily avoided it. Shin stares at the weapon that the ghoul used, then realizes that these monsters can control demonic energy. He knew that it wasn't difficult to use demonic energy and it had a nice destructive power, so he understood why these monsters chose to use demonic energy. More ghouls dashed to him and he then uttered that power that acquired easily always comes with a catch. He activates his demonic power and says that this power is always subdued by an even stronger demonic energy. The ghouls then confidently said that he would die today. The moment the ghouls tried to attack him, they suddenly flinched when they felt that their weapons wouldn't move. Shin then smiled upon hearing them complaining. Reaper at the same time went mad at his minions, reminding them that his order is to kill Shin. "It's useless, shithead. Your order won't reach your subordinates anymore," Shin said. Reaper then asked him what he had done to his minions. "You don't know, even though you're using demonic energy. You're an idiot on top of being ugly," Shin replied. He then laughed and said that Reaper was expecting him to say it. Reaper felt insulted by Shin's behavior. He swung his sword and ordered Shin to stop spitting nonsense. He then charged at Shin with killing intent, but Shin told him to go ahead and kill each other. The ghouls then dashed to each other and fought. Reaper was mad and asked his subordinates why they were attacking him. The ghouls apologized and reasoned out that their bodies were moving on their own. The ghouls started to fight in front of Shin. They killed each other while Shin was smiling as he was enjoying watching them fight. Reaper witnessed everything. He got nervous while looking at his minions killing each other. This time, he proclaimed that he failed the mission. He was so disappointed and there were 3 ghouls holding him. He screamed in anger and he said that this was fun and that he didn't dislike what happened. Shin was confused and Reaper then said that he was also good at this. He then attacked the ghouls holding him and killed them without any hesitation. While killing his minions, he uttered that he's good at killing and betraying, and for him, killing is the best of all. He attacked the remaining ghouls and Shin decided to join the fight too. "Dance for me, clown," he uttered. He suddenly ordered the ghouls to kill the Reaper immediately. The ghouls then charged at Reaper despite that they didn't want to. Reaper then killed them for him to survive. Shin just stares at him and he now sees how happy Reaper is because of the blood on his hands. He told Shin that a feeling of cutting through a person is the best. At this time, one ghoul who was lying on the ground told Reaper that it was the weapon getting controlled, so he threw it away. But then, Reaper uttered the name of this ghoul and the ghoul thought that Reaper would believe him. But then, Reaper said that he was tired of hearing this ghoul's voice, so he killed it. He also killed a ghoul named Bianca while telling her that she was ugly. He killed more and more ghouls until no one left. He screamed that he didn't need these ghouls anymore. After what he had done, Shin then said that Reaper was crazier than he seemed. "Nobody asks your opinion, so shut up. Can't you see that I'm having fun here?" Reaper replied. He felt satisfied and even wanted more ghouls to slay. He looked like a crazy zombie, hoping to kill more ghouls. He said that seeing these ghouls alive annoys him, and he said he never liked to see any of the Order alive. He looked at the surroundings and was satisfied to see lots of blood and corpses. He then looked at Shin, who was clapping, telling him that the view was nice. "For a piece of trash, that was quite an enjoyable show," Shin uttered. Reaper's weapon has blood dripping. He pointed it to Shin and reminded him that he was alone. Shin then smiled at him and said, "You're also the only one left." Reaper was also holding 2 weapons and he said that only one of them would be left standing in the end, which he likes the most. In addition, he likes Shin knowing that Shin is stronger and won't get controlled. Shin then said that for a piece of trash, Reaper has got quite a lot of tricks up his sleeve. In his eyes, Reaper didn't seem to be a mage or a necromancer. Reaper felt insulted knowing that Shin even thinks he's a mage. He screamed angrily, which caused the blood of ghouls to fly at Shin. Shin felt disgusted, but he didn't react upon seeing Reaper change into another color. He suddenly sat on the ground while calling his mother and complaining that he didn't want to study as he hated studying. Seems like he was talking to himself with different identities. Stop with the nonsense. There are more fun things at hand, right? He uttered, and he calls his mother once again, begging her not to hit him. At this time, Shin said that Reaper really lost his mind. Still, he believes that it could be quite fun to fight this madman. Anything else you want to show me? No, I mean, you will need more than that to fight me, he stated. Don't worry, I'll wipe that arrogant smile off your face soon enough, Reaper replied. He rose and screamed once again, calling all the ghouls to stand. He hereby gave them his blessing, and the ghouls this time answered yes. But then, all these ghouls rushed at him and attacked him. Shin then said that Reaper was committing suicide. Reaper was trying to survive since he never expected that these ghouls would attack him instead of Shin. He then ordered them to arise properly, and lucky for him, his blessings worked to the ghouls and all the ghouls got back to their senses. They were all so happy that they were alive again. Shin at the same time felt challenged with these ghouls' excitement. These ghouls were sure that they were blessed by their master Reaper, and they said that this is a miracle for them to have a clear mind even after becoming an undead. As per Shin, they don't even have someone with this level of skill back in his castle. He admits that this skill is a fun skill of Reaper. Reaper didn't give any words to him but instead ordered his minions to kill Shin. But then, before these ghouls could attack Shin, Shin jumped, headed to Reaper. Reaper was startled upon seeing him. Shin controlled Reaper's body with his demonic power while saying that he had become bored from playing with such lowly beings. He angrily told Reaper to hand over his memories and get lost. Despite that, Reaper wanted to resist, but it wasn't possible with the power of Shin. His eyes rounded, and at this point, Shin saw one of his memories. It was in the Halen forest, exactly the day of the massacre. Bathory was with him that day. They were enjoying looking at the forest burning. Reaper even said that the sight is very beautiful and he never regrets stopping by. While he was thinking, Bathory was silent. He then laughed and concluded that Bathory didn't find the thing she was searching for. He teases Bathory, but Bathory gets annoyed and orders him to shut up. I will find it no matter what, Bathory uttered. And Reaper then told her that she should find it whatever it takes. And that day, he mentioned that it would all be to someone who makes their dreams come true. Yes, I feel it. The children of Manhwa, pureblood descendants of the ancient race, Bathory stated. While Shin catches Reaper's memory, Reaper is moaning in pain. Shin then evilly smiled as he now knew that this group was searching for descendants of the ancient race. Reaper was shocked by the fact that Shin now knew it. Going back to the Hero Academy, students have no class because of the incident. After knowing what happened, Ronia was crying in fear, thinking that her parents were now in danger. Selene was beside her, calming her down by telling her not to worry since their instructors said everyone would be fine. But then, Ronia still cried so much since she could not ignore the fact that all the parents were kidnapped by a terrorist group. And did you not forget? Not only were my parents kidnapped, but your father was too. Are you not worried? Ronia asked. Selene smiled and confidently said that she believed her father would be fine. She almost told Ronia that her father used to be a hero, but then she recalled that her father restricted her from telling anyone about it. She was stuttering, then immediately said that her father has a good digestive system. Ronia was confused, then she walked away from Selene and got her bow. She informed Selene that she was going to the area where her parents were. Selene immediately changes clothes and also volunteers to go, but Ronia won't allow her and says that she only needs Roman. At the same time, she was shocked to see Selene instantly change her clothes. Anyway, don't follow me. You'll only be a burden, Ronia said. But Selene hopped on her back and said, don't be like that. Let's go together, I have to go and find Dad too. They both were shocked the moment they came out of their room since they both saw Roman, Chloe, Shan, and Silber in their battle clothes. See, I was right. I knew that they wouldn't stay still, Chloe said. Why are you guys here? Why is Roman here? Ronia asked while Selene beside her was very excited. Weren't you on your way to save Count and Countess Raffels? I know that there's no way to change your mind, therefore we will accompany you. Roman replied while extending his hand. Ronia felt thrilled and immediately rode to Roman's shoulder while Selene screamed, let's go save our parents. At this moment in the Heroes' Hall inside the Academy, they were discussing the incident that just happened. In this discussion, Musad and Grave were included. What are those punks planning? Paladin Commander Ian Beetlejuice asked. The other hero with him then answered that those terrorists hadn't demanded anything yet. Since they concluded that those terrorists captured terrorists, but wanted nothing, they smelled something fishy. Musad suddenly slammed the table and told them that the terrorists' motive wasn't the most important thing right now. Behind him is Grave, who nodded since he agreed to Musad. The most important thing right now is to confirm the safety of the cadets' captured parents and rescue them, Musad stated, which annoys Grave since for him, The most important thing to know is that the Demon King is one of those hostages. Musad then added that discussing the motives of those kidnappers is only a waste of time, knowing that those hostages were in danger already. Whatever their motive might be, shouldn't we just go straight in and rescue the hostages? Van Lionheart said, a hero representative. Musad then added that those kidnappers could recklessly kill the parents of their cadets. Grave didn't give any comment, but he was thinking that the parents of the cadets would possibly be killed by the Demon King. Van then said that they should get rid of those terrorists before those terrorists could kill the hostages. Musad was looking at him and said that Van was still just as obstinate as he was during his cadet days. Van laughed as it made him feel embarrassed to hear this kind of word from his teacher back then. He then became serious in an instant and reminded Musad that they could not negotiate with terrorists no matter what. For him, hesitating because they have to sacrifice a few hostages should not be an option for them. As per Ian, they're currently dealing with a crisis and they cannot be at a loss for what to do because of mere hostages. Musad was annoyed at how Ian called the hostages just mere hostages. He then reminded Ian and Van that he was in charge of this place, so they must follow his words. What he wants now is for them to devise other countermeasures before they receive news from the terrorists again. Since you are in charge of this site, I shall follow your orders, but my opinion remains unchanged. We will not be negotiating with the terrorists. Van replied. Their discussion was disturbed when a lady instructor came and called Musad. She went to Musad and whispered something. Musad was shocked when he got news from this lady that some cadets had left without permission. Even Grave was shocked. According to the lady instructor, some of the cadets who were worried about their parents seemed to have gone to rescue them on their own. Van looked very disappointed and he was uttering words, but he was cut off when Grave panicked while asking the lady which of the cadets escaped. Van was annoyed with Grave's behavior for interrupting his words, and he was staring at Grave, wondering who this man was. The lady instructor was shocked by how Grave reacted. She then said that there were about 6 cadets who escaped. She started telling the name while Grave was shaking in fear as he was afraid that Selene is included. He just smiled awkwardly the moment he heard Selene's name, including Shan, Chloe, Silber, Roman, and Ronia. Hearing Selene's name makes him think that he is now screwed. Going back to Shin's POV, he discovered that Reaper erased some of his memory so Shin won't be able to read it. Reaper was suffering in pain at this moment, and Shin then told him that he would figure everything out when he found out the children of Banwall that Reaper and Bathory were looking for. Even though Reaper was struggling, he still tried to speak, saying that he would find Shin and kill him. You're quite chatty for a dying guy. It's no fun anymore, Shin replied. He then declared that it was time for Reaper to die. He attacked Reaper with his strong power and Reaper was screaming in agony. After a few seconds, he fell to the ground lifeless. Shin then cleaned his hands and wondered what he should do next. He was looking at the ghouls' corpses and concluded that these ghouls were none of his business since he was sure humans outside would take care of these ones. He can leave this place with ease if he uses teleportation, but he believes that humans outside would probably notice. He walked inside while thinking of a way, but he suddenly stomped into the leader of the ghouls, then recalled that this ghoul mentioned that they were digging a hole to escape. Shin then used his teleportation and teleported into the forest. He destroyed the hole so no one could escape, and he was holding the head of the ghoul. Do they say even a worm will turn when stepped on? You did a good job digging. We'll meet again, Shin uttered. The ghoul was responding, but Shin didn't understand it at all. He then informs the ghoul that he already killed Reaper, their boss. The ghoul was laughing and Shin immediately burned it to ashes. Whatever, you can go meet your master in the afterlife, he uttered. He then checked how far the academy was as he was still planning to go back, knowing that Selene was worried for him. He was thinking that Selene would be emotional to see him safe. Thinking about Selene's reaction makes him thrilled, and he also wonders what Selene is doing right now. He immediately heads back without knowing that Selene with her friends are already headed to the lodging hall. Silber is the one leading the way by tracking the instructor's movement. With his ability, Selene was impressed once again. In a short time, Silber declared that they finally found it. They were almost near, but they didn't move since Chloe concludes that the hostages will be in danger if they make a hasty move. She suggested they scan their surroundings to be able to make a plan since there were lots of possible enemies outside and even had a tent. Ronia was glad that they were able to make it all the way here in secret. Roman then asked her a favor to get off as he felt tired already. Since they could not go through the way, he asked if there was another route. But then, Silber didn't respond about it as he was worried to notice his spirit friends felt weird. Selene asked him how, and Silber answered that the spirits seemed to be scared of something. They don't know that it was because of Selene's father who passed above them. Silber then said that it might be because of demonic energy, and at the same time, the spirits told him something was passing by. All of a sudden, Selene's tummy growls as she feels hungry. Everyone looked at her, so she apologized and reasoned out that it was because they had talked about headache-inducing stuff for a long time. She invited everyone to eat first, but then Ronia gets mad. You want to eat in this kind of situation? Even our family dog wouldn't be as calm as you are right now, Ronia stated. She gets madder when Roman agrees to Selene since he's health obsessed. Still, Ronia won't allow them. Selene sunk on the ground and said that she was starving, but Ronia told her to bear it. Selene suddenly smelled something familiar. She said that the smell is like the smell of their house. She followed the smell while Ronia was annoyed at her actions. Then they all saw a hole. In this hole, someone entered. Good question. I have no clue either, but it smells somewhat familiar, Selene stated. Ronia was confused about how the smell seemed to be so familiar to Selene. She asked her what she was talking about, and Selene suddenly sniffed like a dog to figure out what smell it was. After a few seconds of smelling the place, she then concluded that it seemed to be the smell of their toilet. She remembered back then she complained about the stinky smell from their toilet. Shin that time was too dirty and she was annoyed that her father stayed too long in the toilet. Shin was nervous that day and accidentally reasoned out that he needed to deal with someone. He immediately cleared his words by adding that he had a stomachache which caused him to stay longer in the toilet. Selene didn't notice the monster stuck in the door at all. According to her, when her father goes to the toilet for the big one, it smells like what she smells now. Everyone was so puzzled while Selene was acting like a detective. None of them could think about Selene's statement. On the other hand, Shan noticed something. Silber said that she isn't a translator or anything, so he also couldn't understand what Selene was trying to say. His words were cut off when Shan jumped at their back, causing them to fall on the ground. Every one of them was clueless about what just happened. Ronia gets up and she is annoyed knowing that it was Shan. She angrily asked Shan what she was doing, but she got cut off when Shan covered her mouth and told her to be quiet. I think I just saw someone. Stay quiet for a while, Shan stated. Silber was terrified and asked Shan if she saw a person. Selene then remembered that Silber said earlier his spirit friend seemed to be terrified. Now, she wanted to know if Silber could still feel it. As per Silber, it's better now than earlier since the spirit seemed less careful than before. Even he can also feel the evil energy from earlier has subsided a bit. Chloe slowly gets up while saying that no matter how she thinks about it, she can still feel something big must have happened in this area. She held her cross and told everyone that it seemed to be too late for them now to do anything. Selene's eyes suddenly rounded and she walked away without any words. Everyone called her name and asked her to come back. Silber even gets up and reminds her that it is too dangerous to be impatient. But then, the more Selene walked, the more they understood why. Even Silber becomes speechless knowing that it is because of the dead ghoul. This ghoul was lying on the ground lifeless, and seeing his corpse made Chloe horrified. She concludes that the evil energy they felt earlier might be because of this ghoul. She told everyone that this creature was a ghoul, and Silber was shocked upon hearing it. Selene at the same time thought that it was honey, since ghoul and honey are very similar in Koreans. Roman then corrected her that it wasn't a honey but a ghoul. According to him, ghouls are monsters created by necromancers by using corpses. They look like humans but have lost all rationality and only know the feeling of hunger. This time, they deduce that ghouls are their enemies. Selene checked the ghoul's pulse to make sure that it was really dead. Silber was worried for her and told her to be careful. Shan, on the other hand, stated that ghouls are living corpses, so it would be difficult to tell if this ghoul in front of them is really dead. But after a minute of checking, she was sure enough that it was dead. And even though it's a ghoul, she believes this type of creature cannot withstand this much damage and stay alive. Moreover, she doesn't know who did it, but she can say that the one who killed this ghoul made sure that it wouldn't come back to life. Chloe pointed the cross above the ghoul's face to purify it just to make sure it wouldn't hurt them. The purification of the undead is part of her duty as a priestess and also her specialty. I'll send you to Irene's side via express route, she screamed while lifting up her arm. She then smashed the ghoul's face and the ghoul's face shattered to pieces. At this moment, Chloe hopes that this ghoul will make it to heaven. A golden light emerges on her body and she suddenly becomes excited when Ronia asks her if it's really necessary to do purification using divine powers. Of course, no divine power, no heaven. That's the rule, she answered. I see, so smashing the head does the job. I can do that much too, Selene said. But Ronia said that Selene wasn't listening to Chloe's words at all. They moved a little bit since Chloe noticed that there were still a few more ghoul corpses nearby. She asked them to wait for a moment since she needed to send back the ghouls real quick. While she was busy, Selene looked back to the hole they saw earlier and she was wondering where this hole leads. Ronia concludes that it might be an underground tunnel leading to the mansion, and she also has a feeling that the ghouls were the ones who dug it. The ghouls? Why would they? Do they like digging? Selene asked. As if they would, you idiot, Ronia angrily replied. At this point, Selene already feels that Ronia is so mean only to her without knowing that she and Roman have the same feelings. According to Roman, it was said that the kidnappers used teleportation to get into the mansion, and the Heroes Association is aware of this fact, so he believes that the Heroes Association wouldn't have sat idly by. In addition, he was sure that the enemy also noticed it, so he deduced there would be a possibility that enemies prepared an emergency escape route for the worst-case scenario. Selene agreed with him. At the same time, she still smelled the same smell on their toilet and she couldn't understand why. Anyway, you're saying that they are smart guys, right? Selene asked, and Ronia was annoyed at her again as she said that it was only Selene who was dumb because she was confident that even she knew about this kind of trick. Roman also added that anyone can really think of what the ghouls did. But then, he's sure enough that not everyone can dig a tunnel. While they were talking, Shan suddenly picked up a black cloth and told everyone to check it out. According to her, this cloth had a sign of the dark religion, so she believes the kidnappers are members of the dark religion. Selene is still sniffing, smelling the surroundings. Ronia then said that if Roman's theory is correct, then she believes that the tunnel definitely leads into the mansion. She suddenly jumped down from Roman's back and added that they might not know how the ghouls ended up dead, but it was not a bad deal for them either. The important thing is that this case is our chance. A chance to infiltrate the mansion without the enemy noticing us, she uttered confidently. Roman looked at Shan and said, "But if the Heroes Association doesn't know about this tunnel, then we cannot expect them to send us help if we get into trouble inside the mansion." He then told Shan that it is better to inform the association first of their findings. Shan didn't respond at all. Ronia grits her teeth of annoyance as she hears someone saying that it would be best to get all the help they can. She told everyone that she wouldn't lose the opportunity to save their parents when it was right in front of them. She then asked Shan if she agreed to save everyone as soon as possible. Shan then replied that she'd gladly sacrifice her life if the dark religion was involved. Ronia was so happy with Shan's response. She then told the others that they could now go back if they were afraid to be surrounded by the enemies. She also promised not to blame them if something dangerous might happen to her. The three were speechless, but surprisingly, Chloe agreed with Ronia and she also decided to come with Ronia rather than staying behind without doing anything for long. She believes that there might be more ghouls inside the mansion, and it's her duty as a priestess to free these creatures from their sufferings as soon as she can. And what if the enemy notices that something's off about the tunnel while we're wasting time by going to the association? Then we just threw away our chance to save the hostages. So let's do this believing that the gods are on our side, she confidently added, and Silver was dumbfounded knowing that Chloe would also want to go inside the mansion and save the hostages. He was afraid to enter the tunnel just to confirm that it led to the mansion. Since the three of them wanted to go, Selene decided to come with them and show a heroic action. I didn't get what Shan and Roni said, but you're basically saying that the enemy is waiting in there, right? She asked. Ronia seemed to be not in favor that Selene would go with them. Roman at the same time thinks that he doesn't have any other choice either since Ronia really wants to go. He then told Ronia to always stay behind him to make sure she would always be safe. We're going to save them, and let's figure out what the terrorist bastards are planning, Ronia said with excitement. She was standing in front of her companions and they were all ready to go. At this moment, Grave is dashing to where Selene was. He was nervous and he was cursing in his mind because he was annoyed by the fact that Selene can't stay still. For him, Shin is so unpredictable even at the slightest provocation, which is why he believes his life would be in danger once Shin finds out that Selene went to such a dangerous place. He already knew what Shin would say upon knowing that he never kept Selene safe as what their contract had written. He was dashing as fast as he could, hoping that he would find Selene as soon as possible before the Demon King figured it out first. The father and daughter are really driving him crazy. All of a sudden, he flinched as he recalled a scene. It was the day of the ceremony when Shin was crying so loud while hugging Selene. You can always come back home if you ever want to quit being a hero, my lovely daughter. I'll be waiting for you with the best dishes ready, Shin stated. Selene pushes him away and laughs knowing that her father worries too much about her. On the other hand, Grave was already shaking in fear thinking that Shin would surely break every single bone in his body if he didn't keep an eye on Selene's movement. That day, he remembered he placed a tracking spell on the bronze badge of Selene and now, he doesn't want to imagine what would happen if he didn't. His main goal is to find Selene quickly and drag her back to the academy. He paused on a tree branch upon seeing a small cave. He was wondering what its purpose was and looking at it makes him feel that it's too suspicious. Besides, he can sense that this cave isn't worked by a normal human. He also smelled the smell of death which helped him recognize that the faceless corpses outside were ghouls. He hopped on the ground and concluded that this cave was used by the ghouls to make it an escape route. He walked near the cave while thinking about how these ghouls end up dead. What's more important for him now is that the tracking spell he cast on Selene is leading him into the cave. He was flustered as he deduced that the students of the Hero Academy, including Selene, were inside the cave. With the help of the smell, he realizes that this cave isn't a normal cave but instead a tunnel to enter or exit the mansion secretly. He clenched his fists and felt a little bit annoyed at Musehead for not telling him that there was a tunnel heading inside the mansion. He also wondered what their scouts were doing for not discovering the tunnels sooner. He was looking around while thinking about Shin's reaction upon knowing that his daughter was inside the mansion. He imagined that Shin would say that he would get rid of the incompetent guys like Grave who can't even watch a child. Imagining this kind of scenario made him scared. He then clenched his fist and told himself that he should stop Selene no matter what would happen. He then runs to the tunnel while praying to the god and goddesses to stop Selene from going any further than 10 steps. The 6 students of the Hero Academy successfully entered the tunnel by crawling. Roman seemed to be so tired and was hoping that Ronia would get down from his back. After a few minutes of crawling, Shan finally saw an entrance which she believed was the door heading to the mansion. They all then entered and noticed that there seemed to be some kind of storage underground inside. Roman suddenly called Silber and asked him to call the spirits to take a look at what's outside the door. Silber then told him to wait a moment since he hadn't completely entered yet. After a few seconds, Silber then cast his magic power to summon the spirits. When the spirits came out, he asked them a favor to lend their eyes to him. The spirits then headed outside of the storage room and Silber's eyes were closed while waiting for what he could see. The spirits passed by a stair and saw a huge door. The spirits entered and saw many unconscious people including Silber's mother. The moment Silber saw his mom with the help of the spirits, he panicked as he told everyone that he saw his mother. Well, that confirms it. We're underneath the mansion. See, I told you, Ronia stated. Instead of being worried, Selene was so excited while asking how many enemies they needed to fight. Silber closed his eyes again to check, but after a moment of checking, he declared that he never saw any enemies. Selene was shocked and asked if he never saw even a single enemy, and Silber answered yes. Roman then ordered Silber to check the other part of the mansion, and Silber stated that there were also no enemies on the upper floors. He didn't check every nook and cranny, so he wasn't sure if there were really enemies inside the mansion. Chloe then stated that it might be because of Irene's help, the goddess. For real. But I wanted to test my swordsmanship. I trained really hard with Instructor Grape, Selene said with disappointment. Ronia then angrily reminded her that it wasn't Grape but Grave. At this time, Roman felt strange upon knowing that there were no enemies in this mansion while all the hostages were still here. He then concludes that this might be a trap, and Ronia then confidently says she's not afraid of traps. Roman looked at Ronia and stated that she's not afraid, maybe because she has never fallen into one. In addition, Roman is the one who has to deal with all of the traps to keep Ronia safe. Ronia then told him that they were of one mind and one heart, so she believed it didn't matter at all if who had to deal with the traps. Still, for Roman, it isn't something Ronia should say to someone she's of one mind and heart with. While they were arguing, Silber agreed with Roman that it could be a trap, but from what he had seen, it didn't seem like one. And he doesn't think there are any traps installed on the door either. He then proclaimed that for now, it is safe to enter where the hostages are. Selene then stepped forward and said, "Then, all that's left is for us to check it out ourselves. Let's go, my friends." They all then headed in the hostages' direction, and when they arrived, Silber immediately approached his mother to check if the lady was still alive. At the same time, Selene was disappointed once again upon confirming that there were no enemies around. She then heard someone saying that hostages are the only living beings inside and everybody seemed to be alive and were only asleep. Selene kneeled on the ground and screamed, asking why there were no enemies. Maybe they went to the toilet. I mean, you've been saying that it smells like your toilet ever since. Rana stated just to tease Selene, but to her surprise, Selene ran away heading to the toilet while saying that Ronia is so genius. Selene suddenly stops running as she realizes that she doesn't know where the toilet's direction is. On the other hand, Shan asked everyone to move closer. Roman then asks her if she found something, and Shan stares at the blood on the floor, saying that this blood is evidence of a fight. So they fight amongst each other. Chloe asked, "You mean they killed off each other even before the real fight? Are they idiots or what?" Ronia added. But Shan said that those kidnappers weren't idiots at all. Chloe agreed with Shan and said that those people from the dark religion are definitely irredeemable trash but aren't idiots. She then asked Shan if she had more ideas about what happened, and Shan answered yes, but a part of her wasn't sure of her conclusion. She mentioned that there is another one. There was still more she was about to say, but Selene interfered and asked if this other one she mentioned was also an enemy. She runs back around asking where she could find the remaining enemy. She even sniffed at the people to make sure that these people were just normal humans. Ronia then told her that they weren't talking about enemies. According to Shan's conclusion, the ghouls were killed by one person. It wasn't a sword but a blade with a peculiar form. She deduces that it might be a scythe. While she was stating her conclusion, Roman was impressed at her for having this kind of ability. Shan then informs him that she learned it back in her hometown and she believes they will never know where and when they could be attacked by some demonic beasts. Selene's eyes sparkled while asking Shan where the enemies were, and Shan then pointed to Reaper's dead body. "Nice, leave it to me. I'll take them out alone," Selene confidently said while holding her weapon. She walked closer to Reaper's body, but she noticed that this monster was already dead. She then asks Shan if she's referring to this guy, and Shan answers yes as she feels a strong demonic energy from Reaper. Chloe agreed with Shan again and stated that even someone like her, who knows nothing about tracking, could tell that Reaper was a powerful being. She can feel that Reaper has an incredibly strong demonic energy, and because of it, she wonders what attacked Reaper. Selene looked disappointed for the third time while asking Chloe if this guy they thought of as an enemy was really dead. And Ronia angrily answered that it was very clear that Reaper was already dead. Because if Selene wants to fight enemies and try his sword skill, she even tries to wake Reaper up. Didn't you say that ghouls are dead people who were awakened? Then you can rise from the dead too, can't you? Selene asked to Chloe. Chloe then told her that she shouldn't wish for such things and that they didn't want Selene to jinx it. Roman then said that the situation was so strange and he wondered who killed the kidnappers. A voice suddenly spoke coming from the outside of the door, calling Reaper's name and stating that they're back. As expected, the ones who entered were ghouls and they never knew that Reaper was already dead. As they entered, they proudly said that they followed Reaper's order to dig a tunnel labyrinth beneath the mansion. And with that, they were confident they wouldn't have to worry about an escape route even with the Heroes Association people chasing them. These ghouls are a total of 3 and they looked so tired after digging a tunnel. They were smiling as they entered, but their mood changed the moment they saw that there's a kid stepping above their master's head. They then prepared to battle using the shovels they were holding. How dare you step on Master Reaper's sacred body? I don't know how you got here, but I'll never forgive you, the ghoul in front angrily said. Upon seeing them, Shan becomes mad knowing that these ghouls are also members of the black religion. At this point, Selene jumped at the ghouls without any words and kicked them. I knew it. You guys just came back from the toilet, right? Selene said while pointing at the ghouls. But then, the ghouls didn't have the chance to respond at all since the 3 ghouls were instantly knocked out by her. She was so upset since she never expected they would die so easily. Seriously? What toilet smell were you talking about? You smell maniac, Ronia said. Chloe at the same time purifies the dead ghouls while telling Ronia that Selene might have just sensed demonic power. She also concludes that there might be more enemies left, so she wants them all to take the people who were held hostage and leave this mansion before it gets dangerous. Roman also mentioned that he heard there are people who are especially sensitive to specific magic powers. Silver then stated that there were so many people they needed to carry out, so he suggested they should take care of these people in this hall first. At this moment, someone entered the room. It was Grave. He was panting heavily in front of the students. He looked so exhausted while asking everyone if they were the ones who fought against the monsters inside. Selene's eyes as she uttered Instructor Grape. Chloe reminded her again that it should be Grave. She then told Grave that the majority of the enemies had already been defeated when they arrived inside the mansion. Upon hearing it, Grave then concludes in his mind that it must have been the Demon King. He then asks if there's no one inside when they arrive, and Roman says yes and explains that some ghouls only appeared a bit later but they already dealt with them. Grave feels a huge relief thinking that Selene and Shin missed each other. However, he believes the situation isn't ideal either, and if someone witnessed this scene then he concludes that there would be media reporting the Hero Academy's students who were all believing that they were the ones who saved the hostages. He also concludes that the newspaper would be sent out stating that students at the Hero Academy eliminated evil criminals in one fell swoop. Most of all, Selene's name might be on the paper saying that she's the main student who defeated the dark religion. If that happens, he knows that Shin won't like it and will surely punish him. He can't let that happen no matter what, so he decides to make a way to get Selene out of here. He then called Selene and Selene called him Instructor Grape. He also corrects Selene, but then he realizes it isn't the best time for them to be chatting like this. Selene salutes at him while carrying the corpse of Reaper. She then told Grave that this was something she had to show him. The enemy's head is already dead too. What shall I do with him? She asked, but Grave told them that they must leave the mansion as soon as possible. A sudden explosion then happened and several men, including Musad, Van, and Ian. This is the Heroes Association. Hands in the air, Van said. Protect the hostages first. We cannot have a single casualty, Musad added. But they suddenly became speechless the moment they saw the corpses of enemies and the students of Hero Academy. The students also looked at them in confusion while Grave was upset and wanted to cry knowing that he failed to stay away Selene in this matter. Because of it, he believes the whole world is against him. It turned out that Shin wasn't staying in the mansion. He was heading to the Heroes Academy while thinking that Selene misses him too much, and he concluded that Selene would be surprised to see him. When he's almost at the academy, he is confused to see people running away from the academy. They were screaming in fear and Shin questioned what's the commotion inside. An old man then told him that he must hurry and run away since demonic beasts are currently running wild at the academy. Shin was thinking what a demonic beast it was, and the old man then added that he must run, and he stated that he didn't know how those demonic beasts ended up in the academy. Shin becomes speechless. He smirked and uttered, "Look at these bastards." He then headed inside and was annoyed by the fact that demonic beasts dared to cause a fuss at his daughter's academy. He noticed something inside. It was a magic which he believes is a summoning spell. Someone who isn't around is observing the summoning spell using the crystal ball. He chuckled and said that everyone did their job well according to their plan. At this point, Shin was shaking in anger. He said that he would never forgive once these demonic beasts would leave even a scratch on his daughter's face. A huge arm suddenly appeared right in front of him. He was shocked and wondered what this was all about. The members of the dark religion were in the area, which made Shin conclude that the one who made chaos is the people of the dark religion. He then heard these people that they were trying to summon the Demon King, and now they thought that their summoning had failed. Shin laughed at the fact that the dark religion only managed to summon an arm instead of him. It turned out that this arm is an ancient Demon King Goltara's right arm, a single arm from the old geezer buried in the back room. He was going to let these people off despite being so boring, but he decided to just show what they wanted. He started to transform into his Demon King form, and the two members of the dark religion were shocked to see his powerful aura. He said he won't let it slide a second time. He aimed to defeat Goltara's arm first. He charged at the huge arm and the arm expanded more. Before Shin could land at the arm, he told the members of the dark religion that he had made two biggest mistakes out of several mistakes they made today. The two were confused and asked him who he was. Lee then concludes that this man in front of them might be the Demon King. That's right. Your first mistake was taking too long to recognize me. The second mistake was you messing with my daughter. That's enough reason for you to die, right? Shin replied. The area where they then explode after Shin strikes an attack, and almost all the things in the surroundings including the building have been destroyed. Parabon and Lee ended up being unconscious in an instant. Also the Demon King Goltara's right arm. Shin stood still and said that he would take it as a clear admission of these people's faults. He suddenly remembered something, causing him to panic. At the same time in the mansion, the Hero Association guided the students to go back to the academy. They were so silent, and Grave reminded them not to talk unless they arrived at their academy. He realizes that he cannot say that the Demon King had been in the mansion and took care of everything. He'd rather make it seem like the kids did it all. Nobody saw what really happened, so he was thinking to let things roll naturally the way they are. While thinking, he heard Selene talking, so he got annoyed and reminded them once again that he didn't permit them to speak. We weren't the ones who did it. Heroes shouldn't lie, should they? Selene said. This isn't a lie. We're just waiting until the truth gets revealed. Grave replied. Selene didn't get the reason without knowing that Grave intended it for her not to get it. She then told Grave that they as heroes shouldn't do things that are considered wrong. Grave then said that it's the reason why she was saying that they should wait until they return to the academy. At this moment, Van senses something. It's a demonic energy, and he declared that the demonic energy's direction is in the academy. Grave was shocked upon hearing it. He was nervous, thinking that it might be the Demon King again. Every one of them then immediately headed back to the academy. When they were almost near, Selene smelled the aura of her father. They passed by a few people who looked very scared, so Hike ordered everyone to stop, saying that it was best if they asked these people about what really happened. Excuse me, could you please tell us what happened here? He asked. The old man civilian was terrified at first, but when he realized that it was Hike, the hero, his energy came back and started explaining it to them. Finally, they found out that demonic beasts gathered and attacked the academy while they were busy saving the hostages. The old man also informed them that a gigantic demonic beast was summoned in the academy the cadets managed to escape from. Judging from the concentration of the remaining demonic energy, Hike believes that there is a possibility that it wasn't a demonic beast but a high-ranking demon. Van then reminded him that the civilian mentioned a huge hand that was summoned, and he have never heard of a demon or a demonic beast with such an appearance. Hike then looked at Van with annoyance, asking him if he meant to say that his judgment was wrong. Van answered no, and he was about to explain further, but Musad interfered, saying that there is someone who managed to take care of the huge hand before they arrived. Grave was nervous upon hearing it, since he was sure that it was the Demon King. At the same time, Hike agrees with Musad, and based on the remaining demonic energy, he concludes that said person must be an amazing individual. But is there someone who couldn't have accomplished this? Van asked. Musad then recalled the time when they were at the mansion to save the hostages, but it turned out that there was already someone who saved them all. He then concludes that it might be that man who also defeated the summoned huge hand. Both Van and Hike then asked who the man was, and he just replied that it was a man who went to the academy during the confusion. Black hair, tall, and handsome. The moment he says it, Selene then thinks that it might be her dad, and hearing it from her made Van, Hike, and Musad look straight to her. But on the other hand, Grave panicked and got annoyed at Shin for not thinking twice about what he was doing. Meanwhile, Shin went back to his castle. He was panting heavily as he knew that he was almost caught. Luke immediately rushes to him upon hearing that he arrived. Luke was worried for him, asking him what happened. He then tells Luke that there is something happened that he doesn't even want to think about. Something you don't want to think about. How dare someone make your majesty flustered? I'll go to them right away and give them an early death, Luke said, but Shin suddenly attacked him and said, an early death? You want to do what to my Selene? Luke immediately apologized to Shin and admitted that he wasn't thinking right. Shin then told Luke to watch his words when talking about Selene. Luke was in pain. Blood splattered his head and he promised Shin that he would be careful with his words. Shin then walked back to his throne while saying that Selene had almost seen him in his Demon King form. Did something happen to the lady? Luke asked with a poker face. He was nervous as he thought that Shin was caught by Selene. Shin then said that he was able to run away from the academy as soon as he heard Selene's voice in the distance. Luke flinched, wondering why Shin would run away. Shin then clears out that he meant he retreated in a hurry. But as per Luke, both were the same, and since he said a lot, Shin activated his power and ordered him to shut up. Shin then informed him that there were people who tried to summon the previous Demon King. Luke then concludes that it was Goltara, the cunning demon who is considered the worst Demon King ever. He then activates his magic power while saying that there is no way mere humans could have succeeded in summoning a previous Demon King. He then proclaimed that he would definitely find out who was behind the summoning. Shin then told him that he really must, but then there is something more important than that. Luke then asked what it was, but then Shin became silent for a moment, making Luke very curious about the task he needed to prioritize. Go and check on Selene, Shin said. Luke was puzzled, then asked Shin if there was anything he should pay special attention to with Selene. Shin held at the window and informed Luke that he had destroyed Selene's academy building. Luke was dumbfounded upon hearing it. I still don't want her to become a hero, but I lost it for a second and destroyed the academy my lovely Selene got to, Shin said. He was rapping. He wants to go and comfort Selene, but he can't since he pleads guilty, which is why he commanded Luke to go and find out how Selene is right now. A few days later, Luke came back in front of Shin, so Shin asked him what he found out. Luke then handed Shin a paper and told him that the Holy See officially announced that the distraction was the doing of the Dark Order. Shin was so happy and said that the Holy See had done something useful for the first time. Besides, he agreed since he knew that it was really because of the Dark Order. As per Luke, the Hero Academy also announced that the practical classes for the new cadets would be rescheduled to an earlier time. Their classes originally included in the latter part of the curriculum, but due to the collapse of the academy buildings, they are close to rescheduling them. Just the kids by themselves, Shin asked, and Luke then replied that an instructor would be accompanying the students for evaluation purposes. And of course, the instructor accompanying Selene would be Grave. Shin then chuckled and proclaimed that it was good news. He imagined Selene's face saying that he should now be able to meet Selene more often. He was sure that he could see the cute face of his daughter whenever he wanted to when Selene left the academy. Now, he is grateful that the academy has been destroyed and realizes that he should have done this thing earlier. He stopped smiling the moment Luke said, however. Luke then asked him what he just did, but then he was annoyed as he thought that Luke was implying that he did something wrong. Luke was holding another piece of paper and he bravely told Shin to forgive him just once for questioning him. Fine, I'll forgive you since it's you. What do you want to ask? Shin replied. Luke then put the paper he was holding at the table of Shin and said, My great lord, the most powerful in the history of the demon world, the one and only true Demon King. It turned out that the paper he was holding was about the news of the father of a cadet revealed to be the one who defeated the ancient demon summoned at the academy. And of course, the news was referring to Shin since there was a photo of Selene. Luke goes crazy asking Shin how the current Demon King becomes a hero. They also didn't know that there was a video on YouTube about the biography of the hero Shin. It was said in the video that the hero Shin dreamed of becoming an ordinary father. However, he had to give up on his ordinary life due to a certain incident. He decided to become a hero to save people in danger, and for his own livelihood, he didn't hesitate to become a hero. One of the priests in a church also said that Shin didn't hesitate a second when a demonic beast appeared. It was also said that Shin wanted to live as an ordinary man and a father, but when he was faced with a new challenge as a warrior, he became the most warrior-like person. The parent held hostage proclaimed that at the moment of the kidnapping, he realized that Shin was a true hero. He also said that no one would have doubted Shin for a second, and Shin was the one who gave them hope in the situation. In the last part of the video, the creator said, if he isn't a hero, then who else would be in this time and age? Shin was dumbfounded upon hearing this news. When it sinks in on his mind, he was so furious, screaming that the news was bullshit, as he never become a hero. Few days in the territory of the dark religion, Lewin was talking with someone using their communication ball. There was an evil eye on the ball and the person inside that Lewin was confident in himself, and all he managed to do was destroy one of the Holy See's toys. Lewin then replied that it wasn't all, as he also managed to check everything that needed to be checked. According to him, the efficiency and the performance of the summoning have been clearly proven. and dealing damage to the Holy Knights was only a secondary goal after all. But you merely managed to summon the right arm of a former demon king, and it was easily defeated by some random person, wasn't it? You lost so much time and many people, but you're talking about proving something, the guy in the ball stated. And as per Lewin, there was no problem with the summoning spell as it was a simple difference in materials. He also mentioned that some unknown guy did appear and deal with the summoning of the previous demon king. But if their grand plans come true, he believes that it won't be worth their attention. The guy in the ball then chuckled and said that Lewin may be a human but he truly thinks like a demon. Lewin feels amused with what he heard and he claims that humans are trashy species that can easily be crueler than any demon. I see. I guess that's the reason the Archduke joined hands with a human like you. I'll be waiting for your next plan, the guy in the ball stated as his last words. And Lewin replied, all right, please do so. Lewin then walked to exit the hall but then he noticed someone and he knew it was Bathory. He then asked the lady what she wanted and the lady then reminded him that he lost 3 of his subordinates but he still acted very calmly. It's not like you cared for the others very much, no. Just like the one backing you, Lewin answered. Bathory was shocked upon hearing it. Lewin then told her not to worry since he didn't have any intention of making a fuss about her secret as long as she cooperated with his plan. Bathory then asked Lewin what he would do now and Lewin answered that he had to find someone, the last thing he needed to complete the summoning spell, and that person was Shan, the real children of Manhwa. Right now, Shan and the others were ready to go on their practical classes. Selene was so excited as she thought that this practical class was the same as an adventure of real heroes. She was jumping in happiness and screamed that they were now heroes. Silver then reminded her that they're not real heroes but only temporary ones. Besides, they were not going on an adventure but only practical classes. Chloe then told Silver that it wasn't important right now since she guessed that Selene was just excited because she got to do good deeds as a hero. Yeah, yep, me like it, Selene said, and seeing her so happy made Chloe happy too. Chloe suddenly kissed Selene and told her to do everything she wanted to do. Shan at the same time asked Silver if they were only the ones who would go for practical classes. Grave suddenly appeared and said, of course not. An instructor will accompany you for the cadet's evaluation and in case of an emergency. Grave doesn't have any excitement at all. As per Grave, this is just a precautionary measure that they have always followed. And according to the curriculum, students will be the ones doing all the work. Upon hearing it, Selene feels hungry as she thinks that Grave mentioned a curry. Chloe then said that it isn't a curry but a curriculum, which means that these classes are part of their training program. Grave smiled ironically thinking that everything bad happens to him is because of the Demon King. What he really wants is to become rich, escape from all the bonds and restraints of the world, and find freedom. But then, he ended up coming back to the academy just because of the order of the Demon King that he needed to do. He could not believe that incidents kept occurring, but he was sure it was because of Selene after all. We'll be in your care again, Instructor Grape, Selene said. She was staring at Grave with her shimmering eyes, but then Grave stared at her with annoyance, blaming her and her father for everything. Mossad then calls everyone's attention to declare that the practical classes will be starting now. Under the guidance of students and instructors, they will head off to their designated locations. The instructors were holding a map. Grave then told Shan, Silver, Chloe, and Selene to get going. Silver then asked him where they were going. Grave then realizes that he forgot to tell the kids about their destination. According to him, they were heading at the Lautine Kingdom, specifically the harbor city of the Anis Dukedom, Alero. Everyone was shocked upon hearing it, especially Silver. Silver looked at Levick who was also staring at him with annoyance. They then started to travel led by Grave. While walking, Selene asked Grave when they were having lunch. Grave then reminded her that she just had some food. At the same time, there are 2 people following them. It was Luke and Shin, and they found out that Selene and her team were going to a city called Alero. Shin believes that the place would make Selene decide to quit being a hero and just hang out with him once they see each other by the sea. And Luke then agrees with him. At this moment, Chloe felt that Silver was nervous so she cheered him up. She held his shoulder hoping that he would feel better. They weren't aware that Levick and his team were behind them. Ronia belonged to the team of Levick and she asked Levick if he was in love with someone from the group in front of them since his stare wasn't his normal way of looking at people. Are you going to confess your feelings or what? Ronia asked. But Levick and his 2 friends were dumbfounded. Roman then nagged Ronia that her words were so rude that would surely anger Levick. Ronia was poking her ears because of hearing Roman's nagging toward her. Then she heard Levick say, it seems like you're having vulgar thoughts after hanging out with those low-class guys. Ronia de Raffels. Ronia then turned around, staring at Lebec with annoyance. Roman then told Lebec that his words went too far. Lebec then said that they, as nobles, must maintain a certain level of dignity. He warned Ronia to better watch her mouth for the sake of the Count's reputation. He also said that he was hoping Ronia wouldn't cross paths on their mission. And right now, he admitted that Ronia annoys him. Ronia was furious at him and asked him to repeat what he said. Lebec's friend behind him was activating his flame, ready to fight back since Ronia was also activating her power. Roman then asked Ronia to calm down, knowing that Lebec was just picking a fight with her. Ronia and Lebec were glaring at each other. Newsed then came and told Lebec that he had been assigned his first mission. Newsed handed a paper to Lebec telling him that this was his dispatch appointment letter. Lebec then accepted the paper and checked it. He was shocked upon reading it since the place where he needed to go was also the harbor city of the Lautine Kingdom, Alero. Unfortunately, the city is in the territory ruled by Lebec's family. Lebec was still dumbfounded as he never expected that his mission would be in his own place. Going back to Shin, he asked Luke why he was with him. Luke was confused and Shin then asked, "Why are you coming along when I just want to have a nice time with my daughter?" Luke then turned around and replied that he was still his subordinate, and that he also missed Lady Selene as well. But then, Shin commanded him to go back to the castle. Luke doesn't have a choice but to do what Shin ordered. He bowed down and Shin then told him that he was the only one he could trust. Luke was surprised upon hearing it. Shin then asked him to go and find those who were still resisting his rule, believing that those people would make their move in his absence. Luke cried in happiness since this was the first time he heard from the demon lord that he trusted him so much. "Anyway, you're the only one I can entrust this task to. I'll be waiting," Shin said. Luke then replied, "Yes, your majesty. I'll definitely find them." Shin didn't respond and continued following his daughter. He suddenly feels thrilled thinking that it is now time for him to start thinking about how to spend a nice time at the sea with his lovely daughter. He was jumping imagining that Selene would be happy to see him again. After a long way of traveling, Selene and her team finally arrived at Alero Harbor. Selene was so happy, screaming that the wind was very refreshing. She was also impressed seeing pretty buildings. Silver then told her that they should go up to the observation platform later if they had time, since the city is even prettier from there. Chloe then asked him if he had come to this place before, and he confidently answered yes and stated that he had come to Alero a few times when she was young. Grave moved closer to them, telling them not to get too caught up in their excitement since completing a mission was the reason why they were here. Silver then asked what's their mission since he remembered Grave said before they arrived that he would discuss it after arriving in Alero. Grave then told them the mission, and that mission is to exterminate Jellifish. Silver was dumbfounded while Selene was so excited since she had read about Jellifish in a storybook, believing that these beings fly around like balloons. Alero is a world-famous harbor city known for being a dispatch location. However, a swarm of dangerous jellyfish has appeared by the coast. They're much larger than normal jellyfish, and their swarm is said to be massive. As per Grave, the reason for their sudden appearance is still unknown, but the citizens of Alero, as well as the ships sailing in and out of the harbor, are helpless against them and have been inconvenienced in various ways. Selene looked around and noticed something far. "Are those things over there the jellyfish you're talking about, Instructor Slave?" she asked. Grave was not bothered that Selene uttered his name wrong once again. He then answered yes and stated that jellyfish hadn't come into the harbor itself, but it seemed like they were close enough to be seen from where they were standing right now. He proclaimed that this might be on a larger scale than he thought. Selene was about to say a but, however, Grave blocked her and told her to be careful. As per Grave, jellyfish may look harmless according to the report from the Heroes Associations, but they're vicious beings that randomly attack people passing by the coast. Selene then said that she thought the jellyfish were dead. Grave was calm and replied that he knew. He explains that jellyfish attacks are so bad that the coast is covered in dead bodies. But then, before he could complete his words, it then sinks into his mind that the coast is really covered with dead bodies of the jellyfish. He wondered why, since jellyfish were known as incredibly strong and hard to exterminate. Suddenly, someone fakely laughed. Surprisingly, it was Shin. "Did you think I'd stand by idly and watch my dead daughter get her hands dirty by dealing with those jellyfish?" Shin said. Grave was dumbfounded upon seeing the Demon King, thinking that there was another trouble Shin was planning to cause next. Selene at the same time was also surprised to see her father, and since she uttered father, her three companions confirmed that the unknown man in front of them was really Selene's father. They were shocked, believing that Shin was the hero who saved their academy. Shin then jumped towards Selene with his wide open shoulder. But then, Selene was annoyed, so Shin ended up falling into the ground. Selene told him that what he did wasn't right. Shin then asked her why, and Selene was very mad, crossed her arms, and then pointed her finger at the coast while telling Shin that he didn't clean up his mess. If killed those jellyfish, then you should also get rid of their carcasses, she added. Selene then clenched her fist and told her father that he should help make things easier for the other people as a hero. Shin was sweating and nervous. He was wondering if being a hero is all about revered by humans. He then believes that heroes were fighting against him as the Demon King while being treated like a slave. He awkwardly laughed and lied that he just finished killing all of the jellyfish and was about to start cleaning up. He then raised his sleeves and said that they should now go and clean. Selene then also showed her muscles and agreed with her dad. They jumped on the water, leaving the four above, and at this point, Grave concludes that nobody would believe him if he told these three that the man together with Selene was the Demon King. Meanwhile, they managed to pile all the jellyfish. Selene was so happy while Shin felt satisfied and believed that the thing he did was what being a hero means. The three students then looked at the jellyfish and realized huge it was and also became soft. Selene then lay on the jellyfish to confirm that the jellyfish was really soft. I'll be taking care of this team from now on. I assume that you have no complaints about that, Shin said while staring at his daughter. Grave then said that he didn't have any complaints, but he just wondered why Shin would like to take care of the children. Shin was annoyed and asked Grave if a father needed a reason to spend time with his daughter. Grave then answered no, then asked Shin if his plan would be alright despite that he's known now by a rather troubling title, which is a hero. Shin was not worried at all since his face wasn't revealed. Grave then warned him that something might happen once his identity was revealed to everyone. Shin glared at him and said, exactly. We should be careful then, right? And Grave then promised to do his best. Shin then commanded him to say they're next on the schedule. He doesn't like engaging with humans at all, but if he can be with Selene, it doesn't matter to him now. He was expecting to make good memories together with his daughter traveling around. To his surprise, Grave replied that the mission wasn't completed yet. He was confused as to why, since they exterminated all the jellyfish. According to Grave, it's really important to kill the jellyfish off, but investigating the reason for their sudden appearance is part of the mission. Shin was so annoyed since he came all the way here early to get rid of the jellyfish, but then it turned out that exterminating it all isn't the main mission. Grave was staring at him complaining, and he was annoyed at Shin since no one ever told Shin to help. Shin was about to walk to search for the main reason for the sudden appearance of the jellyfish, but then Grave stopped him and said that there was something he needed to ask before anything else. What is it? Ask quickly. I want to spend some time with Selene before I set off again, Shin stated. Alright, let me ask you directly then. You don't want your daughter to become a hero, right? Grave asked, and Shin then honestly replied yes. Grave then asked him why he was trying to help her out. He informed Shin that they would get the attention of the Heroes Associations once they completed the mission perfectly. And contrary to Shin's wishes, his daughter will become a hero. Shin was puzzled upon hearing it. He was convinced after hearing Grave but remained silent because he was pissed. Grave at the same time realizes that Shin never thought that far. Listen carefully. If you don't want your daughter to become a hero, then just stand by and watch. That's the only way to stop your daughter from becoming a hero, he stated. Shin then agreed with Grave, so he said that he would keep it in mind. However, this is a but. He didn't tell it to Grave, so Grave got confused. They were talking behind the jellyfish so no one could see them. Shin used this chance and kicked Grave, believing that Grave thought they were friends or something because he hadn't beaten him up for a long time. After their discussion, they then went back to the students and Gray informed them that they would start the investigation on their own. They talked to the citizens to get some information and then they gathered after an hour. Chloe informed everyone that she had heard that the current in the water is fast, and the narrow channels make the passage dangerous, so people avoid that area. But based on the ocean currents and the fact that the jellyfish in other areas weren't affected by these abnormalities, she believes there's a high chance that it was caused by the shipwreck. Grave listened to her carefully, and after she said the information she had, Grave then told everyone that they should start investigating the shipwreck first thing tomorrow morning. The kids managed to find out all of this information so easily, so Grave wondered why the place was being avoided and neglected. In addition, there was also a sudden rumor about ghosts. He then concludes that there might be something wrong happening in this place. The place is located on an island. People were scared knowing that there were ghosts in their hometown. They were all planning to evacuate, so they were waiting for a ship to arrive. Luckily, there is a ship that landed on the island. Selene was so excited and informed everyone. The ship is very huge and it bumped into a huge rock. So there's something bad in here, right? Selene asked, and Silber replied, it's just a theory, Miss Selene. Selene then screamed with excitement, saying that they should quickly get rid of the thing bothering the people. I just told you that nothing is certain yet, someone said. The guy who spoke was someone who just arrived with the ship. Silber and Selene then looked at the guy, and it turned out that it was Levick and his people. He ordered everyone to return, and he declared that the territory belonged to their Duke Annis. Levick then heard Selene asking him what he was doing in the same place. Their flag is waving above the ship. Levick then told them that he wouldn't forgive them if they took one more step closer. Silber was terrified upon knowing that the flag on the shipwreck was the same as the Annis ducal crest. At this moment, someone passed through Selene at a fast speed. Surprisingly, it was her father, Shin. Shin hit Levick using his head, and Levick ended up flying away and bumped on the rock. Grave and Levick's men were dumbfounded seeing someone easily hit Levick. Shin stood in front of Levick with a smile on his face. He stomped his one foot on Levick's stomach while calling him kiddo. Levick at the same time was bleeding, and he never expected someone would hit him. So what if you don't forgive us? Shin asked. Levick feels deja vu, since the feeling he feels right now is a similar way to the day when Selene kicked him strongly on their first day of school. In Annie's dukedom, office of the Night Order commander, 7 knights have died suddenly of unknown causes during the last month, and 16 knights have shown signs of rapid aging. Duke Anna's eldest son, Blaine de Annis, stated that their Night Order is stronger than ever before right now, but their strength is being weakened by an unknown cause. One of his men agreed with him and suggested finding out the reason behind the helpless deaths of his subordinates. Blaine then replied that he had received a message the other day about it, and he was now aware that the cadets from the Hero Academy had already set off to investigate. The knight was shocked upon hearing it, and Blaine then added that Levick was the one leading the cadets in charge of the investigation. He was happy that his younger brother Levick is someone who prioritizes familial duties more than anyone else. Going back to the shipwreck, Shin still didn't remove his foot from Levick's belly. At this moment, Silber was staring at Levick, and he flustered while uttering Levick's name. The memory of when he and Levick first met is then recalled into his mind. That time, Levick bumped him but offered to help him stand. As per Levick, he wanted to greet Silber since he's the son of Duke Jin, but he couldn't step out of the way because Silber approached him so fast. Silber then asked his name, and he replied that he was the second son of Duke Annis, Levick de Annis. Behind him was Marco, the third son of Count Callian and Nord de Dwayne. Levick then raised Silber, and Silber then gave his name to them. Surprisingly, Levick declared to give Silber the honor of joining their club. But then, Silber was clueless about what club Levick was referring to. Levick then replied that it was the Club of the Great Families. Silber was speechless, but a part of him was thrilled. He agreed to join Levick's clan, and Levick then informed him that the first golden rule of nobles is to drink tea elegantly. The second is to study economics. The third is to become a great warrior. Silber was enjoying their company not until Levick's friend called him during their sword training and whispered something to him. Levick then looked back at Silber and said, You said you're the Duke's son, but you're actually the child of a concubine. Silber flustered. He doesn't know what's wrong. He extended his hand, trying to reach Levick, but Levick pushed him away and ordered him to get his dirty hands off him. Silber then replied that he wasn't dirty. But then, Levick and his friend walked away while telling Silber not to act like he was close to them. Silber just uttered Levick's name, and he was hoping that Levick would go back and treat him as a friend again. At the present time, Silber closed his eyes while remembering that day. He tried to stop himself from caring for Levick, but then, he suddenly ran towards Levick while screaming Levick's name. Shin paused for a moment, wondering why Levick was very weak. He removed his foot from Levick's belly since Silber came and kneeled in front of Levick. Silber asked Levick if he was fine, but then he noticed that Levick was unconscious. Shin was puzzled. His original purpose is to give Levick a warning and escape his hero image, but he failed to control his strength. At this moment, he knew that he screwed up. How dare you attack our young master? The knight said. They call Shin an insolence, and Shin suddenly releases a scary aura, making the knights terrified at him. It turned out that Shin was just mad knowing that he did something crazy again. He was sweating. He didn't move. He was wondering what he should do now that he messed up again. Then, he thinks of a way. He was planning to let himself be defeated by the knights when Selene was not watching. He then told Grave and Selene that he would take care of the knights alone. He permitted Grave and his daughter to do what they came for. He was looking straight at Grave, and Grave then got what he wanted to happen. Our mission comes first. Let's go and find clues and evidence on the shipwreck, Grave stated. And the three then answered, Yes, sir. They then headed to the ship, and Silber decided to join them. The knights were furious at Shin for defeating their master. Shin was calm, planning to be defeated easily by these people. But then, the knights were suddenly knocked, and he thought that these people might be affected by the side effect of his power. Now, stand up, you useless bastards, he screamed with anger. Meanwhile, Levick regained consciousness. He first saw Cyber and Selene asking him if he was now fine. Lebec then pushed away Selene's face while he answered that this much was nothing to him. Silver at the same time then called Grave, informing Grave that Lebec is now awake. Lebec looked around, seemed like he was searching for something. Grave notices him and he concludes that the thing Lebec was searching for is this pouch in his hand. You said you're Lebec de Anna's, right? Grave said. Lebec ran toward him and tried to steal the pouch, but Grave instantly moved away his hand. The students he handled were staring at them and they were all clueless. Then, they noticed a dark aura of Lebec. Lebec then heard Grave saying that it looked like he knew what was in the pouch. Lebec then looked at Grave and asked him to give the pouch back to him. I cannot do that because it is an item that must be reported to the Heroes Association immediately upon discovery. Grave replied, sorry to break the news, but the Heroes Association is already aware of the existence of that item. And Instructor Musad entrusted this mission entirely to me. Lebec stated. Grave was shocked upon hearing it. Lebec then proclaimed that what he said was true and the mission was related to his family, so Musad allowed him to resolve this on his own. Grave was speechless, so Lebec got the chance and stole the pouch from him. Inside was a body enhancement pill, Testamine. It can dramatically increase one's physical ability for a short period of time, but taking the pills regularly can result in the rapid aging of one's body as a side effect, which is why Testamine is usually reported immediately upon discovery as per Grave. Upon hearing it, Shin realizes that the knights were drug addicts, which is why they suddenly collapsed together. If Musad entrusted you with this despite knowing that, then there is nothing more for me to say. Take good care of things here, if you don't want to tarnish your family's honor, as you've always tried not to. Grave stated, and Lebec was just silent. Shin at the same time approached Grave, telling him that he sounded like an instructor just now. Deep inside, Grave wanted to squeeze Shin and tell him to stop doing weird and troublesome things. But since he was scared of Shin, he just casually replied that he's an instructor after all. Shin then asked if their mission is now finally done, and Grave then concludes that the answer was yes, since another team has been assigned to handle the situation. Besides, not to interfere is the best option after all. Surprisingly, Selene disagreed with him. She was mad, saying that Hero doesn't tolerate injustice. Grave was confused while her father didn't dare to debate with her. Selene pointed at the knights and repeated what she heard, that those drugs were bad. And for her, a true hero wouldn't stand by idly and watch things unfold. She asked Shin's comment about what she said, and of course, Shin agreed with her to avoid any conflicts. Grave was annoyed seeing Shin agree with Selene, especially since it was Shin who didn't want Selene to become a hero in the first place. Silver also agreed with Selene. Besides, he was worried that Lebec was injured and he knew Lebec would surely push his limits by continuing the mission. Chloe then also said that it was their mission after all and there are still things left they need to check. As per Shan, their mission was to investigate the Jellifish's abnormal behavior, and of course, they could not put any explanation on their report if they hadn't found out the cause yet. Grave then told them that Lebec's team had received their mission directly from Instructor Musad, so everything that has happened and will happen will be Instructor Musad's responsibility, and is none of their business. Someone said no, and again, it was Selene. Selene claimed that the mission was also part of their responsibility. Grave was puzzled. He doesn't know how to explain it at all. He was annoyed at Selene for being so hard-headed. But then, Shin whispered to him, asking him why he was hesitating if his daughter wanted to do it. Grave was smiling fakely, but deep inside, he was irritated at Shin and Selene, a pair of unmatched busybodies. And if not because of the contract with Shin that he signed, he's willing to beat up them both. Interfering with another team's mission could be misinterpreted as us trying to take credit for their work. Are you still up for it despite that? Grave asked, and everyone answered yes without any hesitation. Since Grave doesn't have a reason, he then declares that they now proceed with their mission. Shin was so happy while staring at Selene since he admired her for smiling genuinely. He doesn't know that Grave was thinking of him, who secretly wished his daughter to become a hero. Selene and the others started heading their way while Shin told Grave that he would make whatever Selene wanted to. As usual, Grave wanted to stop him, but then he could not argue with the Demon King. Right now, there was someone who arrived at the Alero city in front gates of the ducal manor together with 4 knights. The knights guarding the gate looked at each other thinking if they should let the visitor in. Musad was inside together with Lebec, who proclaimed that he had never considered his mission a failure. Lebec had a bandage on his head because of the wounds he got from Shin. Despite that he feels a little bit weak, he is still very eager to complete his mission no matter what. I hope you're aware that the cadets mission has equal rights to any mission from the Heroes Association. That means that the Heroes Association cannot punish the culprits if the cadets find them first, Musad stated. Lebec was annoyed while saying that he would make sure that those who spread the testimony would get punished. After discussing, Mused then permitted Levick to leave and start with his mission. Levick exits the hall and his friends are worried for him, believing that he has been scolded. They also asked him if everything was fine, and he replied that their mission had not ended yet. As long as the results are good in the end, he believes everything should be fine. Nord asked about what would happen to the guests, but seems like Levick was clueless. They then saw someone standing downstairs. It was his brother Blaine. "Long time no see, brother. It's a relief that you seem healthy," Blaine said. Levick then asked why he was here, and he then smiled, saying that Levick was so cold toward him despite that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. Besides, he believes he doesn't need any reason to come see his dear younger brother. "That might be so for other people, but you shouldn't have come here," Levick said. Because of his words, Blaine concludes that Levick is still upset with him. He then proclaimed that they couldn't do anything about it since the heir of this territory was him after all. Exactly, how could the person calling himself their heir of this territory do something so gruesome? Levick replied. Blaine then acts clueless, asking Levick what he means. He then smiles ironically and concludes that Levick is talking about drugs. Levick grits his teeth out of anger. Blaine then stated that the drug has been causing him and their father quite a headache these days, and they were relieved when they heard that Levick is in charge of the investigations related to the drug. They were expecting to trust it to Levick, so they were planning to leave it on his hands. Before he could complete his statement, they suddenly heard a loud noise coming from their back. They then looked around, wondering if there was someone who started a war. It turned out that Selene outside was using her sword technique and completely destroyed the gate for them to enter. Because of it, they all managed to enter. Grave and the others were shocked while Shin was so proud of his daughter. He even boasted it to everyone, but Grave said it isn't necessary to destroy the gate and the wall. Knights, Levick, and Blaine then headed outside. "What are you doing here?" Levick asked, and Blaine at the same time concluded that these intruders were from the Hero Academy's cadets. He then asked them if the destruction was their doing. Selene was smiling, informing Levick that they had come to help him. Silber then reminded Selene that they were more like intruders right now for destroying the gate. Both of them flustered when Levick told them to shut. "This is our mission. It's against the Academy's rules to interfere with another team's mission," Levick stated. Chloe then told him that it isn't a real rule but is more like etiquette. Silber then also said that it is because the interfering team could influence the evaluation. Shan then told Levick that he should have done better, but then Levick was annoyed with them. He pointed at them, claiming that interfering his mission might cause problems later on. He told them to retreat as soon as possible so he would make it slide this time. Selene then told them that a hero shouldn't tolerate injustice. "Injustice is happening here, right? We've come to stop it as heroes," she added. Silber then agrees and deduces is also trying to stop the drug called testamine from spreading. Levick looked a little at his brother and saw him smiling. He then told Silber that what he said was right. However, this mission had been assigned to his team and they didn't have the right to interfere. At this time, Blaine approached Selene, believing that Selene was a friend of Levick from the academy. "I would greeted you more warmly had we met under different circumstances. You look quite cute close up," Blaine said. He moved his head closer to Selene, causing Shin to be mad at him. "Your arrival to our territory seems a bit excessive, don't you think?" Blaine added. "Who are you?" Selene asked. Blaine then introduced his name and Selene heard Blouse instead of Blaine. Silber then whispered to her, informing her that the man in front of her was Levick's older brother and Duke Anna's successor, Blaine de Annie's. "Ah, Bugain," Selene asked, and Silber then corrected her again. But still, Selene calls Blaine a bug and introduces her name to him. The knights were laughing at how Selene calls Blaine as bug. Blaine was annoyed at Selene, saying that Selene is a rude friend of Levick and doesn't have any manners at all. "To think that our precious youngest is going to the same academy as that kid," he uttered. "I'm not a kid, thought. I'm Selene. You must be stupid," Selene said with both her hands on her waist. At this moment, Shan noticed something. She then approached Blaine by calling him Oi, and Chloe then asked her if she noticed something weird. Shan then proclaimed that the smell of testamine was coming from Blaine. "He smells exactly like the soldiers back at the shipwreck," she stated. Blaine was about to say something, but then he was cut off when Levick shouted, asking his co-students to stop. He was mad, which scared Silber. "Retreat. This is my mission," Levick said. With his behavior, Shin wanted to punish him again. Grave at the same time feels that he has been forgotten. Shan and Levick looked straight into each other's eyes. Levick then reminded her that this mission was given only to him, so Shan and the others don't have any right to interfere. Silber flustered when Levick looked at him. Selene then said it doesn't matter if the mission was given only to Levick. For her, this isn't about a mission since it is not the most important thing right now. It's unimportant. Then tell me, why do you come here? Levick asked, and Selene then replied that it was because they were heroes. Levick was annoyed while his brother Blaine was puzzled. Selene then repeated once again that a true hero doesn't tolerate injustice no matter the circumstances. Levick was upset with her reason. But then, Selene told him that this was the kind of hero they were trying to become. Someone then laughed. It is Blaine. Seriously, I can't tell whether you're naive or simply stupid. You really said doesn't tolerate injustice. What an old-fashioned mind you have. Blaine said. Selene then asked him what was funny. But Blaine continued to laugh and said that such bullshit comes out from Selene's pretty mouth with unmatched sincerity. He then becomes serious, telling Selene that being a hero isn't that simple. Selene then grabbed her sword, and Blaine still didn't stop blabbering. Well, you don't have TP understand what I mean by that, since I don't despise such romantic views either. Blaine added. He then concludes that these kids were after drugs. He then snapped his finger and his knights then surrounded the students. Blaine then told them that he didn't care if they were heroes. The more important fact is that you guys are inside the Anna's family's territory right now, he stated. The students then prepared to battle while asking Blaine what he was trying to do. Silver at the same time stares at Blaine and utters his name. Blaine then looked at him and said, "Long time no see, Silver de Jin. You pathetic child of a concubine." Silver was terrified and didn't dare to say such words. Blaine then added that Silver is still the son of a noble family but still dared to interfere with the business of another family. You do realize how foolish that is, right? So, I recommend to not resist in vain, kiddos. You guys are no match for the Anna's family's knights. Blaine added while summoning more knights. Chloe was annoyed upon seeing several knights start appearing. Selene at the same time stated that she really didn't like Blaine at all. Had you quietly continued your hero play, you wouldn't have forgotten in this unfortunate situation. I guess my dead brother would have somehow dealt with his mission on his own. Blaine stated. He hangs his arm on the shoulder of Levick and stares at Levick, claiming that Levick might be jealous of his. Then he proclaimed that Levick, with an amazing sense of familiar duty, should have waited quietly until they found the real culprit. Shin, Silver, Chloe, and Selene were shocked upon hearing it. They then asked Levick if what Blaine said was true, but Levick didn't respond. It's a lie, isn't it? How could you? Silver said. He then screamed, commanding Levick to say it wasn't true. He proclaimed that he didn't care if Levick wanted to be his friend or not. But the Levick he knew would have never done such a thing. Blaine suddenly laughed and asked Silver why he was yapping about such meaningless things. He then told Silver that he was just an abandoned bastard son. He asked Levick if he agreed, and Levick answered up, so Blaine thought that Levick agreed with him. I told you to shut up, you bug, Levick said. Blaine was smiling, ordering Levick to repeat what he said. Levick then bravely told him that he had the same thoughts as him. However, now that he thinks about it, he realizes it's really disgusting. He held Blaine's cloth and said, even more than that lowly commoner, or that bastard son, that face of someone with no shame. Blaine was shocked by the sudden behavior of his brother Levick. How dare you bare your teeth at me, Levick? You'll regret this, he said. Levick was calm and replied, I already did just now. Blaine then chuckled, and this time, two knights appeared and blocked Levick from touching Blaine. Geez, why are you trying to make things more difficult than they are? Who would have thought that my dear brother would make such a foolish decision? Blaine said. He then added that there's nothing they can do now, that a lot of unexpected accidents happen on this continent after all, especially for heroes with a 30% death rate. He smiled ironically and concluded that it wouldn't be suspicious if the son of a duke happened to be among those third perfect. So you've finally taken off your mask, you bug, Levick said. Blaine then touched his jaw and said, No, my dear brother, that's not it. This is just the punishment you should receive for envying your generous brother. This loving brother of yours really wants to forgive you. But the fateful swing of a sword has caused such a tragedy. Shockingly, blood splattered, causing Selene and Silver dumbfounded. Blood dripped on the ground, and it turned out that it came from Levick since his brother slightly slashed him. Have you finally come to your senses? Then I'll leave you alive. I'll even help you continue your hero play, Blaine stated. Levick then pointed his sword to his brother Blaine, and Levick admitted that he was just thinking of how pathetic he must have looked to the others seeing Blaine. Blaine then smirked, believing that Levick spent too much time with such lowly beings. Levick then said that he didn't have any choice since there was nothing he could do about it. Blaine then bids goodbye to Levick, but the moment he is about to eliminate Levick, chains wrap his legs, causing him not to move. The chains were invincible, and it also wrapped the bodies of the Knights of Blaine. They all cannot move, and Levick thought that this was just another trick of Blaine to deceive him. Nord and Marco were dumbfounded. Selene at the same time thought that Blaine and the others were playing freeze tag. But then, Silver disagrees with her while Shan concludes that the trick seems to be some kind of curse. Chloe was also clueless, but she saw this as their chance and catch the bad guys instead. Levick tries to stop them, claiming that it is his responsibility, but Selene won't listen, saying that it's also her job as a hero. In a short span of time, they manage to tie Blaine and his knights. "Don't expect me to thank you. This was our mission after all," Levick said. "I won't. It's enough for me if they receive a fitting punishment for their deeds," Selene replied. Levick looked slightly at Silver, telling him not to misunderstand things. "Just because they completed a mission together doesn't mean that we'll ever be friends again," he added. Silver answered yes, but he was smiling since being together in the same mission with Levick is such a joy for him. "However, that foolish determination of yours, I'll respect it," Levick said to Silver. Silver then smiled and Selene was happy for them both. They then continue to walk to continue with the mission, and when they're far, Grave then looks at Shin with anger, then says, "Didn't you say you won't step forward, Demon King?" Shin was guilty, so he acted like he didn't hear anything and just whistled while looking away. Grave was just mad by the fact that Shin would get caught if he kept involving himself. Shin cannot hold himself and tells Grave that Blaine is threatening his daughter Selene. But it's not like he'll ever listen to the words of a mere human, Grave uttered. He becomes serious and looks back to Shin, asking him what he did to his daughter. Shin didn't respond for a moment and just stared at Grave. They brought Blaine inside the interrogation room and tied him with a rope. In front of him is a table with tools that can be used against him. Blaine looked so weak and tired. "Are you finally willing to talk, Blaine Daenerys?" Levick said and smashed the table with his palm. "Any words I say will only be for our family, unlike you, Levick," Blaine replied and smirked. Behind Levick was Mused. Mused crossed his arms while staring at Blaine, who stated that Levick had become a dog of the Heroes Association after spending time in the Hero Academy. "You will soon learn what a foolish decision it was to go against your own family. Do you really think the elders of our family will let you off?" Blaine added. Levick stares at his brother with anger. He then told Blaine that he didn't have the intention of letting him out even if their family elders wouldn't let him off. "For the sake of everyone in our family, trash like you should be kept behind bars," Levick added, which angered Blaine. Levick then dropped the pouch of testamine on the table and angrily asked Blaine where he got this drug from. Levick wants to know who exactly provides the drugs and how they get into the hands of his brother. But then, Blaine was shocked and told Levick that he had never seen nor laid hands on these drugs. The only thing he knows is that it was hidden as cargo on the Anna's family's ship. He teasingly smiled and concluded that there was someone who had intentionally placed the drug on their ship to frame the Anna's family. He believes that someone is the one who placed second in the succession line because he was not born the eldest son, and that person is none other than Levick. "For someone who supposedly has never seen nor laid hands on this drug, you show too many signs of drug abuse. How are you going to explain that?" Levick replied, which flustered Blaine. Blaine then smiled ironically again and responded that he could say that someone forced him to take the drug. "Sice, there are a lot of foxes here that are rather jealous of our family's rising prestige and fame. It's not unlikely for that to happen. Isn't that right, Mr. Hero?" Blaine added, and while uttering Mr. Hero, he looked at Mused. "I have no clue what you're talking about, but I've finally realized what a pesky bug you are. I know now that you'll never talk no matter how many times we interrogate you," Mused said. Blaine was listening to each of his words but was smiling teasingly toward him. Mused continued to speak, saying that he would consider this as loyalty to his family, and most importantly, he believes Blaine is incredibly stupid to not understand the situation he is currently in. Mused then turns around to walk away while commanding Levick to show Blaine the kind of situation he is in right now. "What is that geezer talking about?" Blaine asked. Levick then replied that it meant to say Blaine has nowhere to escape. Blaine then laughed as he thought Levick was just bluffing. He then reminded Levick that he had said many times that the elders of their family would never forgive him for this. Levick then pointed his finger at the testamine and said that it's a drug rarely seen in the Lautine or Shellos kingdoms. The power is made by grinding flowers of plants that only grow in tropical rainforests, and those flowers have an intense red color. Blaine was still laughing again, questioning Levick why he was suddenly giving him a biological lecture. Levick then replied that the point he's trying to make is that it's a special plant, a special flower that only grows in special areas. In other words, the source of these flowers is rather easy to predict. Furthermore, there aren't many merchant ships that visit these special places regularly. Since the source of locations is somewhat predictable, and there are only a limited number of people that frequent these places, it's only a matter of time before the truth comes out. And Levick believes it's all over once they find a witness. So what? Are you trying to say I should turn myself in before it's too late since the truth will be revealed soon enough? Blaine replied. He laughed so loud believing that his brother was bluffing. But then Levick told him it was the opposite. He then showed the news about Blaine, who was caught smuggling substances without the family's knowledge, admits to committing the crime alone. Blaine was holding the paper and Levick told him that those elders he trusted so much are the ones who got cold feet. Blaine stared for a long to the paper he was holding. His hand was trembling and he was in disbelief. The elder of our family sold you out, Blaine. Just like a lizard cuts off its own tail. Do you realize the situation you're in now? Levick stated. Blaine trembles. He didn't want to believe what his brother said and he told himself that the news was fake. He screamed in anger, telling Levick that the elders wouldn't abandon him since he had devoted himself to them and given all of his loyalty. Levick then told him that loyalty is not reciprocated sometimes. With a blank reaction, Blaine accused Levick of setting him up. He burst out in anger, screaming that Levick planned this trap in order to drag him down from his spot out of jealousy. He was sure that their family wouldn't abandon him without any reason. He pointed his index finger at Levick, accusing Levick of setting him up. He screamed that because of Levick's selfish desires, their family's honor had hit rock bottom. Levick becomes serious. He told Blaine not to be mistaken. He dropped the petals at the head of Blaine while saying that the one who tarnished their family's honor wasn't him, but Blaine. And now, he was here to make up for the honor that Blaine had dirtied. Blaine was loyal to their family for the rewards in his status, but Levick was different. For him, his family was a source of pride, a mission given to him by the heavens. But now, he knew it had become a yoke. Still, he will never turn his back on his family. He told his brother Blaine that nobles are nobles because they have to shoulder responsibilities as nobles. And he is willing to fulfill those responsibilities. From this moment on, he will root out bugs like Blaine from their family and return the fallen crest of the Annis family back to its rightful place. He then looked back to the testimony and asked Blaine once again where and who he got these from. Blaine was looking down and still hesitant to tell the truth. Levick then said that since it seems like Blaine still doesn't fully grasp the situation he's in, he wanted to tell one more fact. According to him, they analyzed the ingredients of the testamine a while ago, and it turns out it has a slightly different composition than regular testamine pills. Do you know what the difference is? He asked, and his brother Blaine replied, you mean the drug's ingredients? I don't know about that. My job was to simply retrieve the drug. He was shocked the moment he realized it. At this moment, Levick confirmed that it was certain his brother Blaine brought the drug to their place. But since it looks like Blaine has no idea what exactly he brought, he decides to tell him. According to him, there is a magic stone in the drugs. Blaine then asked him why it would be in the drugs, and Levick replied that he assumed it was to significantly increase the effects of the testamine. But for now, it isn't important. The main problem is that this exact magic stone power was used by those who recently attacked Arca, the city of heroes. As expected, Blaine got more shocked. As per Levick, the Annis family could be accused of treason because of Blaine bringing the drugs into their kingdom. He told Blaine that saying he don't know anything won't solve the problem. Not just him, but the survival of their entire Annis family is at stake. Think about it again carefully and answer my question. Who did you get the drug from? Levick asked. Blaine stuttered while mentioning a name. He cannot continue it, but Levick was patiently waiting. Blaine then finally said that he got the drugs from the Demon King spirit, and Levick was out of words upon hearing it. The next day, Lewin was inside his quarter sipping tea. He was holding a paper and said that the Annis family cut off their tail, and were not incompetent. And for him, they were so unlucky this time. The paper he was holding was news about Blaine de Annis admitting his crime. Lewin then said that if the people blamed it all on the stupid eldest son of Annis, then he could say that they handled it well. While it's unfortunate that the supply of testamine will be cut off for the time being, it won't be that big of a problem as long as we find a new smuggling route. Most importantly, the growing number of disruptors is quite annoying, Lewin stated, and besides the news about Blaine, he also got news about Selene's father, who was a hero back then. At the same time in the heavenly realm, Archangel Lu gathered all the gods and goddesses because of Belpig or BBRCOs, the demon king who is currently roaming the human world. The goddess with the yellow hair then asked what was about the demon king. The lady with her then added that there is no war in the human world and is nothing unusual. She also heard that the current demon king has been in seclusion in his castle these days. A lady with straight yellow hair then stated that the demon punk had been acting pretty stupid lately as he prayed to goddess Irene not so long ago. The lady beside her then wondered if that king wanted to be purified. Archangel Lu then commanded them to listen to him for a moment. According to him, it was true that the Demon King has stopped waging war against humans, but he believes it's not like he's completely holed up in his castle doing nothing either. He told everyone that they couldn't just overlook the fact that the Demon King was traveling with humans. The god and goddess were shocked and speechless to know that Shin was working with humans. Archangel then said that it doesn't look like Shin has done anything yet, and he cannot deny the fact that Shin is still the Demon King. They can't just also let Shin wander outside his territory. The god and goddess agreed with him and concluded that Shin must have some ulterior motives. They also deduced that Shin prayed to Irene in order to deceive them. Archangel Lu suggested that they should approach the Demon King secretly to find out his true intentions. But unfortunately, if a celestial figure hastily approaches the Demon King, he believes they would get caught on time. The god and goddess then discussed what they should do, and there was one suggested that they should assign a human. But as per Archangel Lu, this job cannot be left to a human since humans won't be able to stay calm in front of the Demon King. And if the assigned human finds out the person in front of them is the Demon King, Archangel Lu believes they would get scared and mess things up. For him, this issue should be handled by someone who can maintain their composure in front of the Demon King and also make him lower his guard. Is there a god like that? The goddess asked, and they looked at Archangel Lu when he said they needed someone who was a god but didn't look like one. At this moment of their discussion, there was one goddess who was peacefully sleeping. But then, she suddenly heard a noise causing her to wake up. But as he looked at everyone, she was confused as to why everyone was looking straight at her. She then asked everyone why they were staring at her, and she honestly said that it made her uncomfortable. She's Goddess Cahal, a new goddess who recently ascended to the heaven realm. Is there anything I can do for you? She asked. The discussion then continued inside the palace, and as per Archangel Lu, Cahal is the youngest who recently ascended to the heavenly realm and hasn't yet been imbued by the energy of gods, so he believes she's eligible. However, there are some who are hesitant. Cahal cleared the dirt inside his nose, and since she didn't get any answer yet, she asked the same question. Back in the Anna's kingdom, Grave and Shin were talking privately. Shin was annoyed since Grave made it sound like he did something bad to his daughter. Grave then said that it wasn't what he meant. As per Grave, he felt something that has been off about Selene for a while now. A strange thought occurred to him, and he wondered if Selene was hiding some kind of secret. He noticed Selene's super strength despite her small figure that leaves him surprised, and her sheer will to become a hero more than anyone else. Even though she might seem foolish and thoughtless most times, her sense of justice is so solid in intense moments that it even shocks Grave. Selene seems like she isn't an ordinary kid, especially her super strength. Well, my Selene is quiet, never mind. Anyways, what exactly are you trying to say? Shin stated. Grave then said that there are only two things he can think of in this situation. It's either she was educated in a special way or the blood she inherited is unique. Shin was shocked upon hearing it. Grave then questioned Shin as to who are the parents of Selene if he knew them. Who are her parents, you ask? What kind of question is that, you fool? Of course, and my daughter's father, Shin confidently replied, which made Grave regret asking. Shin then said that there is something they both need to do from now on. Grave then asked what it was. Shin ironically smiled. His eyes flame and sparkle while staring at Grave. Grave was annoyed, wondering what Shin wanted to do this time. Shin then grabbed a kitchen knife and wore an apron. He then runs informing Grave that they should both prepare a dinner for his daughter who worked so hard. And for him, the meal would be his reward to Selene for hard work. He then rushed to get some ingredients, and he ordered Grave to follow him to catch something big. Grave wanted to stop Shin, saying that there was nothing they could catch around. But then, Shin didn't think of coming back. At the same time, Selene and the others went to the beach. Chloe was weaning her perfect two-piece. She was looking at the sun and looked back at Selene together with Shan. Selene was near the water. She was calling Silber, telling him that the water was very clear. Silber agreed with Selene, but then he was just sitting on the sand. Chloe then approached him and asked him if he was still worried about Lebec. Silber was smiling and answered yes. He was worried since they didn't have the chance of coming back here to the sea with Lebec, and he was a bit disappointed. As per Silber, Lebec might be a bit harsh, but he believes Lebec has a strong sense of justice, so he'll deal with the issue thoroughly even if he has to reveal his family's corruption. But if that happens, the elders of the family might think poorly of Lebec. Then it would be difficult for him to come back to the sea. Selene then stood in front of Silber and told him not to worry. She promised to take care of everything if Silber's conclusion would happen. But then, Silber told her not to do anything since she might only make things worse. Selene then said, "What I'm trying to say is, put those worries aside, and let's have fun." That is right, Sil. Wasn't the mission resolved like Selene said? You can't enjoy your life if you keep worrying about what's going to happen in the future, Chloe added. Selene then genuinely smiled and gave thanks to his friends. Anyways, what are we going to do? Shan asked. Chloe then concludes that Shan wanted to ask how they were going to have fun. Shan then told him that she didn't know what to do since it was her first time at the beach. She asked them if they needed to just dive into the sea. Selene then held her shoulder and told her that there was only one thing to do at the beach. Silver believes that it was also Selene's first time on the beach. Selene then proclaimed that the thing they should do now is to hunt treasure. As she said it, her eyes were sparkling. But then, the three were confused. Selene then pulled Silver with him while Chloe waved at Silver and said that treasure hunting is a must when they're at the beast. She then also told Selene to have fun finding treasures with Silver. We'll look for them here, so you both should check the sea, Shan stated. Silver was screaming for help but no one wanted to save him either. Let's go, Sil. Treasures await us ahead, Selene said. And Silver replied, can't we just choose by doing eeny meeny this time? Then, Selene dives into the water together with Silver. Chloe and Shan were just watching them. Chloe then said that Selene was quite enthusiastic but for Shan, it was just a waste of stamina. Underwater, Selene was enjoying biting a seagrass. Silver was shocked and wanted to tell Selene that she couldn't just eat it. They also noticed a murderous aura but still continued playing in the water. They ride a boat but only Selene is the one enjoying it while Silver is vomiting as he feels dizzy. Meanwhile, the sunset appeared. Silver was so tired and invited Selene to go back to their quarter. Selene was disappointed since she hadn't found any treasure. Silver then told her that she probably wouldn't find the treasure she was looking for since ships don't pass by this place often. While they were talking, someone spying on them. It was Goddess Cahal. She was smiling while looking at them. The next day, the kids headed back to the ocean. But this time, they were together with Grave and Shin. Grave asked them if they were all ready and they confidently answered yes. As per Grave, Mused informed him early in the morning that Lebic handled the situation well. In other words, Selene and her companion's mission was accomplished. He then congratulated them on successfully completing their first mission. Selene and her companions were so happy to know it. Of course, Shin was also happy for his daughter and he proudly said Selene is his daughter. The kids congratulated each other, however, Grave informed them that they should now go back. Someone suddenly came and called their attention. The person wasn't familiar with Grave so he angrily asked her identity. You don't have to be so wary of me. I was just passing by and happened to have something that needs to be given to a hero named Selene. The lady replied. Grave was alarmed. He was wondering if this lady really knew who they were. At the same time, Selene was shocked when the lady handed an invitation letter only for her. The lady informed her that it was a wedding invitation letter. She stated that she was supposed to give it to someone who was invited to the wedding. Selene was holding the letter wondering where it came from. Then, as she opened it, she saw Ronia's name. She then told everyone about it and the three then immediately checked it with her. Ronia stated in the letter that she was writing it to share some good news with everyone who has built a relationship with the Raffels family so far. It turned out that Ronia de Raffels had met someone who shared the same views as her. She believes their feelings will last forever even though it hasn't been long since their relationship began. All the invited guests were asked to visit their Raffels family mansion as it would be grateful to her if they could give their blessings for her future. Selene is still holding the letter. After reading, they felt something weird was going on since the letter didn't sound like the Ronia they knew about. Then they asked the lady in masked if someone was impersonating Ronia. However, the lady didn't respond. She was just smiling. Something seems off about you. You expect us to believe all that when we don't even know who you are, Grave said angrily. The lady in the mask then told him not to be so cold toward her. Grave then said that all of them didn't know her name and her face was also covered so they didn't have a reason to believe that the Raffels family sent this lady. Well, you don't have to believe that, the lady replied, which annoyed Grave. The lady then stated that she wasn't sent by the Raffels family. Grave was confused and asked her what she meant to say. To be honest, that invitation is not for Miss Selene. That means you guys were not the ones invited to the wedding. At least not officially, the lady stated. Her statement only caused everyone confusion. Grave then told her that what she just said only sounded more suspicious. Silver behind him then said that he didn't know if they could trust the lady. But, by just looking at the letter's symbol, it was certain that it was sent from the Raffels family. Besides, no one should be able to imitate it since the symbol is sealed with magic. Selene suddenly screamed no. She believes that the letter wasn't sent by Ronia. Silver was worried. He asked Selene if she noticed something strange. Selene then said that the handwriting on the letter was too pretty. Silver was confused at first, however, Selene explained that she had seen Ronia writing back in the dormitory. Her handwriting looked very fierce, and now she concludes that it might be because she was quite angry at that time. Selene smells the letter and proclaims that the smell is strange, which is why she believes it wasn't from Ronia. Plus, the scent of the flowers does not match Ronia's taste, and she concludes it should smell more like sweet candy. What if she didn't write this herself? Shan asked, and Selene replied that it meant Ronia did not send the letter. However, Shan informed her that noble families usually do not write the letters themselves. Selene was puzzled upon hearing it. She was whining and still believed that the letter was really suspicious. Shan then checks the letter and realizes that Ronia's wedding is all of a sudden. Plus, the letter doesn't even say who Ronia was getting married to. In short, the other person wasn't mentioned. Silber agreed with Shan and he added that only Ronia's name was mentioned in the letter. He then concludes that Ronia might be engaged to Roman, as he really thought back then that both of them were getting married to each other. But then, as per Grave, if someone from the noble family marries a commoner, then they might have felt it burdensome to publicly reveal the person's name since it would affect the dignity of the family. Shan gave back the letter to Selene. Grave suddenly pulled the letter and added that the wedding should be held in secret if the groom would be Roman, so there should be no need to send a wedding invitation. For him, the intentions of the sender are clear. Silber agreed. He stated that by judging the quality of the writing and the format, this appears to be a letter announcing Ronia's marriage to society. However, if Ronia and Roman were to be married, he concludes that both wouldn't surely send such an invitation but instead inform them themselves. Chloe laughed, saying that there would be no need to be so formal. Moreover, it states that it was stated in the letter that it hasn't been long since Ronia and the man she loved met each other. So if Ronia was talking about Roman, then Chloe concludes she wouldn't have written that. So, is she getting married to someone else? Selene asked with annoyance. Silber then replied she might be, but he was wondering who would be since there was no name on the letter. Maybe she couldn't do so, Shan said, and Chloe then asked her what she meant to say. Shan then said that there is a possibility that Ronia's partner is a high-ranking noble or someone from the royal family. Silber then smiled and punched his own hand. He then said that if Ronia's partner is someone almost everyone knows and can recognize, she might not have revealed his identity. Chloe then said that if that's the case, the marriage can be announced publicly even if Ronia doesn't want to reveal her soon-to-be husband's name. And for her, it also means that the marriage is an arranged marriage. I can't let that happen. Roman will be so hurt. I am against the marriage, Selene stated angrily. Silber then asked her to calm down since nothing was certain yet. Chloe then told her that Ronia might also want the marriage to happen, and they can't be sure until they go see for themselves. Selene then told them that they must now go and see for themselves as soon as possible. Grave told her that it was not possible since they shouldn't waste their time on such personal issues. However, Shin behind him was flaming in anger, asking him why he dared to stop his daughter from going. In the end, Grave permitted Selene as he was afraid that Shin would punish him. Shin doesn't have an interest in attending things like human events, but he doesn't mind if it is somewhere his daughter wants to go. Moreover, the unknown lady who gave the letter seems to be getting his nerves. Why are you staring at me so fiercely? Do I have something on my face? Or do you want me to sing for you? The lady asked, which angered Shin more. Before they could leave, Grave told them that he should first inform the academy that their next destination was the Rafel's family estate. Selene and the others then gave thanks to him. This is the first and last time. Next time, you won't be able to arbitrarily change your schedule, Grave said. And as usual, Shin disagreed with him, so he said he would think about it first. Shin at this moment told himself that nothing much had come to his mind, so he believed their destination now would surely be alright. He looked at the tree nearby as he heard the squeaking of the rat. This rat was bothering him, and he decided to observe the situation for a while. He concludes that it would be a nuisance if he tried to catch the rat right now and would only escape. It seems like you guys have made up your mind, so please, if it's alright, could I tag along with you guys? The lady suddenly said. Everyone was confused and asked her why she wanna come along. The lady then claimed that she knew where Ronia was. Sis, do you and Ronia know each other? Did Ronia give this letter to you? Selene asked, but the lady was out of words for a moment. After a few seconds, she stated that she could take them to where Ronia was since she knew a shortcut. For everyone, the lady was suspicious, but then Selene got excited upon hearing that there was a shortcut. The lady removed her mask and it turned out it was Cahal. Do I seem trustworthy now that I've revealed my name and face? She asked, but then Grave replied no. Meanwhile, they arrived at Rafel's territory in the magicanical city of magic. As they were walking on the street, Selene was so impressed with the hometown of Ronia since she saw a lot of cool things around. Cahal agreed with her and told her that there were a lot of interesting magical objects in this city that she couldn't find anywhere else. At this time, Grave was annoyed wondering how they came to this place. At the same time, Silber noticed citizens talking about Selene, saying that Selene is a country bumpkin with a mannerless behavior on the street. He then immediately told Selene that people might think badly of her if she's too loud on the streets. He also reminded her that this place isn't some tourist destination, unlike Alero. Besides, they weren't here for sightseeing. Right, let's quickly go and visit Roni. But where do we have to go? Selene asked. Silber then pointed to the building nearby and said that it should be the building of the residence of the lord of this city. Alright, let's go. I have to check for myself what in the world is going on, Selene said with a clenched fist. However, guards blocked them at the gate and warned them not to enter. Selene was annoyed and told the guards that they were invited by Roni. But then, the guards said they didn't know someone with the name Roni. Silber then interfered. He showed the invitation letter to the guards and informed them that they came here with an invitation from Ronia de Raffels. One of the guards checked the letter and found out that the crest on the letter was certainly the Raffels family crest. Selene was smiling widely and asked the guard if they could now go inside. Still, the guard won't allow them. Selene was furious and asked them why. And according to the guards, Ronia is currently in an indefinite seclusion. Selene and the others were shocked and worried upon hearing it. A week ago, Cahal arrived at the heavenly realm with her diary written as the world's cutest youngest sister's adventure diary. Cahal's mission is to bring fun stories of adventurers to all travelers. She's thankful to all the travelers who listen to her stories with interest every time. When she received a mission, she informed the travelers about it. She proudly said that her heavenly seniors have given her a very important mission, which is the task of surveilling the Demon King, who is said to be plotting terrible things against humans. Apparently, she figured out that the demon who is threatening their cute subordinates, the humans, is Shun, a very terrifying monster. A bloodless demon who sheds tears. Just by spying on him, she could say that Shin is a huge piece of trash. She was so happy that she was entrusted with the important task of surveilling Shin. She's still a beginner-level goddess who hasn't even been in heaven for 200 years. The day her identity is revealed is the day she will turn to ash in the palm of Shin. She knows it was a horrible sight, which is why she doesn't want to imagine it. Cahal honestly doesn't want to go. But just because she's scared doesn't mean she can run away because she's just a low-level goddess. It was Archangel Lu, her senior, is the one who gave her the mission, so she have no other choice but to do so. Cahal Tababido, goddess of safe travels and entertainment. We have come to the conclusion that you are the right person for the job considering all circumstances and conditions. Unfortunately for you, there is only one person in heaven who can get close to the Demon King and figure out his intentions without gaining suspicion, Archangel Lu stated. The moment he was saying that, Cahal was nervous. Archangel Lu added that they couldn't avoid it forever despite knowing it was dangerous. Cahal then asked why she was the one who couldn't avoid it. Archangel Lu then replied that even if death is fated upon them as eternal beings, they decided that this was something they had to do in order to protect the peace of the world. However, Cahal concludes that Archangel Lu and the goddess were sacrificing her. Archangel Lu then said it was an order. Cahal insisted on hearing her opinion, but Archangel Lu got annoyed at her for saying so much instead of heading down to the human world immediately. Archangel Lu told her to go down and uncover the true plans of the Demon King, who may be plotting some great evil scheme. Are you even listening to me? You aren't ignoring me on purpose, right? Cahal said. In the end, she doesn't have a choice. Everyone said goodbye to her and wished her not to die and return as soon as possible. Cahal is an absolutely low-level god, the lower end of the heavenly food chain, the one who has to carry out even the most absurd orders, which is why she doesn't have a chance to refuse the order. In the end, heaven is just a society too, and with all the hopes of her senior and a big lump of responsibility on her shoulder, she heads down the stairs of heaven. Basically, it could be said that she was forced to down in the human world. Besides, gods are also just humans, so in order to protect all of them, she accepted that she would put her life on the line to uncover the dark plans of the Demon King. As she was heading to the human world, she was playing an instrument while singing that she wanted to quit and wouldn't care about whatever happened to the world. However, when she came down from the human world, she faced a very serious problem. She was walking on the street and there was a child saying that her clothes were weird. His mother shushed him and told him not to say such things out loud and to avoid talking to strange people. Well, that is not the problem of Cahal. Her problem is that she doesn't know how she could approach the Demon King in a non-suspicious way. She was thinking smartly until she immediately came up with a genius plan. She approached the kid who dared to talk bad about her. She gave him a candy and the child was tempted. However, the mother interfered by pushing away Cahal's hand and told her not to give her child weird things to eat. She then remembered that the Demon King has a human child he treats like his own daughter. By that, she concludes that she can naturally keep an eye on the Demon King once she gets close to his daughter. She then set off to the academy with high hopes. However, her hopes disappeared when he reached the academy and figured out that the academy was already torn down into pieces. Her plan had failed from the very beginning. She then sang that nothing works out in this world. After just an hour, she told herself that she shouldn't lose heart. Even though her brilliant plan failed before it could start, she thought that she was already headed on a good path. She was still at the academy telling herself not to give up easily. The construction guy was annoyed at her and told her that she was getting in the way of their cleanup work. Cahal ignored the guy as she thought that the Demon King's daughter had friends as well. That time, she decided to give one of Selene's friends a visit. And so, she came up with her next plan right away. While heading her way, the construction guy chased her to inform her that she left her trash behind. Then, she arrived at a palace and met the adorable mage, Ronia. Who are you? I've never seen you before, Ronia said with annoyance. My name is Cahal, Miss Adorable Mage, Cahal replied. However, Ronia doesn't want to be called as adorable. Since Cahal found one of Selene's friends, she then asked about Selene's whereabouts. Ronia then told her that Selene was probably in the middle of a mission from the Heroes Association. Do you happen to know where exactly Miss Selene is right now? Cahal asked once more. Ronia was annoyed and asked her why she was asking her. Cahal then said she heard that Ronia is one of Selene's closest friends. Ronia crossed her arms and walked away saying that Cahal was spitting nonsense. Cahal then added that she heard Selene and Ronia got along well back at the Hero Academy. She calls Ronia a hero, and upon hearing it, Ronia becomes silent. But then, after a few seconds, she continued to walk and said that a hero means nothing to her now since she's not a hero anymore. Cahal was dumbfounded. It was an unexpected situation to think that the goddess of travel would be so unlucky. She was flustered the moment she heard Ronia stating that she was going to get married and wouldn't be able to continue her work as a hero. Before Cahal had the time to declare the failure of her second plan, she happened to see Ronia's face. She was sure that Ronia was definitely smiling while crying. She concludes that it may be because she was happy about her marriage. Whatever the reason, as the goddess of travelers, she couldn't let Ronia go with the expression because she's kind. Besides, it was her job to erase people's sorrows. She ran toward Ronia and asked her to invite her to the upcoming wedding. Ronia was shocked and asked her why. Cahal then said that she has a talent for entertaining people and she wants to lighten the mood for the more distinguished guests. And, as surprising as it may seem, Ronia invited her to the wedding without much convincing needed on the spot. Finally, luck has shown itself to her. That is how, under the pretext of delivering a wedding invitation from a friend of Selene's, she succeeded in approaching the Demon King. However, she never thought that she would be mesmerized just by staring at Selene's face. For her, Selene was a child too good to give to the Demon King. Cahal Tababito, the one responsible for the safety and happiness of travelers, have a feeling that she won't be able to leave Selene. She gained Selene's favor, but as a father, Shin was jealous and plans on killing her. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you wish to have another part of this recap, please give us at least 2,000 likes. Please don't forget to comment and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Until next time.